The story begins with the princess of the kingdom trapped in a cave tied up in countless chains. Outside, the place was littered with the bodies of fallen heroes sent by the kingdom to rescue her, but not a single one even made it past the entrance. When all hope seemed lost, something unexpected happened. The massive dragon suddenly collapsed in front of her, and when she looked up to see who brought it down, she saw a figure hovering in the air. That guy. Yeah, that's our main protagonist, and the same dragon that wiped out entire armies like it was nothing. He was overpowering it solo like it was just another Tuesday. Wasting no time, the hero activated a magic circle and launched a barrage of ice shards toward the massive beast, managing to trap the creature in a block of jagged frost. Meanwhile, the princess, watching everything from a distance, was stunned. This man had taken down a monster that armies couldn't even scratch, and on top of that, he was stupidly handsome. But shaking off those thoughts, she cleared her head and called out to her so-called savior. The man turned toward her as she thanked him for saving her from the monster. Then, with shaky but tempting legs, she stepped forward and offered to repay him with what she claimed was the highest honor a knight could receive. And that honor? Yeah, to kiss the toes of the princess and marry her. But the hero straight up refused. Didn't even flinch. He just said, "I have no stomach for soiled white silk with holes in it." The princess froze. She had no idea how she was supposed to respond to that, so she asked if he wasn't here to rescue her. But the man just turned away like this whole thing was some side quest he never even asked for. Then he explained that he didn't come to this cave to rescue her. The real reason he came here was actually for that dragon. That one line shattered whatever fantasy she had built in her head. Even the dragon starts blushing hearing his words. But in the very next second, the hero started charging up his ultimate attack, ready to slay the dragon. And then bam, his teacher appeared out of nowhere and smacked him so hard his face got buried into the screen. Next thing he knew, there was a blinding light shooting out of the monitor, and just like that, he found himself back in the game. But this time, not as a player. He was the hero. Before he could even process what the hell was happening, he started losing control over his body and started plummeting straight down, right toward the dragon's massive open mouth. Except instead of getting swallowed whole, the two of them somehow ended up kissing. Yeah, that happened. Meanwhile, his sword flew out of his hand, landed across the cave, and somehow sliced clean through the chains binding the princess. She dropped face first to the ground, but lucky for her, she had her fun bags to cushion the fall. Getting up, she tried to thank the hero, but the sight in front of her made her freeze in pure shock. She stared at him, eyes twitching. "Wait, is this what you meant when you said you came for the dragon?" The poor guy, still unable to move, tried to explain himself, but it was no use. It was already too late. As the girl apologized for trying to hit on him earlier and started bailing from the cave with his sword, by then the dragon was also back to its feet and it did not look happy with our boy. Before the hero could even react, the beast lit him up with a massive fire breath. With that, the hero loses all strength in his body and falls flat on his back. Seeing the towering beast ready to make a quick snack out of him, the hero realizes this was his end. But instead of the sharp teeth of a dragon, he felt a gentle tap on his face. Looking up, he saw a healthy-looking girl standing in front of him instead of the dragon, who did not seem happy. Apparently, he had stolen her first kiss, and thanks to that, she'd been forcefully transformed into a human girl. Meanwhile, our boy was just sitting there, watching her panic over her newly acquired heavy chest, and for some reason, he started fantasizing. Drooling like an idiot, he couldn't help but think how adorable she looked flailing around like that. But the dragon girl caught him making that stupid face, and before he could realize what was happening, whack, she smacked him right in the face with her tail. Thinking he was making fun of her, she kept hitting him. The poor guy tried to explain himself, but it was useless. She was on full rage mode. Finally, fed up, the hero snapped and grabbed her tail mid-swing. Big mistake. The dragon girl suddenly let out a weird moan, and her legs gave out beneath her. She dropped to the ground. The hero blinked, confused. What the hell? All he did was grab her tail. Still on the floor, red-faced and trembling, she pointed at him with a shaky hand, calling him despicable for doing something so vile to a girl. Then she pointed at her tail, telling him the thing he was holding was her weak spot. The moment those words left her mouth, something lit up inside him. He looked down at the tail still in his hands, and without thinking, started gently playing with it like the true degenerate he was. The poor girl kept begging him to stop, but the guy only got bolder, grinning like a lunatic as he kept playing with her tail like it was his new favorite toy. She squirmed and whimpered, face burning red, but he wasn't stopping anytime soon. Just as things were getting way too carried away, they heard the sound of footsteps approaching them. Seeing this, the hero realizes that these were the knights sent by the kingdom to slay the dragon. And if they saw that tail, it wouldn't take a genius to realize the cute, flustered girl lying there was actually the same dragon that turned a whole army into ash. He wondered what he should do, and with what few brain cells he had left rattling around in that fat head of his, he somehow managed to string together a plan. A terrible one, but a plan nonetheless. Without warning, he reached down and started tucking her tail into her shorts, trying to hide it before the knights arrived. No explanation, no permission, just a guy shoving a dragon girl's tail down her pants like that was normal behavior. Just as he was struggling to get it in, the cavalry arrived charging into the cave and immediately froze at the unspeakable scene in front of them. Every single knight stood there, stunned. Not a word, not a breath. Just pure, soul-crushing silence. Then, in the next second, their captain exploded. "What in the holy hell are you doing to the princess?" Turns out, they completely mistook the dragon girl for the actual princess. And from their point of view, it looked like some deranged lunatic had just wrestled the royal heir to the ground and started doing unspeakably weird things to her in the middle of a dragon's cave. But the hero explained they were misunderstanding the situation, though what really caught him off guard was the fact that these men had mistaken the dragon girl for the princess. Turns out, even they had no idea what the real princess actually looked like. Their leader admitted he'd only seen her once in his life, back when she was kidnapped by the evil dragon as a child. He bowed in front of her, saying she was even more beautiful than before, and the stupid girl actually started blushing from the compliment. Realizing they'd already wasted enough time, the captain told both of them they were here to escort them back to the castle. The funny part, they were calling our boy a prince now. Naturally, he asked what that was all about, and they explained that since he rescued the princess, the king would grant him any wish he desired. Hearing that, the hero started drooling at the possibilities. But before he could get too deep into Fantasyland, of course she opened her big mouth. The dragon girl puffed up her chest and declared, "I refuse to be called a princess. From this day forward, you shall address me as the Honorable Evil Dragon." Our boy immediately clamped a hand over her mouth before she could blow their cover. The knights looked confused, but sensing that this could turn into a problem fast, the hero quickly claimed the princess was just hungry and suggested they all head back to the castle ASAP. With that, all of them started walking out of the cave. But the only thing going through our boy's head was how the hell did he end up in this game world in the first place? But one thing was certain though, he needed to keep his identity hidden until he could figure out more about this place. Thinking that, he leaned in closer to the princess and whispered in her ear, reminding her she needed to cooperate with him from here on out. Before the girl could even answer, she flinched. Turns out he wasn't asking her, he was actually threatening the dragon, as he warned the girl that if she ever tried to disobey him, he'd mess with her tail until it went insane and send her straight to pleasure hell. With no other choice, the girl agreed to do as he said, but she swore she was going to make him pay for all of it. The story fast forwards to the capital city. Inside the castle, our boy and the dragon lady had finally arrived and were now enjoying a meal with the royal family. Seeing all the food laid out in front of her, the dragon lady was practically drooling. Meanwhile, the king couldn't hold in his tears because his baby girl was finally back home after 10 years. Man, how stupid do you have to be to not recognize your own daughter? At least the queen had a shred of common sense. She pointed out that their daughter was supposed to have black hair, not white. But the old man just waved it off, told her to quit spouting nonsense since this was a big day, and said she should stop obsessing over trivial details. Yep, this guy's a certified idiot. At the same table was Prince Lackey, the so-called younger brother of the princess, but this degenerate was practically drooling over the dragon girl, telling his mom that his sister must have been developing at a faster rate than expected, which is why she looks so different from before. Man, I really hope one of them is adopted. Turns out the queen's just as brain dead as the rest of them. Listening to their conversation, our boy couldn't help but wonder if this whole royal family just had a bunch of screws loose. But hey, at least these idiots hadn't realized the girl sitting next to them wasn't their daughter but a literal dragon. As all that drama was going down, a maid in a very questionable outfit approached the dragon girl, saying as a princess, she couldn't just munch down on chicken, she needed to use a knife and fork to cut and eat the meat properly. Yeah, good luck with that. The dragon lady couldn't care less. Without wasting a second, she grabbed the whole turkey and shoved it straight into her mouth like a barbarian, leaving the maid and everyone else completely stunned. The girl was in absolute heaven, savoring every bite of that juicy chicken. Everyone just stood there, speechless, watching her demolish the bird with the grace of a wild animal. Not a shred of meat was left, just bones. And when she was finally done, she let out a loud burp, belly full and satisfied. After witnessing everything, the whole family was surprised since they remembered their princess to be a slob. But the one in front of them didn't even spare her leftovers. But our girl actually looked proud of what she did. But before their conversation could continue, a loud blast shook the entire room as someone kicked the door open. Turning toward the one responsible, they heard the person claim that the one in front of them wasn't the real princess, but an imposter. Turns out it was the real princess herself, and she did not look happy seeing someone else impersonating her in front of the entire royal court. Seeing her standing in front of him, our boy realizes he was royally screwed, and just like that, the girl was on the table confronting the king for not being able to recognize his own daughter. Seeing that poor helpless girl from back in the cave acting in such a way, our boy honestly had no idea what to think anymore. But the one even more confused was the king, since now he had no idea what he should do with two princesses and wondered if he should draw straws to decide who to choose. Hearing his stupidity, the girl lashed out, calling him a lousy old man. And before he knew it, he, the king of an empire, was being yanked by the collar as the girl continued to hurl insults at him. Seeing how stupid her family was, the girl finally hit her limit. Without warning, she started screaming, hurling a string of insults at all of them loud enough to rattle the windows. Hearing those vulgar words fly out of her mouth, the entire royal family froze in shock. And for some reason, it was that moment when they finally realized the girl in front of them was actually their real daughter. Meanwhile, our boy stood there watching everything in silence, completely speechless. He had no idea what to make of what he just witnessed. But thinking fast, he decided to use the chaos as the perfect distraction to make his epic escape before the entire room turned their attention toward him. But before he could even take a step, a massive sword came flying straight toward him and bam, slammed right in front of his face. Turns out, the princess wasn't about to let him walk away after someone had the audacity to impersonate her. She demanded to know his identity, and just as he turned toward her, she recognized him instantly. Before he could explain a single word, she shouted across the hall, calling him the perverted knight who kissed the dragon back in the cave. But the reaction he got wasn't what he expected. Instead of outrage, the entire crowd stared at him in awe, actually thinking of him as a real Chad for packing enough heat to satisfy a dragon. But it didn't stop there. The princess went on, loudly describing exactly what she saw in that cave, how he passionately seduced the dragon and then casually abandoned her afterward like some kind of fantasy world playboy. She called him out for leaving that poor dragon for that piggish and unrefined princess imposter. Yeah, she is the one to talk, seeing how she wasn't even paying any attention to her. She snapped and shouted at the dragon girl to stop eating her food. Our boy tried to explain that this messy, piggish girl was actually the dragon from the cave, but it was already too late. The dragon girl let out a fiery burp right in the princess's face for daring to waste her food. Seeing her do that, our hero knew there was no saving him now. And just as he had feared, the girl snapped, called him a man slut, scumbag, bastard, and hurled all other kinds of unimaginable insults at him. And after she was out of insults, she turned to the guards, ordering them to strip him naked, since she wanted to parade him through the streets. Fearing for his life, he asked the princess why he was being punished, since he wasn't the one who burped on her face, and heard the dragon girl throwing all the blame on him since it was he who threatened her to act as a princess in the first place. As they were busy with their argument, one of the knights leaped into the air with his weapons and came straight towards him to finish him off. But luckily, our boy managed to get out of the way just in time and saw a cut on his chin and realized this man was actually intending to end him. And just like that, the rest of the guards started attacking him, and he barely managed to dodge. And before he knew it, he was surrounded from all sides with no way to run. With no way out, he decided to get serious, knowing full well if he didn't, he was going to end up in a puddle of his own blood. And just like that, his sword manifested in his hand. Crackling with lightning, it lit up the room as he pointed it forward, calling out every knight in the area. "Come at me." He swung the thing, and the energy from the blades surged like a storm, and every single knight froze, realizing this might be the end. Until, of course, the sword snapped clean in half, right in the middle of his dramatic pose. He just stood there staring at the two broken pieces in disbelief. Turns out, the game had bugged out, and it had picked the worst possible moment to do it. As he was going through that crisis, he saw some text appearing on his head and was shocked to see that the game just labeled him a disqualified player, and his face went pale at the sight. Seeing the sight, the princess couldn't hold in her laughter and immediately burst out laughing. Loud, obnoxious, can't-breathe kind of laughing. She pointed at him, tossing out insults like confetti. And just to rub salt in the wound, he spotted a new tag floating above her head. Righteous NPC. With that, she snatched the blade from a nearby knight's hand to finish him off herself. Seeing her approaching, our boy tried begging for her to stop, but the girl wasn't planning on listening, and she started swinging the blade wildly towards him. He barely managed to dodge but fell flat on his ass. Before he could even lift his head, bam, she stomped straight down on his family jewels and hard. He nearly blacked out. Tears welled up instantly from the sheer excruciating pain. But that was just the warm-up, because next thing he saw was her raising the sword, aiming to drive it right through him. But just then, something completely unexpected happens as she feels something massive coming towards her from the back. And before she could react, boom, she was seen getting launched through the air and buried into a nearby wall. Even our boy was shocked to see the sight, but the girl was tougher than she looked. She survived and was even conscious after taking that hit. Meanwhile, the dragon waifu had had enough of this drama and decided to end it all herself. Just then our boy, who had no idea what was going on, suddenly felt a hand landing on his head, and in the next second, he was in heaven. Turns out the girl wasn't happy seeing how the princess associated her with a lousy swine like him and clarified that he was nothing more than a long-term meal ticket delivered to her doorsteps. Seeing her do that, there were two reactions in the room. The first was the abnormal reaction from the royal family, who were freaking out seeing the sight, and the second was the normal reaction from the guards, who started scattering, realizing that the one standing in front of them was an evil dragon monster. With that, the scene cuts to another place, and of course there was a female panting for some reason. Turns out she was having a nightmare, and boom, she sprang up on the bed while gasping for air. This female right here is the saintess of this holy land, and her name is Cassiopeia. Hearing her voice, another person appears in the room to check up on her. Blondie recognized her as the countess of their holy land named Ulysses. Surprised, Cassiopeia asks what was she doing inside of her room while she was asleep, and heard the woman saying she needed to deliver some important news and was just waiting for her to wake up. And with that, she starts taking off her robe, telling Cassiopeia that this information concerns the dragon they had been trying to get their hands on. The poor girl got a bit scared seeing her undressed out of nowhere. Yeah, it seems like she has a thing for Cassiopeia. Fast forward to the next morning, and Cassiopeia was seen still peacefully sleeping in bed. Meanwhile, just outside her room, Elise was busy meeting up with one of her subordinates, and whoever this woman is, she wasn't happy with Elise. Turns out, Elise had sent her out to gather intel while she herself spent the night lounging around the castle, specifically in the queen's quarters. The subordinate in question was a cat girl named Logis, and she was officially done with being treated like Elise's personal errand girl. But Elise didn't care. She just smiled and shrugged it off, claiming it was her sacred duty to watch over Cassiopeia and make sure the saintess had a restful night. Then she threw in a cheeky, "What? Jealous?" Logis scoffed, denied it outright, but yeah, she was definitely jealous. Elise then asked for the intel she'd requested, but Logis refused, said she wasn't about to hand it over just like that. Not after all the crap she'd gone through. She wanted some actual respect, maybe a thank you, a little sincerity, and that was exactly what Elise had been waiting for. Before Logis could even process what was happening, Elise's hand was already sliding into her dress. Yeah, something seriously wrong with this woman. At first I thought she had a thing for Cassiopeia. Turns out, she just doesn't care. With that, she brought out a piece of paper that Logis was hiding between her fun bags of all places. Meanwhile, Logis, clearly not thrilled about how she'd just been groped like a snack, called Elise out on it, but the sly noblewoman just grinned and said, "Oh please, I know you've always wanted someone to give your meat bags a little attention." Moving on like nothing happened, Elise began scanning the document. It turned out to be a picture of that knight, the one who supposedly rejected the princess for a dragon. Gee, I wonder who that idiot could be, and who on earth even made this picture of his. After seeing that smug face of his, even Elise commented that he looks like a certified pervert. The scene shifts back to our certified pervert, who was practically drooling as he watched the glorious scene unfold in front of him. On the left was the beautiful dragon girl taking on the unhinged Yander princess of the empire, and our boy was enjoying every last second of it. With that, the dragon girl unleashes her most terrifying attack called Blaze Kitty, and a cat made out of fire manifests in front of her. Not giving the princess any time to react, she launches the attack towards her, and the only thing she manages to burn was her clothes. But even after getting attacked like that, the only thing the girl was angry about was the fact that she was acting like a cat. She reminds her she was a dragon, so she needed to stop selling that moe stuff. And just like that, the princess pulled a literal cannon out of thin air and started firing at the dragon girl. But the dragon girl managed to block the blast using her wings, barely flinching. Meanwhile, the guards were still standing around awkwardly, unsure if they were supposed to intervene or not. One of them, clearly the only one with a functioning brain, told the others to just stay back and let them duke it out. Back in the chaos, the princess was going full-on artillery mode, bombarding the dragon girl non-stop. But for some reason, the dragon girl didn't seem to mind. In fact, she looked kinda happy, and that just pissed the princess off even more. She doubled down, launching even fiercer attacks, practically foaming at the mouth from rage. Meanwhile, on the sidelines, our boy was having the time of his life. Two barely dressed women fighting in a cloud of gunpowder and shredded dignity? That's peak entertainment right there. But of course, the king and his son weren't about to let that slide. They caught him ogling the scene like it was premium pay-per-view and called him out, especially since one of the fighters was, the princess, aka the king's daughter. But our boy wasn't buying their outrage. He knew damn well those two were enjoying the view just as much as he was, so he called them out right back. Still, as he turned his attention back to the battlefield, reality started to settle in. If the dragon girl lost, he was screwed. The game would probably disqualify him again if he even thought about hurting an NPC. Meanwhile, that psycho princess could do whatever she wanted to him with no consequences. Yeah, this was going to be a problem. Thinking back to what happened in the cave, our boy started wondering if all this madness was because he kissed the dragon girl. Maybe going off script triggered some butterfly effect nonsense. Still, it was way better than marrying that sadistic princess like the original plot wanted. So yeah, no regrets there. By now, the dragon girl looked like she was at her limit, literally shaking, about to burst. She dropped to her knees and begged the princess to stop. Seeing her all helpless like that, yeah, our boy's imagination kicked into overdrive again. He couldn't help but notice that in terms of pure feminine charm, the dragon girl was on a whole different level compared to the princess. As he drifted off into daydreams and questionable thoughts, he suddenly noticed the girl calling out to him. He rushed over, concerned, and asked if she was okay. Before he could say another word, she grabbed him by the collar and yanked him close. With a trembling voice, she said she couldn't take it anymore, that she was at her limit, and this craving was going to make her sin. Naturally, our boy was confused and also very hopeful. What craving? He asked, cautiously optimistic. Her answer: she was craving more of the princess's attacks. Yeah, that killed the vibe instantly. He was furious. He'd been expecting something spicy, not masochism on hard mode. Before he could react, the dragon girl suddenly took off, saying she needed to go soak in some magma to calm down, and she told him to stall everyone until she got back. Seeing her leave, our boy started panicking. He knew if she left, he was done for, so he stopped her, reminding her he was still her long-term meal ticket. And as both of them turned to the princess, they noticed that she was pissed seeing how both of them were treating her. Not only they disrespected her attacks, but the dragon girl even had the audacity to just leave in the middle of their battle, like it meant nothing. With that, she brought out a massive cannonball. Even the cannon looked terrified. But turns out her real anger wasn't just about being ignored. No, this was payback for back in the cave. For them pretending to be a couple just to throw her off. For turning her down. For humiliating her. Our boy tried to explain that none of that was real, that it was all in her head. Didn't matter. She was already jamming that ridiculous cannonball into the poor trembling cannon, ready to vaporize them both out of sheer spite. And somehow, the cannon actually managed to fire the thing. The massive projectile hurtled toward them like a meteor, but weirdly, neither of them looked the least bit concerned. Just before impact, our boy raised his hand. A flash of lightning cracked through the sky and slammed into his arm, charging it with raw power. With that energy, he formed a glowing barrier in front of them, and his thunder powers activated once again just in time to meet the blast head-on. The cannonball slammed into the barrier with full force, but it didn't break through. Instead, it detonated with a thunderous blast that shook the entire place. Meanwhile, the princess, seeing how powerful the blast was, wondered if she managed to get them this time. But nope, there they were, alive and standing. And on top of that, our boy didn't even have a scratch on his body. Now that he knew he couldn't attack NPCs but could still defend against them, he realized something. He was basically untouchable. No one could lay a finger on him as long as he played it smart. So of course, he looked up at the sky and raised the most universal gesture known to man, the middle finger. Right at the game itself. A moment later, a blinding blue light appeared above them. And before either of them could understand the situation, lightning struck right in front of them. The thing completely destroyed the floor under their feet, and both of them started plummeting toward the ground. And the whole way, the dragon girl kept blaming our boy for everything. Well, I guess she wasn't wrong, since on the ceiling they saw a message from the game, who purposely did this to pay our boy back for his earlier insult. Reading the message, our boy was fuming, seeing how the game screwed him over once more. But it was no use anymore, since there was no saving him from this fall. So he just accepted his fate. But just then, he crashed on top of something scaly. Turned out it was the beautiful dragon lady who managed to transform back into her original form just in time and save both of them. But to make things clear, she told our boy she didn't intend on saving him, he just happened to land on her during her transformation. Meanwhile, the rest of the people were just as shocked as both of them and wondered if they were still alive. But as they got closer, all they saw was a flash of light appearing from the hole. With that, the dragon broke through the ceiling of the castle. Looking down, they saw the massive castle crumbling to the ground because of both of them. Meanwhile, the people on the ground watched both of them flee. So one of the guards asked the princess what they should do. Of course, she wasn't going to let them escape that easily, so she ordered all of them to follow after them. But by then, both of them had already flown a good distance away. Our hero finally let out a sigh of relief, muttering something about how lucky they were to escape that royal family of lunatics. He turned to the dragon girl, genuinely impressed, and praised her for thinking fast. Otherwise, if it weren't for her ability to fly, they both were done for. Instead of taking the compliment, the girl turned her head towards him in confusion with just one question. What was he talking about flying, since she hadn't been able to fly since she was a kid? He blinked. Then what the hell do you call this? Both of them froze. Then gravity remembered it existed. Next thing you know, they were plummeting straight toward the ground. Our boy realized he wasn't walking away from this one and started begging her to please keep flapping her wings. But it was no use. Next second, crash straight into a barn through the roof. Luckily, they landed on a soft pile of hay. Even luckier, he landed on something way softer. Namely, her. While our hero tried to process the fact that he wasn't dead, a few cows casually strolled over to see what the commotion was about. One baby cow looked at the dragon girl, tilted its head, and said, "Wow, hers are even bigger than mom's." Meanwhile, our boy, trying to process the situation, sat up and immediately got a nosebleed. The transformation ripped right through her outfit because there she was flat on her back, fully nude, hair tousled in the hay, looking like the cover of a forbidden fantasy novel. Panic mode activated. He sprang up and reached out to help her up from the hay, but the girl knew what this degenerate was trying to do, so she started screaming, calling for help. And someone actually heard her, as our hero hears a voice from the back calling for him. Turning toward the person, he hears them saying they have already put up a sign out there that they were closed. The voice belonged to a woman, a very interesting woman. And judging by the horns sticking out of her head, she wasn't exactly human either. She took one look at the woman with the kid and realized she wasn't any normal beast girl, after which she opened her mouth and told the two she's tasted the milk of every animal, including ferocious beasts like wolves, bears, and lions, but never that of a dragon woman. Our boy froze, not because of what she said, but because holy hell she was gorgeous. Drop-dead, soul-snatching, brain-melting gorgeous. And just like that, he was smitten, hopelessly, because apparently he had a thing for terrifying women with questionable intentions. With that, he wasted no time and apologized to the girl for dropping in like that, quite literally, but she was more interested in our dragon girl and asked how much he wanted for her, but our boy refused, explaining they were just travelers, so she wasn't for sale. But the next thing he saw was a cleaver flying past his face and landing on a wooden beam. Turns out the girl wasn't planning on taking no as an answer. She introduced herself as the strongest imperial merchant of the empire and asked if he was really going to refuse her. But our boy wasn't buying any of that nonsense. He pointed out that for someone claiming to be an elite merchant, she sure was living in a rundown cowshed. The girl snapped right back, pointing out how the only reason she was stuck in this rundown shed was because she missed this year's last commerce assessment since she ended up oversleeping that day. But if she hadn't, she was sure to pass. After all, her family has a 99% pass rate. And our boy, of course he wasn't about to let that golden setup slide. With the most innocent face he could fake, he asked if she was seriously admitting to being the one and only failure in her entire family, too lazy to even crawl out of bed for her exam. She flinched but didn't back down. Still dead set on buying the dragon girl, she pressed him again. By then, the dragon girl had finished getting dressed. Well, mostly. And the moment the merchant girl caught sight of her assets, she smirked like she'd just hit the jackpot. A high-quality, legendary dragon, fully grown and very well developed. In her twisted merchant brain, this wasn't just a rare creature. This was the ultimate milk-making machine waiting to be domesticated. The merchant girl actually started drooling, fully lost in her dairy-fueled fantasies. But before she could go full moo-muggle in her head, whack, a tail came out of nowhere and smacked her right across her prized meat bags. Turning around in shock, she saw the dragon girl glaring at her like she was seconds away from breathing actual fire. Clearly, she didn't appreciate being treated like livestock. But instead of fighting back, the merchant girl burst into tears like she was the victim here and asked the reason for hitting her since she never did anything to deserve a smack on her chest. Yeah, that didn't fly. The dragon girl was already done with her nonsense and started smacking her around even more furiously that an herbivore like her dared try to leverage her for milk profits. Meanwhile, our boy just stood there watching the chaos unfold in complete confusion, unsure if he should step in, but honestly, the view wasn't bad, so he let it happen. Meanwhile, our dragon girl was demanding that as compensation, she let her have a sip of her own milk. But before they could continue, they heard the sound of horses approaching outside the house, followed by someone calling out to the princess. Both of them rushed to the window and saw the princess along with her knights who were looking for both of them, and heard a man informing her that someone had been reported to have crashed near this area last night. Hearing that, the princess ordered all her men to look around the whole area and find both of them. Next panel, the old geezer holding up a picture of the two fugitives, our scantily clad dragon lady, and the absolutely useless-looking man, and was showing it to a baby calf, asking if it had seen anyone matching that description. The princess, understandably fed up, snapped at him, asking if he'd lost his damn mind. But then completely deadpan, she told him to ask the mother cow instead. You know, to spare the child from such trauma. At this point, I'm fully convinced the entire kingdom's population runs on brain cells they borrow and never return. Meanwhile, both of them stood by the window, silently watching the whole circus unfold. And seeing just how beautifully dumb the princess was, our hero couldn't hold back his emotions anymore. If this were a harem game, girls like her gorgeous design, zero brain cells would be spawning by the hundreds. By then, the cow lady had also approached both of them to see what was going on, and quickly realized someone from the royal family was visiting. She had no idea who the girl was, but one thing was certain, the girl was gorgeous. She was instantly charmed, but our boy knew her face and personality were totally different. Just like that, the girl started screaming, calling for her, saying the two fugitives she was looking for were in the barn. But before she could say anything else, she saw a tail appear beside her mouth, and boom, she was completely restrained by both of them. Next thing, Dragon Girl was pinching her horns for being a disobedient cow, and our boy, of course, was going for the weak spot, her tail. With that, the poor thing was completely at their mercy, and our boy was fully planning to punish her thoroughly for trying to snitch on them. Watching her moan like that, the dragon girl couldn't help but remember how he'd manhandled her the same way back in the cave, only this time he seemed even more intense. Meanwhile, our lucky fool was grinning, realizing that all the beast ladies seemed to have the same weak spot. While all that was happening, the dragon girl herself was getting those tingling feelings in her tummy just from watching the cowgirl. Out of nowhere, she let go of the woman's mouth, because for some reason her body was also starting to react after watching that lunatic manhandle that woman. Meanwhile, our boy, watching her react like that, realized he might have accidentally awakened some new kind of turn-on switch in her. But before he could check up on her, the cowgirl started screaming at him for doing such indecent things to her. Not that he cared. As far as he was concerned, it was payback for the stunt she tried to pull on them. Still, he was willing to be the bigger man, so he asked if she still planned to report them once they left. The cowgirl had no idea how to answer that. But guess what? It didn't matter. Our boy had no intention of letting her go anyway, since he wasn't about to risk getting snitched on. Hearing those words, the girl knew she was done for. She braced for the worst, but instead, the next second, she was in his arms. He was carrying her, telling her she was coming with them too, since she was way too dangerous to be left behind. But deep down, his intentions were far less noble. The real reason was that there was no way he was letting a gorgeous ebony gal like her slip out of his collection. Hearing him say that, the dragon girl didn't protest at all, she just nodded and agreed. And that genuinely surprised our hero. He never expected her to go along with him so easily, but still it was good he didn't have to argue with her, so he just started heading out. Meanwhile, the dragon girl watched with visible disgust. She knew full well he was going to pressure the cowgirl later using things like tail play. As they stepped out, they saw the streets swarming with guards. She turned to our hero and asked if he had a plan. He just shrugged and said they were heading into the forest for the time being. The cowgirl, meanwhile, was quietly surprised. He didn't kill her to keep her quiet, and for a moment she wondered if maybe he wasn't as bad a person as she'd originally thought. Fast forward, they were seen making their way deeper into the forest, and our boy started struggling since he was tired. Turns out this cowgirl was much heavier than he thought, and his back was starting to hurt carrying her around like this. That's when the dragon girl casually chimed in. Well, we haven't eaten in a while, maybe we should just gobble her up. She does have a lot of meat on her. Hearing her say that, the girl started screaming at both of them for calling her fat. The scene shifts back to the princess, who was still back in the village looking for them while enjoying a glass of milk. Frustrated, she slams the glass on the ground, since even after looking around the whole village, they weren't even able to find a single clue that might lead her to them. In her frustration, she started scolding her men for being so useless that they can't even track down two people despite being so many in number. Just then, the pervy prince arrives to check up on his sister, and seeing that she was still unable to find them, he offers his help. She didn't even blink before roasting him. Oh please, you're just a worthless pervert whose only skill is stuffing his head full of vile fantasies. You're not good for anything. The guy froze. He wanted to be mad, but he couldn't deny it. She was kinda right. Still, he forced a confident grin and said, "True, but when it comes to understanding women, there is no one better. Trust me, if anyone can find them, it's me." And just like that, the village's last hope was a guy who probably thought tracking meant stalking his exes. With that, he activated his ultimate women tracking technique, took a huge whiff of the area, and instantly creeped everyone out by saying he could smell the excessive flavor of female hormonal secretions lingering in the air. And with all the confidence of the world, he told the princess that the man she was looking for was with two women. He even claimed to know exactly where they went and told everyone to follow him into the forest. Seeing everything her brother had just done, the princess was completely creeped out, but she still decided to follow him, at least for now, since finding that man was far more important. With that, she started making her way toward the forest. Meanwhile, the creep of a brother couldn't help but check her out from behind, but before he could finish his disgusting train of thought, he was interrupted by the guards' concerns. They pointed out that their kingdom's borders lie in that forest depths, and the place was brimming with terrible monsters, and this was all he wanted. And with a grin on his face, he tells all of them not to worry about both of them and just stay back, since he was more than capable of taking care of himself and his sister. With that, he started walking away while being praised by the idiots for being so brave. Fast forward, the two were now deep in the forest, but still hadn't found a single clue that might lead them to the three fugitives. Even so, the princess wasn't planning on backing down, and neither was the creep behind her, who had no intention of letting her out of his sight. Meanwhile, somewhere else in the forest, the dragon girl was lying flat on the ground, completely exhausted and starving. Right next to her was our boy, looking just as half dead. To make things worse, the cowgirl had taken the chance to run off while they were both too drained to notice. Dragon Girl wasn't thrilled about that. In fact, she was pretty pissed considering the cowgirl could have made a decent emergency snack. But just as she was grumbling about it, she spotted her running back toward them, carrying a bunch of fruits she must have foraged from around the forest. Without saying a word, she plopped down and started munching an apple for herself, clearly prioritizing her own hunger. Only after she'd taken care of her stomach did she finally offer the leftovers to the other two. Dragon Girl wasn't having it. She scoffed at the fruit and flat out refused, making it crystal clear she only ate meat, not whatever scraps lowly creatures like her stuffed down their gullets. That got under the cowgirl's skin, obviously. While the poor girl stood there recovering from that verbal slap, our boy was way more focused on her twitching tail and wanted no part in their drama. But it didn't stop there. Things quickly escalated as the cowgirl snapped back, yelling at the dragon girl for looking down on food that someone else had actually worked hard to find. And if she was so picky, maybe she should get off her lazy, scaly butt and go find her own damn food. But the dragon girl wasn't having it. She crossed her arms and flatly demanded the cowgirl go back out and find her something better to eat. That cold, heartless response nearly brought the poor girl to tears. Trying to defend herself, she pointed to the nasty bruise on her leg, the one she got while searching around in the forest. As she was tending to her injury, the smell of her silky smooth leg reached the dragon girl's nose, and she instantly sprung up to take a bite out of such a delicious meat. But the cowgirl started screaming, trying to free herself from her clutches. Meanwhile, our boy, who had been quietly watching, finally snapped after seeing two baddies brawling like that. He jumped between them to break it up, shouting that if they were going to do anything, they should just do it to him instead, and of course they did. Boom! He got crushed between both their attacks, Next panel, he was lying on the ground, completely wrecked. The dragon girl wasn't impressed. She called him out for throwing himself into the fight just to avoid giving up the cowgirl. Clearly frustrated, she reminded him they'd known each other for a while now and been through a lot together, but he still took her side. Our boy instantly jumped to his feet like he was shot out of a cannon. He insisted she had it all wrong, saying he'd rather admire her. Hearing that, the dragon girl stepped in closer, eyes narrowing. "Oh yeah, then prove it," she said. "If it's really true, then you'll share some of that with me too, right?" Our boy had no idea what she was asking for. So he asked, "Share what, exactly?" And here's her saying, "Whatever you were about to do to that cowgirl, I want in. I'm starving and I can't hold back anymore." Our hero was practically overheating now. Whatever blood was left in his system rushed straight to the wrong place. Starving, dehydrated, half dead, but the man was ready to roll. And before he could even recover, the girl leaned in with those hungry eyes and asked him dead serious if he could share some of that meat with her too. Naturally, our hero agreed without a second thought. Her face lit up like he just offered her a buffet. Without wasting a breath, she grabbed one of her horns and snapped it off before our boy could even blink. She was already on top of the cowgirl, looking like she was about to go full predator mode. Meanwhile, our hero, still catching up to reality, blurted out, "Wait, what exactly are you trying to do to her?" And that's when it hit him like a freight train. She wasn't asking to join in, she was asking if they could literally eat the cowgirl together. So he stopped her, and that instantly ticked the dragon girl off, since just a second ago, he gave her permission to eat the fat cow, and now he was pulling back. Our boy snapped right back, saying that wasn't what he meant at all. Meanwhile, the poor cowgirl on the ground was absolutely done. She glared at the dragon girl and muttered a curse. "I hope every meal you eat gives you gas." Seeing how vicious that curse was, the girl was shocked. So was our boy, since someone like her was calling the cowgirl vicious. With that, she started crying, calling for someone to save her, but was reminded no one was going to come here to save her. She even pointed out that her favorite prey are those who squeak first. But before they could continue with their drama, they heard screaming coming not too far from their location, and all of them instantly got on their guard. It was a woman screaming, telling someone to get away. So the dragon girl decided to go and take a look, but was instantly stopped by our boy who feared this might be a trap. So they needed to be cautious. Thinking that, they slowly approached the source of the sound and saw the princess struggling to get away from a man. But the moment they got a better look, neither of them knew what to make of the situation. The one standing in front of her was her own brother. The princess looked completely shaken. Turns out, her no-good brother was way stronger than she ever gave him credit for. He had already disarmed her with ease. Still, she demanded answers. She thought he was taking her to find the knight, so why was he doing this? Why bring her here? But seeing her confused and scared only made the fool even more excited. He came clean. He never intended to help her find anyone. He brought her out here because he had other plans, something fun, as he put it. Terrified, the princess screamed and called him a scumbag. That struck a nerve. He hated that word. Still, at least he wasn't the kind of scum who'd hit his sister, and instead he started sulking. He brought up their childhood, how she always looked down on him, always treated him like a cockroach that somehow crawled into the royal family. Seeing him suddenly act like this, the princess actually hesitated. For a second, she felt sorry for him. She asked if he was okay, and out of nowhere, he suddenly started screaming at her face, saying that remembering all those memories just made him want to do even dirtier things with her. And just like that, he started tearing through her clothes, saying he was going to turn her into a scum rejected by the royal lineage just like him. By then, even our boy, who usually had no problem bossing around every girl in sight, was feeling genuinely disgusted by this guy. The man had completely snapped, locking the princess down with what he proudly called his ultimate dragon claw grip, a move he apparently perfected over years of booby-grabbing training. Our boy, watching this mess unfold, was low-key terrified. Not of the guy's strength, but of his disturbingly focused boob-based martial arts. Still, punching him out wasn't an option. He'd get disqualified for interfering. But just standing there wasn't helping either. He started debating what to do, and in the end, decided to just let it go. This was a family mess, and these royal nutcases were already after his head. Getting tangled up in their drama would only bring more trouble. And just as he thought of leaving, boom, a pebble landed on the prince's head. Turning toward the one responsible, he saw the cowgirl screaming at the scum, telling him to let go of the girl. Seeing her blow their cover like that, our boy started sweating. But before he could stop her, the girl started screaming at the man for sullying the royal name in such a way and warned him if he didn't back down now, she was going to make him regret everything. Meanwhile, the scum, seeing a plump cowgal screaming at him like that, was actually getting excited. In the next second, his tone instantly changed, and he turned towards our cow waifu with lustful eyes, mistaking her for another friend of the princess. But Olive had no idea who this girl was, and realizing she'd probably end up just another target for her brother, Olive told her to run while she still could, since this guy was far stronger than he looked. But the girl wasn't scared, not even a little. She already knew she wasn't a match for him, that's why she came with a plan. And guess what that plan was? Yup, it was our boy. She proudly introduced him as an honorable knight, more than enough to handle that scumbag, But if only she knew what kind of bigger problem she just created by bringing him out in front of the two royal nutcases. Both siblings froze. They were shocked to see the knight they'd been searching for all this time sitting right there in front of them. And just like that, both of them instantly turned on him, which made our boy even more annoyed. He came here to help her, and now she was thinking of executing him. Not just that, he was also getting ticked off seeing her face full of hopelessness, like she already knew he wouldn't be able to do anything against her brother to save them. As he got distracted by that, the scum managed to sneak up on him, and by the time he noticed, it was already too late to dodge. With that, the man started strangling him, admitting that he wanted him dead for quite some time now, since a good-for-nothing with no power was making his dear sister Olive yearn for him. Hearing him say that, our hero asked if he was feeling jealous of him because his sister was more obsessed with a random guy than her own brother, and that struck a nerve since this guy not only had his sister chasing him around, but he also had these beauties traveling with him, and demanded to know why he had so many of such beautiful beast girls. Our boy clarified that he only has 2 beast girls for now, and many were still coming, and that angered the scum even more since he was trying to show off in front of him on purpose. That is when he remembered about that dragon girl he brought to their castle yesterday, and was sure he had her hidden around here somewhere, since both of them seemed practically inseparable, and asked if he wasn't going to call her out to help him out of this situation. Meanwhile, our dragon waifu was still hiding behind the bushes. Completely terrified, the booby grabber scared the hell out of her. She knew he'd do something awful if she showed herself, but on the other hand, she couldn't let her meal ticket die like this either. Meanwhile, the guy, thinking she left him, started going off on our hero, saying she also hated filth like him, who can't do anything but hide behind a woman's legs. But he was quickly reminded he's the one who still shivers beneath his queen mother's skirt, and got asked if he really thinks someone who lures girls to desolate places just to take advantage of them has the right to call him filthy trash. Man, this guy keeps getting dissed by literally everyone. And with that, he dared our boy to say it again, and just by looking at his expression, our boy deep down knew, yeah, he's done for now. And just as he thought, the man tightened his grip and started squeezing his neck with both hands, and because of that, our hero started losing consciousness. But right then, he noticed something about the man. Something weird was happening, and the text above his head started glitching. And just like that, it completely changed. Now he was a disqualified NPC, flagged by the game itself. And seeing that sudden change, our boy realized even NPCs could get their status changed if they drifted too far off the game's trajectory. And if you act abnormal enough to catch the game's attention, you get disqualified instantly. Meanwhile, the bastard, seeing him not fighting back, thought he was going to be easy to deal with. But just then, a hand landed on his head, and the next thing he knew, he was eating dirt. This sudden display of power left everyone speechless, but our boy wasn't done. He started slamming his face into the ground again and again for treating him like a nobody. Meanwhile, the girls just stood there watching in amazement, wondering if this was even the same guy. Even the scum looked stunned, like he couldn't believe this was happening to him. And while our boy was enjoying turning his face into a pancake, he noticed something appearing right above him, and when he looked closer, he saw it was some kind of bar with a label that said Clean State Bar. He had no idea what that was supposed to mean, but he was curious enough to find out. So he let go of the prince to try and find some details about that bar, and the guy slammed face first into the ground, and the second he did, the number on the bar went up. This piqued his curiosity, so he punched him again, and the number went up again. And that's when he realized the more he beats the bastard, the more the number climbs. So yeah, he kept going and kept smashing him. By the time he was done with the fool, the man was half dead, barely moving, and telling the kid he'd give up. But our boy wasn't ready to stop just yet. He wanted to see what would happen when that bar hit 100, so letting him go wasn't on the table. Seeing him getting ready to punch again, the guy finally broke and started begging for forgiveness. But our boy wasn't having it. He wasn't done, not even close. This guy was his personal punching scumbag now, and he was planning to blow off every last bit of steam on him. But right before he could throw the next hit, something completely unexpected happened. The princess drove her blade straight through his back. And yeah, she looked pissed. And before any one of them could process the situation, she went berserk and started swinging her sword like a maniac at the bastard while calling him names. Seeing her finally showing her vicious side, all 3 of them were terrified, and neither of them had the courage to step in and stop her. And to make matters worse, they heard her saying she was going to tear him 50,000 holes, and it didn't seem like she was kidding either. So, thinking fast, our boy did what any sane person would do. He started walking away with both waifus in hand. But before he could, they heard the princess telling him to stop, so he froze in place. He didn't have the courage to turn to see her since there was a very high chance she was coming for him next, and heard the girl pointing out that it wasn't polite of him to leave so noiselessly without even saying goodbye. With that, she started walking towards all of them, saying he was as rude as ever. Seeing her say that, our boy knew none of them were getting out of here alive. Even the cowgirl started screaming, begging for her life, saying she wasn't with these 2, she was just an innocent bystander. Even the dragon girl was panicking, because she really didn't want to get torn 5,000 new ones like that scum prince. And by then, the princess had already reached them, and was preparing to end this stupid little charade once and for all. But in the next second, our hero saw her hand patting his shoulder. Surprised, he turned toward her and noticed her mood completely different from before. She thanked him for saving her from that scum, says she's even willing to forget everything that happened in the past. But seeing her expression, our boy was getting more worried than relieved, and just like he thought, there was a catch. He heard the girl claiming she's a generous princess, unlike her brother, a moody, cruel, heartless prince. But our boy wasn't buying it not one bit. He just told her to get straight to the damn point. Hearing that, the girl casually lifted one of her legs and said that for him to be forgiven, he needs to smooch her toes to show allegiance. But deep down, she already knew he was going to refuse, and she was fully planning to use that as an excuse to execute him. What she didn't know was that our boy lived for this kind of thing. He wasted no time, dropped straight down, and started smooching her feet like his life depended on it. This sudden act left the princess completely speechless. And not gonna lie, she was definitely feeling the effects of a man going that hard on her toes. And after he had his fill, he looked up at her with the weirdest damn expression on his face and asked if there was anything else he could do for his princess. Seeing that dumb look on his face, the girl got scared and began losing her balance. But luckily, our boy managed to save her, telling her to be more careful. With that, he activated his charm mode, telling the girl that she was such a careless little chump with feet as tender and sweet as a rose. Hearing his words, the girl told him to stop, but he kept going, saying things like, "This luscious sort of thing would tempt any man." The girl was sweating bullets, but deep down, she realized something. Even though his words were so vile, a part of her still wanted to hear more of them. And oh god, I actually cringed at this part, seeing him making this face as he tells the girl he can't hold back anymore. With that, he grabs onto her feet once more, offering to comfort her every nook and cranny. And that was all it took. The girl exploded because of everything, unable to control her body anymore. But taking control of her emotions, she slammed him straight in the face, telling him to get away from her. Seeing her acting in this way, our boy realized he was right about her. Turns out this was his plan from the start, since he knew that a woman like her, who had been single her entire life and lived with a dragon since childhood, would be too soft for the kind of stuff he was pulling. Seeing that stupid look on his face, the princess told him she never wanted to see him again. But our hero was far from done, as he claimed to be in excellent shape today and wasn't going to back down so easily. Meanwhile, the dragon girl was drooling, watching him manhandle the princess like that. But on the other hand, the cowgirl was getting creeped out watching everything, but she decided to just stay out of this mess. Using the distraction of the idiot boasting about his greatness in front of the girls, the princess decided it would be better if she left, otherwise things might get worse. With that, she started running away while tearing up and bumps into someone while doing so. Turns out it was the old knight from the kingdom who came to check up on her and her brother. All that commotion caught everyone's attention, and just like that, they realized they weren't alone anymore. But while checking up on the princess, the guard spotted something. He turned to the princess and asked, "Is that what I think it is?" Noticing where he was pointing, the girl froze. Panic hit her like a truck. She knew she was done for. Without thinking, she quickly shut him up, covering his mouth and whispering, "That's just the waste of some scuppering giant animal. Poor thing had an injured digestive tract." And just to make sure he got the message, she added, "That is absolutely, definitely, in no way the prince of the kingdom." But seeing her completely panicking like that only confirmed it for the guard, and he realized that it was the prince lying there. Still in shock, he told the princess, "At first glance, I honestly thought it was just the remains of a giant animal." But as the thought fully sank in, he froze, realizing exactly what he had just said, and who he was really looking at. With no other choice, the princess decided to get rid of all the evidence before it was too late. But before she could, another knight appears and sees the whole scene unfold in front of his eyes. Wasting no time, he starts screaming for everyone, shouting that Princess Olive made Prince Lucky take a hit. As soon as those words were spoken, another guard appeared from the bushes, and hearing those words, he also started screaming. And guess what he heard? He said Princess Olive made Prince Lucky take a shit. Hearing those words, both the princess and the guard froze in disbelief. But it wasn't over yet. There was another knight sitting on a tree who hears his screams and was terrified. And just like the last two, he started screaming as well, saying that Princess Olive found Prince Lucky taking a D. I'm not going to add that part in here. Before the princess could explain anything to the idiots, all of them started marching back to the castle while shouting these stupid things. With that, the story shifted back to the castle, where the king was furious after hearing the news of his son's death. On the same hand, the person reported that Princess Olive was planning on making the two of them Kermit. That wasn't the shocking part. The thing that shocked both of them was that they had no idea what Kermit meant. Hearing their concerns, the man decided to explain it to them in simple terms so they could understand it easily, and started screaming that their daughter wants to kill the king and take over the kingdom. Next chapter, and there were already wanted posters of Olive circulating around the whole place, with a grand bounty of 10 gold coins. As for the girl herself, she was now labeled as a disqualified NPC and was watching the piece of paper in disbelief. Our hero, meanwhile, was struggling to process the fact that the adorable little girl in the picture had somehow grown up into the bloodthirsty maniac standing in front of him. Cowgirl, on the other hand, only fell deeper in love after seeing Olive's cute childhood face, and that only irritated Olive even more. And of course, we can't forget about the dragon girl, who wasn't about to let the chance slip by without mocking her, which pushed Olive's buttons in all the right or wrong ways. Seeing her making that face, the guards sent by her father to apprehend her started panicking, promising this was all her father's idea and they had nothing to do with this. They told the girl if she wanted to beat up someone, she should go and beat her father, since he was the one who designed these posters of her. Seeing them acting in such a way, our hero just felt bad for all of them, since this was supposed to be a life or death standoff, but all of these men were just kneeling in front of this psycho and begging for their lives. Not just that, but he also noticed the text hovering over her head labeling her as a disqualified NPC, and he started feeling bad for the girl, since all she did was fight off a person threatening her life, and she got abandoned by her own parents, who didn't even bother listening to her side of the story. So after thinking for a bit, he approached the girl to comfort her, saying that even though she got banished, the fact her father chose such a cute picture of her meant he still cared about her, and that comment only made the girl even more angry. But thankfully, she decided not to kill him just yet. Instead, she pushed his hand away, showing disbelief that even her own parents would do something like this to her. Seeing this vulnerable side of the girl surprised our hero, but before he could process that fact, he saw the crazy girl snatching the piece of paper from the guard's hand and ripping it into pieces, saying she can't believe her parents used such a disgraceful picture of her on her wanted poster, since this wasn't going to attract any strong killers, just some old perverts. And after she was done letting out her frustration on the poor piece of paper, she tossed it to the side, confident no one was going to come after her, after seeing that face. Unfortunately, those pieces landed on the face of a person who just arrived at the location, and boy, that person did not look happy, since they instantly whipped out their bow and arrow to take the girl down. Seeing her standing there, Olive started sweating bullets, realizing this was probably a bounty hunter. Man, this artist goes crazy when it comes to drawing females, doesn't he? I mean, I'm not complaining. Good job, dude. Olive, however, only made things worse by blurting out, "Wait, are you one of those perverts after my poster?" And the woman in front of her did not take that pervert comment well, and brought out her weapon to end her. Yup, the poor thing realized she might have screwed up since the female was clearly giving off murderous vibes. As all that was going on, Cowgirl noticed something about the woman's weapon, since it was made out of the jaws of a crocodile and the arrows were actually spikes from a porcupine. Seeing this, she recalled something she heard in the past and wondered if this person could truly be one of them. Seeing her make that face, our hero asked if she knew who that woman was, to which the cowgirl informed him about a legend she had heard about a group of ruthless hunters who go after the corrupt nobles. After taking out their target, they gouge out their teeth to create a necklace to strengthen their power. A group known as the Hegelin family, and the one standing before them was one of the members of that family, and not just any member, but the most ruthless of them all, known as the Pig Rider. Yeah, instead of trembling at that name, everyone just stared in disbelief that someone could actually go around calling themselves that. But still, our hero knew if this female was truly dangerous, as the cowgirl claimed, then he needed to be careful around her. Thinking that, he turned to the dragon, warning her not to do anything stupid around that female, but it was already too late. Looking ahead, he saw the airhead standing in front of the new psycho, greeting her casually, and before he could stop her, she was already drooling over the pig the woman was riding, fully ready to turn it into her next meal. But then, something caught her eye underneath the cloth, and she turned to the woman riding the thing, asking if she wasn't worried about those spiky bristles of the creature poking her butt. Yeah, let's just say our boy realized none of them were walking out of here alive anymore. To make matters worse, even the guards behind him started commenting that only a fool would ride something so uncomfortable. Some of them even started whispering that she might be acting all high and mighty. Noble woman, but she probably liked the feeling of those things poking at her butt. As for the poor girl, she was fuming in anger, unsure of what to do anymore. Seeing her ready to explode in anger, our hero decided to step in to calm the situation. And like a gentleman, he shouted for everyone not to slander the future head of the Hegelin family. To prove her innocence, well, let's just say his method was questionable. He assured everyone that he himself would personally inspect the sweet ass of the young lady to prove her innocence. His words, not mine, don't come after me in the comments. And the dude actually lifted her skirt and dove right under without even asking for her permission, and started commenting, "Yes, very healthy, smooth, flawless. No signs of assassin activity here." But then, in the middle of his inspection, he suddenly noticed something and staggered back. Without saying a single word, he turned around and started walking away, leaving everyone surprised. Seeing how pale and unsettled he looked, Olive asked if everything was all right, since he looked very tense for some reason, and hearing no answer, she pressed, asking what did he see under there that had him so spooked. Hearing her words, the guy hesitated a little, wondering how to describe it. Then he leaned in closer and whispered to Olive, saying that he doubts this woman was the same assassin Cowgirl was warning them about. Olive blinked, asking how could you possibly be so sure? The guy took a deep breath and then explained that after his thorough investigation under her skirt, he came across something that no cold-blooded killer could ever possess. And boom, With a drooling face, he blurted out that the girl was actually wearing such cute bunny panties that no way could belong to an assassin. Yup, the poor girl behind him was ready to explode from sheer embarrassment after hearing that. As for the rest of them, they just gave him that look, remembering they were actually talking to a certified idiot. But in the middle of all that drama, the kid suddenly froze. Turning back, he saw a porcupine jabbed into his butt, and before they knew, he was on the ground completely knocked out. As for the cowgirl, she realized that this was no ordinary attack, but the Hagelin family's secret curse technique, which meant the girl was beyond pissed, and sure enough, seeing her expression, Olive realized this woman truly was the killer from the legends. And because of that, she stepped up to challenge the girl to a proper duel, and boom, she whipped out her massive cannon from God knows where, ready to blow her to smithereens. The cowgirl, meanwhile, wasn't able to contain her excitement after seeing how cool her idol was and started punching our poor hero to vent her hype. With that, she pointed at the girl, shouting for her to get ready, since she wanted to find out which one of them was the toughest woman. As for the pig girl, she happily agreed to the duel, and wasting no time, she leaped off of her mount, ordering it to charge at the enemies. The thing did as told and started charging towards all of them, while she prepared to rain down on them from above. As for the guards, forget fear. They were too busy drooling at whatever view they were getting in the air, and that made the girl even more furious, and she activated her ultimate move, and boom, released the arrow straight towards Olive in the distance. Seeing it coming, the cowgirl panicked and shouted that it was an AoE attack, but before anyone could even think about dodging, the pig mount was already right in their faces, cutting off any chance of escape. But just then, our hero sprang into action and activated his ability, and a massive firewall manifested in front of them, blocking the incoming projectile in the process. As for the pig, the creature instantly slammed its brakes before it got turned into the next barbecue. But the fire didn't stop there. It roared so high it even caught the girl in midair. When the flames cleared, surprise, surprise, her body was completely untouched. The only thing the fire managed to burn was her clothes, and she landed back on the ground without a single scratch, just a whole lot less fabric. Meanwhile, our hero noticed the dragon girl staring at his butt for some reason. Turns out the guy was barely standing, wobbling on 2 feet, with the porcupine still jiggling inside his backside, and was shouting at the girl to stop staring at his butt. But then, out of nowhere, he heard Olive praising him for the first time for putting that woman in her place. But now, after seeing what the woman was capable of, she told our hero to leave the rest to her, and boom, she summoned a bunch of massive cannonballs out of nowhere. Even the poor cannon started panicking, staring at the mountain of ammo, clearly fearing for its poor hole. As for the pig girl, seeing that things were about to get out of hand, she shouted at her mount, and the creature started launching its quills towards the girl. And before anyone could understand what was going on, the thing started wrapping around her arm, and just like that, a whip was created. But Olive wasn't intimidated, since she was too busy shoving every last cannonball into the suffering cannon. Seeing her getting ready to fire, our hero tried stopping her, but the girl wasn't listening. He warned her that her attack wasn't going to work since she was labeled as a disqualified NPC, but it was already too late. She yanked the rope with all her might, and boom, the cannon went off. Except it didn't shoot cannonballs, it shot something else, something sticky and slimy. Even the rest of them started cringing at the sight. As for the poor pig girl, she was already on the ground, completely drenched in whatever came out of that cannon. As for the princess, she was trying to figure out what just happened to her cannon. That's when Dragon Girl stepped up, and in all her wisdom told the girl her cannon probably had a bad stomach or something. As for the poor cannon itself, yeah, it was done. Its insides were wrecked beyond repair. But instead of consoling the poor thing, Olive kicked it to oblivion, and realizing she was probably in deep trouble, she turned towards our hero with a suddenly sweet tone, apologizing for earlier, and told him as an apology she was going to leave that woman for him to deal with. Yeah, no, our hero wasn't falling for her words, and both females listened in disbelief, both their back and forth arguing over who was going to take on that pig girl. But then our hero decided to drop this unnecessary argument and turned around, leaving Olive confused. Taking both his waifus in hand, he reminded the princess that woman came here after her, which meant this whole mess had nothing to do with them, and prepared to leave. Hearing those words, the girl started sweating, realizing if he leaves she was done for. So swallowing her pride, she plastered on a cheerful smile and declared that they were all friends. Next thing, the girl pushed back the dragon girl and latched onto the kid, asking if a hero such as himself was really going to leave a helpless princess all on her own. But our hero wasn't falling for it, and reminded the girl once more that this was her family matter, so it would be rude for him to butt in. But since the girl refused to listen, both of them came to the agreement that maybe fighting wasn't worth it after all. So the plan, simple, just leave. But they were mistaken, thinking that the woman was going to simply let them leave after everything, and to their horror, they heard her angry voice telling all of them to stop. But thinking fast, our hero did something, activated his ability, and boom, the whole place got covered in smoke. Seizing the distraction, he told the rest to use this chance to escape. But to his surprise, he saw the woman appearing from the smoke and coming straight at him. Before he knew it, the girl had her weapon pointed right at the kid, telling him he was strong and challenged him to a one-on-one duel. Before the kid could answer, a voice cut in, telling her to stop. Turning to the person, they saw it was the dragon girl. Surprised that the girl actually stood up for him, our hero asked the reason. Unfortunately, her answer wasn't quite the noble reason he imagined, and she flatly said, "Because you're still my long-term meal ticket." Annoyed, the kid started arguing with the girl, completely ignoring the pig girl, who was now visibly grinding her teeth in frustration at being treated like background noise. Fed up with their nonsense, the girl screamed and started hurling attacks towards both of them. Before they even knew what was going on, the projectiles were already at Dragon Girl's face, but at the final second, the crazy woman opened up her massive jaw, and to our hero's shock, bit down on all those cursed arrows like they were breadsticks. Not just crushed them, but the girl actually started savoring the flavor. Terrified that the stupid girl just ate a bunch of cursed arrows, the kid started panicking and shouted at her to spit it out. Furious, he turned back towards the pig girl, blaming her for everything, telling her it was her fault. But the dragon girl calmly stepped forward, assuring him she was completely fine. In fact, she was more than fine. She reminded him who she truly was. It didn't matter if it was armor, swords, or weapons. Her stomach could digest anything. Then, licking her lips, she added that since she was still starving, what she was really craving right now was some nice juicy pig meat. To the poor creature's horror, it saw the dragon girl slowly turn her hungry gaze toward him. Before it even had the chance to run, she was already airborne, diving straight at him and shouting that raw meat was the most delicious of all. Unfortunately for her, she failed to realize the pig girl behind her was in the middle of chanting some incantations, and because of that, the tooth necklace thingy she was wearing on her head started glowing with a red-crimson flame. By the time they noticed, it was already too late to do anything, and the woman unleashed some kind of thick fog all around the area. Cowgirl instantly realized this was demonic energy, and the effects of the thing were, well, let's just say unexpected. Since the poor girl started feeling weird after being affected by the smog, seeing her panicking, Olive tried helping the girl, but unknowingly made it even worse. Instead of calming her down, she sent the girl spiraling even harder. Not just her, but the dragon girl was also being affected by the attack, and because of that started losing strength in her legs. Thankfully, the kid appeared just in time, taking her into his arms. He assured her not to worry about anything and leave this to him. Okay, this manga is getting really out of hand now, because I don't even know what the guy was doing to cancel the effects of that demonic fog. Anyway, whatever it was, it worked, since the dragon girl let out a suspiciously loud moan and slowly started returning to normal. Well, not normal, but better than before. But the girl was far from done. She channeled all of her power into the necklace to strengthen its effects, and of course the poor cowgirl who was already going crazy completely lost her strength and dropped on Olive. Meanwhile, the dragon girl made a break for our hero, telling him to take her into his arms and save her from this thing, and the sly fox, never one to waste an opportunity, scooped her up without hesitation and threw up a barrier to block out the mist. But then he turned towards the other two girls. His heart shattered as he found Olive struggling to keep Cowgirl away from her, but it was no use since she tumbled and fell with Cowgirl on top of her. As for the raging bull, she was in absolute heaven, fully succumbing to her emotions and practically burying Olive under her. Olive pushed her off of her, telling her to get a grip over her thoughts. Seeing both of them on the ground, the kid was practically crying since he was stuck behind this barrier and lost the once-in-a-lifetime chance to be sandwiched between all these beauties. Just then, Dragon Girl suddenly noticed a strange power around them and turned to see what it was. Panicking, our hero wondered what she was doing, but when his eyes landed on what was coming, he froze. There she was, the girl now giving off a completely different aura, with a massive ghost of an old lumberjack behind her, who was coming straight at them. Seeing the sight, Olive asked Cowgirl if she knew what was going on. The terrified girl explained that what they were seeing was actually an ancient spirit sealed away by the Hegelin family for generations. She reminded the girl what she told her earlier, that these people, after taking out the corrupt nobles, take out their teeth as trophies. But there was one noble ages ago that even they couldn't kill, so instead, they sealed his spirit inside the necklace, and gradually they kept feeding that spirit the power from the nobles they hunted down in exchange for the spirit to help them in combat, and this spirit was called Bluebeard. Hearing that name, our hero was left stunned, since he was fully aware of this person. Still, just to confirm, he turned to Cowgirl and asked if she really meant that maniac, better known as the infamous wife-killing lunatic. Yup, this was exactly the same guy, and before they knew it, the spirit started attacking, going right after the dragon girl. Seeing him coming after her, the kid realized there was no other choice but to escape, but before he could, countless magic vines appeared from underneath the ground, latching onto his feet, trying to reach the girl in his arms. That's when they heard the old man's voice echoing through the fog, calling out to the dragon girl, demanding she become his bride, and that terrified the poor thing. Annoyed, the kid called out to the old bastard, and with a firm tone reminded him that the girl just told him she didn't want to, and warned him to stay away from her. Just then she noticed the kid's arm bleeding because of the tentacles wrapped around him. Seeing his blood, she started panicking, telling him to let her go before his arm completely rips off his body. But the kid gritted his teeth and told her she was his responsibility. There was no way he'd ever let that creep lay a finger on her. With a serious glare, he asked if she couldn't see what the old man was trying to do. And then, in classic blunt fashion, he blurted out that this freak was basically trying to pull off some twisted tentacle play with her, like one of those messed up NTR stories. Holding her firmly, he declared there was no way he was going to let that happen. Just then, out of nowhere, he shouted at the old man, telling him to stay away from both of them, but that made the old man even more angry, and he summoned more of his tentacle thingies, latching onto our hero and throwing him into the air, telling him he always hated couples like him, which was why he was going to turn them into a dead couple, and prepared to devour both of them whole. Seeing no other way out, our hero shoved the girl towards Olive, telling her to keep her safe. Hearing his voice, the girl rushed to catch her, but also reminded the kid there was no escape for any of them from this. But the kid was confident and reminded Olive she was a dragon girl, and instructed her to transform and take both of them away to safety. As for the poor girl, she could only watch in horror as the creature's massive mouth loomed closer and closer over him. Then she heard his last words, bold, ridiculous, and utterly him. Strong men like me would rather die than live as some cuckolded slave. And just like that, it was all over. The creature's jaws snapped shut around him. Seeing the sight, something in the girl snapped as a dark purple aura started emanating from her eyes. The scene cut back to our hero, still in one piece though barely, struggling to keep himself wedged inside the monster's mouth. The insides were slick and slimy though, and he lost his grip, sliding straight down into its stomach. At least he was alive. But the stench down there was unbearable, so bad he was having a hard time breathing, but since he had no other choice, he decided to just suck it up and think of a way to escape. Looking around, he couldn't help noticing something odd. On the outside, the creature's body had been as hard as stone, but in here, everything felt soft and squishy. On top of that, the red text over his head was bugging him, and he wondered what it could mean. Annoyed by everything, he punched the creature in frustration, and to his surprise, he saw the bar over his head go up by 5 points. That is when he realized the red text on the creature's head meant he could attack him, and an evil grin formed on his face. Meanwhile, outside the creature's body, the spirit was grumbling since swallowing the kid had been a hassle. He was practically all bones and no meat, hardly worth the effort. Still, with him out of the picture, the ghost turned toward the 3 babes before him. His gaze landed on the dragon girl who was sobbing on the ground. With a sneer, he asked if she was really crying for a worthless clown like that kid, someone who couldn't even fight back. Then he broke into full-blown laughter, mocking her taste in men. But he quickly added that it was fine. After all, once they were married, she'd learn what a real man was like. That was it, the girl snapped. Through her tears, she shouted at him, pointing out the obvious. He didn't even have the lower half of his body. In other words, he was missing his ding-dong. That hit him where it hurt. The old bastard's expression twisted in rage, but before he could fire back, she kept going. Even if he had a body, she said, no woman in her right mind would want to marry him. Then she really let loose, tearing into him piece by piece. First, he was missing his manhood. Second, he was ugly. Third, he reeked so bad that no woman could stand near him. Flipping him off, she finished by declaring she was a proud member of the Dragon Clan, someone who would never bow to scum like him, especially when he didn't even have the ability to father a child. As for Olive behind her, she started seeing the girl in a new light after seeing her tear into the old man like that, and started imagining the girl alongside their hero, the two of them madly in love, fighting side by side. It almost felt fitting. As for the old man, he was in tears after hearing all those awful things about himself, and asked the reason, since this was the first time a woman had actually humiliated him like this. But then, just as quickly, his mood shifted. His grief twisted into rage, and with a furious roar, he flew straight toward them. Seeing him coming, Dragon Girl braced herself, ready to fight back, but just as he got near her, the old freak stopped, admitting that being treated like that by her made him even more obsessed about her, and the saliva from his mouth went flying straight towards the Dragon Girl. Seeing this, both girls froze, and boom, in the last instance the girl finally regained her strength and transformed, stopping the man's massive tongue, and the old man watched in horror as the girl prepared to end him once and for all. Seeing the sight, the other two also took a sigh of relief, since it meant they were saved. Meanwhile, Dragon Girl was finishing her transformation, and while doing so, she told the old ghost she would show him the difference in power between them, and just like that she fully transformed, screaming that he dared to swing his disgusting tongue at her. Then, with the most innocent expression imaginable, she pointed at her own tongue and added, "Even the fool you swallowed earlier never got close to exploring this part of me." But what really pushed her over the edge wasn't just his disgusting tongue, it was the fact that, in a way, he had already shared a kiss with our hero when he swallowed him whole, and that fact alone burned her up inside. So in her rage, she unleashed a powerful wave of fire straight at the old ghost, and the creature started screaming as his whole body started getting engulfed in flames. But then, to everyone's horror, the old pervert suddenly stopped screaming. Instead, the masochistic old pervert started laughing, enjoying himself as the flames licked at his body. With a sick grin, he actually begged her to burn him more. Seeing the sight, all three girls froze, unsure how to even react to that. That's when they heard the pig girl from the side calling her foolish. She explained that in his lifetime, Bluebeard had died by being burned alive inside his own castle, and after death he had been roasted in the fires of hell day and night. so of course a little flame from a dragon who hadn't even awakened her bloodline meant nothing to him. That last part surprised the girl, since this was her first time hearing about this bloodline awakening. But without answering her question, the girl ordered Bluebeard to wrap it up quickly so they could leave. And that bummed out the old man a little, since she was just rushing him for no reason, since he planned on torturing her first before getting rid of her. But still, he had no other choice, since he was under her control. So he did as instructed and attacked the girl using all his power, and because of that he managed to severely wound her. Seeing how easy it was, the girl looked down on her, mocking her as weak. But just then another voice rang out of the battlefield, saying, if weaklings like you think you have the right to call someone else weak, then maybe it's time someone reminded you of your place. Hearing that voice, the girl was left stunned. Not just her, but also Bluebeard, who had no idea where this sound was coming from. As for the protagonist, he used this chance to finish him off for good. With that, he called forth his weapon, and the blade. Hearing his command, started flying towards him on its own. But mid-flight, he activated one of his abilities, and the thing multiplied, cloning itself, and all the blades rushed straight at the old man, and the thing started cutting through all his tentacle thingies. Furious, the man cursed the kid for still trying to get in his way, even after getting devoured, and hardened his skin so the blades would not be able to penetrate through his stomach. With his body now fully protected, he started going berserk, smashing through all the clones of the sword using his axe. But after he was done, he noticed that the original sword was nowhere to be seen and wondered where it could be. Little did he know, the blade was already latched onto his armpit, and since the inside of his body was squishy like a marshmallow, the kid prepared to use this to his advantage and finish him off for good. To the old man's horror, he saw the kid grabbing onto the blade from within his skin, and just like that, boom! Using the power of the blade, he tore through his body with ease. And unlike last time, he was fully confident he would be able to take out this guy. But since he was a good source of experience to raise his progress bar, he decided to take his time and torture him as much as possible before taking him out. Thinking that he swung his blade and managed to deliver a powerful attack on the old ghost. Because of that powerful slash across his side, the old man lost strength in his left arm and dropped the axe from his hand, and the massive thing plummeted straight towards the three waifus standing nearby. Thinking fast, Dragon Girl shoved the two girls back using her tail and managed to push them out of the way, but it was already too late for her to dodge herself, and just like that, the massive thing crashed onto her with a thunderous bang. But as the dust cleared, everyone saw that the girl was still in one piece. But the same could not be said for her clothes, since somehow when dodging the massive thing, it managed to shred all her clothes off her body, and she was left completely naked. But just then, before her dignity could vanish with her garments, a blade appeared, catching her falling panties, and before the girl was fully exposed, someone tossed a white robe on her body, which surprised the girl. Turning towards her savior, she saw that it was our hero striking a dramatic pose, already fantasizing about being the Prince Charming who had rescued the princess at the final moment. As for the dragon girl, wrapped in the robe, she glanced at her savior, her cheeks faintly red. Our hero, of course, seeing her making that face, immediately let his imagination run wild, thinking even a proud and arrogant dragon boss can't resist his charm. That is when he saw her pout sweetly, complaining that she was so worried he had died. The hero grinned like a fool, basking in his daydream of being a gallant Prince Charming. But reality came crashing down. Literally, the dragon girl suddenly leapt at him with full force, clinging onto him so tightly he nearly dropped his sword. The sheer weight and surprise nearly knocked the wind out of him, leaving him flailing in shock. So much for the elegant fantasy, but the girl wasn't done. She started pounding his chest with all her might, still pissed that he made her so worry about him. As for the poor guy, he could only think that maybe being dead would have been better than enduring this kind of torture. In the middle of all that drama, he heard the old ghost's voice from the side. Turning towards him, he saw the guy in tears. And it wasn't just sadness. No, this was raw, pathetic jealousy. The bastard was literally crying because the kid was getting sandwiched between her smooth, plump thighs. Unable to control his emotions, the guy straight up started crying, screaming that watching both of them so happy made him remember his youth, when he killed all those women. Yeah, the kid wasn't exactly thrilled. His jaw dropped being compared to that degenerate freak. As for the old man, he shouted at the kid for making him feel like this, saying he will shred his woman apart, piece by piece, right in front of his eyes. Seeing that the guy wasn't holding back anymore, our hero, continuing his Mr. Cool act, told the girl to stay back while he took care of this old pervert. But deep down, the guy was grinning, since he got to show off like this in front of all these ladies. As for the girl, she prepared to hop off him and saw a conveniently placed protrusion sticking out of his back and used it as a support to get down. The poor kid. Yeah, all that macho left him on the spot as the stupid little spike jabbed right into his backside. Seeing him shivering, the girl asked if he was alright, and the kid, trying to hold in his screams, told her he was fine. Just as he said those words, the girl's foot slipped and the thing started danding in his ass, and holy hell, that was it. The hero went from cool to absolute meltdown in 0.2 seconds. He lost it and started screaming in agony, and before the girl knew what even happened, he was already bolting through the whole place, screaming like a maniac, while the poor girl dangled behind him, furious. He shouted at the idiot behind him for doing something so stupid and ruining his moment, and since pain plus humiliation equals insanity, the hero, racked with both, decided to take it out on the old man and started swinging his sword wildly at him. That scared the old ghost, but panicking wasn't going to help him. Things went nuclear with the kid losing his mind because of the pain, and he lost control of his power, and his sword started surging with overwhelming energy. The last thing the old man saw was the hero's face, a hysterical, sobbing war cry. Tears and rage smeared into one glorious mess as he screamed, cursing him since all this was his fault. What followed was pure carnage. The hero's uncontrolled slashes cleaved through the old man like a blender on overdrive, and with that the whole place fell silent once more, and poof, the next second the ghost started disintegrating into thin air, officially ending their battle once and for all. Seeing the sight, both waifus behind him started celebrating in a very cultural manner, cheering for him. As for the dragon girl, she was so hyped that she started strangling the kid in her excitement. But our hero was more focused on the progress bar over his head, since he managed to fill it up quite a bit after this battle. Unfortunately, the victory party didn't last long. Everyone had forgotten one tiny detail. The fight wasn't actually over yet. From the shadows, the pig girl drew her bow and loosed an arrow straight at him. The kid barely managed to deflect it until she fired again, faster than he could react. The second arrow jabbed straight into his arm, the impact so sudden that even our hero was left stunned in disbelief. Shocked that the pig girl was actually that fast, that is when he saw the girl standing before him, demanding to know why he was toying with her the whole time, since he clearly possessed powerful abilities. The hero smirked through the pain, apologizing that he couldn't bring himself to go all out on her, so he was just teasing her a little, and tightened his grip on his wounded arm, splashing all that blood on her face. Using this distraction, he started chanting some incantations and the whole place started getting covered in thick green mist, and by the time she recovered, he was nowhere to be seen. The kid had used the distraction to trick her and managed to escape. Cut to the party, and all of them were seen bolting away from the place, trying to get away from the psycho girl before she pulled something even worse to end them. As for the two girls in his arms, both of them were panting for some reason, and that only made Olive even more furious since they were acting in such a way in this situation. But then the kid failed to see a branch on the ground, tripped, and all of them went flying in different directions. As for the dragon girl, she fell straight on her butt and went dragging through the place. Getting up, she saw that her behind was completely swollen and blamed the kid for it. As for the poor kid, he was seen on the ground with Cowgirl panicking over the blood dripping down his face. But Olive assured her not to worry since she was sure this blood was definitely not because of any injury. Annoyed, she screamed in frustration since that idiot just ran atop a cliff, and now they had no way left to run, and turning back meant facing that crazy woman again. But just then, while wondering what to do, they saw something and froze. It was the same girl riding her pig like a war chariot and coming towards all of them. Seeing the look on her face, the poor cowgirl started crying, asking Olive what to do, since if she managed to catch up to them, all of them were dead. Olive replied that the only way they were getting out of this situation was if they magically grew wings and gained the ability to fly. But just then they remembered something and they turned to the dragon girl with smiles on their faces. Meanwhile, the clueless airhead blinked at them in confusion, asking who exactly this someone was that was supposed to fly them out. Both women snapped, shouting at her to stop being stupid. She was a freaking dragon, so transform already. But our hero from the back told both of them to calm down, since right now she was useless with most of her power depleted, so she couldn't transform even if she wanted to. Before the women knew what was going through his head, the guy dropped his pants on the ground, telling both of them that he was tired of all the running and suggested all of them relax for now, and with all the confidence in the world he asked which of the three wanted to go first. Seeing how boldly the guy was asking them such a question, all three of them froze in horror. Fast forward and the crazy girl finally arrived at the place, and the only thing she found was their clothes and wondered if all three of them fell from this cliff. Just then she heard her friend in the back calling for her. Turning to the location, she saw a thatch hut not far from the location and decided to check it out. With that, the pig ran straight towards the thing and rammed on the front door with full force, but the thing didn't even budge. Annoyed, the girl asked if he was sure they were in there, and the creature signaled yes. Trusting him, the girl pressed her eye against a crack in the wall, and sure enough, she saw a figure standing inside. Wasting no time, she smashed through the door and lunged forward, snatching the figure by the throat. But looking closer, she found a completely different person. Seeing that it was just a young wolf girl trembling in her grip, she let her go, asking if she was hiding someone inside the house. Looking around, she spotted some large baskets placed inside the place, so she decided to check to see if those four could be hiding in there. But before she could, she heard the child's voice from the back, asking if she was with that scary knight. Turning to the child, she found her sobbing, saying that just like her, they also barged into her house and attacked her for no reason. Hearing that the kid was here and he attacked this poor child, the girl froze. She helped her back up to her feet, apologizing for scaring her earlier, and asked if she knows where that knight went. Hearing that question, the child showed surprise that she wasn't with those guys, and with a trembling voice she told her they just asked her for directions to get to the sanctuary and then left without any warning. The kid latched onto the girl, calling her big sister, saying that she must be super powerful if she was going after all those people all by herself. The sudden affection caught the girl off guard. The little wolf girl's eyes sparkled with admiration as she rambled on. Those people who went to the sanctuary seemed so terrifying, but for her to chase after them all by herself, she must be amazing. She didn't stop there. She pointed at her panties, complimenting that someone who dared to be bold enough to wear something like that in public must be a fierce woman indeed. Showered by all these compliments, the girl didn't even know what to say to the kid anymore. But then the kid's expression darkened and she told the girl that if she kept walking around in that bold outfit, she was sure to be targeted by those creeps from the sanctuary again who would want to snatch those panties for themselves. The thought of her bunny getting snatched by all those prying hands terrified the girl, and she told the child she was going after those people. Seeing her walking out, the kid tried stopping her, but it was no use. The girl had made up her mind. Whoever dared to try and lay a finger on her little bunny must die. But just as she was about to leave, the child saw something and called out to her in shock. Turning towards the girl, she heard her asking if those prickles from that creature's back weren't poking at her butt. Next panel, the girl was seen riding away on her pig, hell-bent on finding our hero and stopping him before he spread a single word about her bunny panties. After the psycho was gone, the little girl entered back into the house, telling someone the coast was clear. Guess who it was? The gang, who had been hiding behind the door the whole time and were bleeding through their noses thanks to that crazy woman slamming open the door right at their faces. They thanked the child for saving them from that lunatic. But before anyone could relax, the dragon girl blurted out, "You have no idea how dangerous that woman really is. Last time we fought, she pulled out something massive and stinky to attack us with." She was talking about the old ghost, but since she phrased the whole thing in a weird way, our hero quickly apologized to the girl, saying the dragon had a habit of blurting out nonsense. Still, he thanked her for risking her own life for them and asked why she would even bother. The girl shrugged it off like it was nothing, saying it wasn't a big deal. After all, it's not every day someone as ridiculously handsome as him shows up around here. But she couldn't help but add how humiliating it must have been to get chased around until even his underwear nearly slipped off, saying it was just too pitiful and kind of hard not to feel sorry for him. Our hero had no choice but to swallow the shame in silence. The girl turned to the dragon girl with sparkly eyes, saying that she never thought she would get a chance to meet with the legendary dragon. That praise instantly boosted the dragon's ego, and she proudly showed off in front of the hero, claiming she was far greater than him. But the next second, the wolf girl shattered all her pride with a jab and attacked her with, "I never imagined the ferocious dragon would actually be scared of a little girl and hide behind a broken door instead of fighting." After she was done with the two, she turned towards Olive and tried commenting about her torn clothes, but the girl stopped her right there, telling her not to even think about it. After she was done proving her point, she shoved our hero away and told the little girl that she would ignore the fact that this place was a shabby hut, but she better find her a good place to take a bath. The scared girl, wasting no time, led them straight to the shower. While preparing towels for them, she got approached by the cowgirl, and she told the girl she wasn't really interested, but if she had to point out her flaws, she asked what would they be. The little kid didn't even hesitate. She simply tossed a towel towards the girl without saying anything, and then with the most innocent look on her face, she called her average looking and told her that was why she didn't even bother pointing it out earlier, since she wasn't even worth it, and told her to just take a shower and wash away her sorrows. That comment hit the poor girl so hard her soul nearly left her body. But managing to pull herself together, she pointed at the curtain in the shower and asked if that picture was of the wolf tribe idol Oak Gigi, and heard the girl confirming. She explained that the guy was her idol, which was why his picture was hanging there. Hearing that, the cowgirl told the girl she knew him, since back in her farm he was one of her regular customers. She even bragged that his body in person looked way better than in the picture. Seeing her sparkly eyes, the girl leaned in closer and whispered in her ear that Oak had personally told her the reason he kept his body so toned was because it attracted more male wolves. Hearing that the man of her dreams was actually gay, the poor girl's whole world shattered and she fell to her knees in disbelief. As for the cowgirl, she proudly marched towards the shower with this victory under her belt. As for our hero, who had been watching everything in silence, he couldn't help but be terrified of her, since even though she looked completely fragile, the girl was actually frighteningly brutal. After some time, he was seen enjoying a warm cup of tea, telling the girl not to act so depressed. He reminded her there were plenty of other idols out there, and he was sure she'd find a new favorite soon. After all, girls these days swap idols like they change outfits. To his shock, the girl, between hiccups and sobs, told him he was right, since she fell in love with that idol just today. The kid was left completely speechless, not knowing what to say anymore. So, out of desperation, he blurted out that maybe she should go for female idols instead, since in his opinion they were way better than male ones anyway. The moment the words left his mouth, he instantly regretted saying that, but at least it worked, since the girl started sparkling, thanking him for trying to cheer her up. Our hero, flustered by her gratitude, started blushing and told her it was no big deal. But then the girl said something that the kid wasn't ready for, as she pointed out that the label over his head was different compared to other people she had seen so far. That shocked our hero, and he wondered who this child really was, since unlike the rest of the NPCs, she was able to see the labels over people's heads just like him. Next chapter, and they were sitting across the table, with the kid asking the girl who she really was. And the girl, clearly trying to dodge the question, just tilted her head, saying she already told him her name earlier, and then started introducing herself all over again. But the kid wasn't in the mood for games, so he pointed out she knows exactly what he meant. Seeing no other way, the girl decided to tell him everything. She explained that she originally came from a clan of werewolves, the strongest race among beast folks, but unlike her siblings, she was born different, basically a worthless trash who can't do anything right. With that, the story cuts to the day she was born. Unlike a normal werewolf child who are born healthy and strong, she was so weak that she wasn't even able to drink her own mother's milk properly. And because of that, her mother tossed her aside to die on her own, blaming her for being ashamed to her family's name. At that moment, when she heard those words come out of the woman's lips, something in her changed, and unlike before, her will to survive flared up. Because of that intense hunger and anger burning inside of her, she awakened a special ability. And the first thing she did after awakening that ability was to call her mother a bitch for screwing around with the neighbor, and threatened her if she didn't get her act right, she was going to expose her little secret hobby to the whole tribe. Yeah, safe to say the kid was not expecting the story to take that turn. On top of that, her ability to read other people's stats was way too overpowered for a normal NPC. But before he could recover from that trauma, he heard the girl telling him she doesn't want to talk about that, since that only makes her sad, especially since she lost her life because of that incident. Yeah, like he was interested in something like that, it was her who brought up that story in the first place. But still, he was curious about something. So he called out to the girl, asking if she really got rid of her own mother just because she didn't love her. But the girl shot that down immediately, saying she may not have loved her, but she was still her mother, so no way she could ever do something like that to her. She explained that the one who got her killed was the very person who she was sleeping with. Turns out she was afraid that this secret of hers might get exposed in front of the whole tribe, so she tried getting rid of the man, but the guy was one step ahead of her. The kid just sighed, since everyone in her story was a complete disaster. But just then, he got startled when the girl suddenly turned her attention back to him, and before he could even ask what she wanted, the girl straight up pointed at him, asking if that red text appeared on his head because he slept with someone he shouldn't have. The kid practically choked, denying it, panicking like crazy. Seeing him flustered, the girl took his hand and softly said she believed him. The kid actually felt touched, seeing how sweet the kid was. But of course, the smug little wolf girl had to ruin the moment with a burn. And to the kid's horror, the girl called him a coward who was running for his life from a woman, to the point that he even lost his pants, so she completely believes he doesn't have the guts to pull something like that. Yeah, at that point, the poor guy didn't know if he should be flattered or offended at that comment. But then the girl pointed at the bar over his head, saying the thing was massive compared to any other person she met so far, which meant he was someone super powerful before that label turned red. But then she pointed out that he would need to take out someone extremely powerful if he wanted that thing to fill all the way. That caught the kid's attention, so he asked the girl if she knew of someone like that. The girl answered she did see someone like that recently, but before she could spill the details, they both heard Cowgirl's voice from the back, asking the little wolf pup to grab her another bar of soap. Yeah, the girl instantly dropped that topic and, like a loyal fangirl, sprinted off to do as her mistress was saying. As for the kid, the bastard was eyeing an opportunity, and oh boy, I can already sense fan service building up in the air. By then, the girl managed to find another soap bar, but before that, she turned to the kid, asking if he could take care of the tea for her, while she helped the girls with the washing. But of course, the kid wasn't exactly known for his domestic skills, so he told the girl not to concern herself with such trivial tasks and leave that cleaning part to him while she takes care of the tea. Before the girl even processed that, the guy snatched the soap bar from her hand and bolted straight at the shower to take a peek at the heavenly sight that awaited him. Just as he was about to hand her the soap, the thing, accidentally slipped from his hand. But no way he was going to let that soap bar hit the ground, so he instantly sprang into action to save the soap, and in perfect rom-com fashion, slipped right inside the shower. With that, he raised his gaze toward the heaven, eager to see the divine sight that awaited him, but the moment his eyes landed on the beauties, he froze in disbelief. Okay, now what the actual F was the artist thinking here? Damn, I had my hopes up for nothing. Anyways, the kid, seeing the sight of a scaly dragon and a fat cow standing in front of him, started screaming, and I bet he was thinking about clawing his eyes out. But guess what, boys? That was just the appetizer. Don't forget about the thick-thighed princess whose toes that guy was sucking on not too long ago. Even the two beast girls started shivering, hearing Princess Olive offering to scrub their backs, cause guess what? Under that dainty royal dress was actually a gigachad. The poor guy who had his hopes up for the only girl he knew was a human, just stared at her in disbelief. And after confirming he wasn't hallucinating, the guy just froze, wondering what kind of monsters had he been traveling with all this time. Next panel, one fist, one hoof, and a claw were seen flying straight toward his face, After a beatdown of a full 5 minutes, the kid came out of the shower looking like a swollen dumpling. And of course, the smug little runt was waiting for him with that trademark smirk of hers. But before she could hit him with another burn, she suddenly froze. Seeing the reaction from the kid, the guy was straight up crying, warning the wolf girl that what he saw in there was far worse than she could ever imagine. Just then they heard Olive's voice from inside the shower, asking the kid if he was calling them fat or something. Turning to the side, the little fangirl stared at the girl with sparkly eyes. Meanwhile, the poor kid was already fearing for his life. I mean, let's be real, that woman had guns thicker than his head. But what came out of the shower wasn't a Giga Chad anymore, but a stunning beauty with melons the size of, melons. I mean, what kind of clothes are these anyway? As soon as they put them on, they turn into these stunning baddies. Is this some kind of magical transformation outfit? Like Cinderella's glass slippers or something? Anyways, the girl walked up straight toward Pup, telling her not to pay attention to that guy's stupidity, and asked if she didn't have anything better for her to wear. Just then, another voice came from the shower, calling for Olive, and oh boy, it was a sight to behold, alright. Anyways, the cowgirl stepped out next, asking the kid if she could find her something else to wear. Apparently, most of her outfit's fabric had retreated to cover her chest, leaving the lower half with, well, minimal coverage. Let's just say. Her statement triggered 3 very different reactions. The wolf pup stood there in awe, absolutely dazzled. Olive looked equally stunned, though hers was more judging the competition, and the kid, yeah, he just saw a cow standing there, literally. Just then they heard a loud scream erupting from the shower, startling everyone, and the kid, fearing that something happened to his dragon girl, instantly sprang into action. Man, why does he always treat the poor cowgirl like that? Anyways, unlike last time, when he entered the shower once more, his heart went into full alert mode, cause there she was, dragon girl, all wet and shaking, struggling to put on the clothes on that thick frame of hers. So naturally, she called out for the kid to help. But just as the bastard was about to get lucky, the pup came running into the shower and pointed at the dragon girl, telling the kid she was the powerful person he wanted to kill in order to raise that bar over his head. Oh boy, the dragon girl did not look happy hearing that the kid was planning on killing her, so she asked if what that girl was saying was really true. Next panel, whack. A thunderous smack from her tail sent the guy hurling through the air. Cut a couple of minutes and it was already nighttime, and everyone was getting ready to head to bed. Since the place only had one bedroom, all of them were to sleep on the floor. But the kid didn't mind. He just thanked the girl, since at least they had a roof over their heads because of her. Just then, the furious dragon girl came barging into the room, snatching the pillow right out of his hands. Still salty about earlier, she turned toward the kid and asked if she was the only person in the group that wasn't good enough for him. Before he even got a chance to open his mouth, she was already marching off, kicking the poor cowgirl's fun bag in anger, saying if that was the case, she won't sleep with him anymore. As for the little pup, she wanted nothing to do with this drama, so she quietly wished the kid good night and bolted out of the room. With no other choice, the kid slumped down onto his bed, staring up at the ceiling, thinking to himself, what did he do to deserve this fate? My boy, you are sleeping with 3 absolute baddies, and you are complaining to God how ungrateful you are. But on the other hand, I couldn't blame him either. These ladies may look like beauties, but underneath those clothes is a whole different story. Just as all that was going through his head, the kid suddenly got an idea. And oh boy, I don't know what he was thinking, but he was clearly asking for death right there. And sure enough, the girl wasn't asleep and asked what he thought he was doing. But lucky for him, she didn't decide to circumcise him on the spot, and told him that form of hers only appears when she is taking a shower. Curious, the kid asked what she meant by that. She explained that it was a sort of curse, or maybe a side effect from spending so many years with a dragon. Apparently, she used to take baths with the dragon girl when they lived together in that cave, and over time, something about the dragon's magic rubbed off on her. The kid was already imagining that nonsense story, wondering how something like that could even happen. On top of that, she was supposed to be kidnapped by the dragon girl, but from how she was talking, it felt more like they were living like sisters, and less like a captive. And sure enough, seeing him staring at her like that, Olive told the kid that the relations between the two of them weren't exactly how the world thought they were. She explained that at first she also thought the dragon living in that cave was a ferocious monster who was trying to eat her. But gradually, as time passed, she realized that the creature wasn't a ferocious monster like everyone said. She was just lonely and wanted a friend to play with. With that, the story then cuts to the day Olive was trapped inside the cave. Starving and weak, she had already given up hope when suddenly, out of nowhere, a fish came flying toward her from the darkness. Turns out it was the dragon who brought her the thing. After realizing she was hungry, from that day on, as time passed, she gradually realized that the dragon was actually far kinder to her compared to the people who left her inside that place to die. And guess who the mastermind behind that was? Her very own parents, who tricked the girl into believing that her brother was trapped inside the dragon's cave. Turns out that stupid kid, one day while playing, ran into the cave of the dragon, and since they needed someone to distract the dragon long enough to save the prince, they chose their own daughter since no one else was stupid enough to set foot inside that place. Back then, they promised her that once she lured the thing away and gave her brother a chance to escape the cave, they would come right after to save her. But instead of coming to rescue her, they took the kid and fled the place, leaving her behind as bait to buy them time to escape. That was when she realized that the people she trusted most in her life never cared about her at all. And that's why she chose to stay in that cave with the dragon. Not because she wanted to, but because it was the only place where she was truly accepted. Cut to the present. And of course, the kid ruined such a heartfelt moment by opening that big mouth of his, saying that meant the girl actually liked the dragon. The girl instantly denied it, saying she was only repaying her kindness, nothing more. But then, out of nowhere, she grabbed the kid by the collar and told him to carve these words into his head. If she ever found out he was anything like those filthy knights before him who tried to hurt that girl, she'd personally send him straight to the afterlife. Next panel, bam, a fist came flying out of nowhere, smashing the girl right on her chin, and guess who? The same dragon she was just defending like 5 seconds ago. Meanwhile, the kid just stared at the sight in disbelief, unsure of whether to check up on her or just let her doze off into the dream world. Just then, the dragon girl suddenly sprang up and flopped her way right into the kid's lap. And the kid, after hearing that story and seeing how peaceful she looked, actually started seeing the girl in a different light. So he decided to help her lay down so she could get some proper sleep. But just then, he suddenly spotted something and froze. It was a scar on the girl's face, which strangely hadn't healed yet for some reason. He wondered if it was from that time when he accidentally dropped her while running from the pig girl. And since he was the one who gave her that scar, he checked the progress bar over his head out of curiosity and froze. That tiny little scar on the girl's face was worth 10 points. Seeing this, the kid's emotions started spiraling out of control as he tried to process that thought, and boom, he straight up started crying, realizing he was the one who injured his precious dragon girl and hoped this wouldn't leave a scar on her face. Little did he know, the little pup was actually watching the whole scene unfold in silence, and judging by that mischievous glint in her eyes, she was definitely up to something. With that, she got on her bed, and using a magic ball, which was some kind of a magical communication device, she started contacting someone to report the progress of what she learned so far, saying this person was the best candidate to be the Dragon Knight since he managed to win the trust of the evil dragon in such a short amount of time. On the other end of the orb was Logi's. Yeah, remember her? Because I completely forgot she even existed. Turns out she was a little busy, and judging by the sounds coming through the orb, maybe a bit too busy, that even caught the pup off guard, since for some reason the girl was actually moaning. Concerned, the pup asked if everything was alright, and the girl, with that expression on her face I can't describe here, told the pup she was fine. But guess what, boys? She was more than fine, since she was in the middle of something which couldn't be described here because, you know, not safe for public discussion. So, pretending like nothing was happening, Logis quickly changed the subject and told the pup to bring the boy to her as soon as possible, then abruptly ended the call. Turns out the girl was with someone by the name of Simon, scolding him for doing something like that when she was in the middle of something so serious. And this Simon guy, yeah, the dude had a set of chiseled abs paired with a very sus-looking chest, because I'm pretty damn sure that's not how man boobs are supposed to look. And the cherry on top, he was calling her sister. Let's just hope they're not actually blood-related and it's just one of those Chinese tradition things where everyone calls each other sister, because if not, we're walking straight into forbidden territory. Cut to the next day, the pup was in full persuasive mode, trying to convince everyone to accompany her to the sanctuary. She explained that in his current state, the kid was basically a walking target with a death wish and needed some proper protection. Her pitch? She told everyone about the holy saintess residing in that place who can bestow her protection over the kid. The kid actually considered it since that pig girl was still out there somewhere hunting him down. The girl told him he won't have to worry about that pig if he went there. She was nothing compared to the Wolf Clan's city guards. If he took shelter in the sanctuary, the girl wouldn't even be able to sniff him out. According to her, the place was protected by the 8th generation of kings of the Holy Domain, and everyone there was so strong that she wouldn't even dream of entering the place to cause trouble. Then, without even waiting for their answer, she whipped out some talismans from her pocket, explaining these were Wolf Clan's protection charms. All they had to do was stick them somewhere visible after entering the city, and these would protect them from any danger they might encounter. Yeah, the kid couldn't help but shake the feeling that the girl was just playing with them, but she assured them these things were the real deal. Then she suddenly paused for a second, telling the kid that the road to that place was a very dangerous one, so she wanted to give him another blessing to keep him safe. And before the kid could even understand what she was saying, the girl was already nearing his face, telling him not to hate her for this. Dear God, I really hope she's not underage. Next thing the kid knew, bam, she pinched his cheek with her mouth, or straight up bit him. Whatever it was, it caught the kid off guard and he dropped to his knees. Meanwhile, the pup herself was drooling for some reason. As it turns out, that little peck on the kid's cheek wasn't just for show. That was her way of bestowing some kind of ability on a person, since her saliva contained the power of a seer, which lets her grant others the ability to see things normally hidden from human eyes. Sure enough, when the kid tried focusing, he was able to see everyone's progress bars. But the girls completely misunderstood and thought that he gained some kind of X-ray vision or something. But the kid didn't even bother explaining. He was more interested in the bars over their heads, and then he turned towards the cowgirl for some reason and started glaring at her from head to toe. Turns out the girl, unlike the rest, didn't have a progress bar over her head. But she, mistaking that he was ogling her naked body, warned him not to stare at her like that. Before the kid could even explain, the pup dropped a verbal nuke. She said the reason he couldn't see anything on her was because it was so small and weak that it couldn't even be seen, even with her powers. But the girl misunderstood it again and puffed up her prized possessions in front of them, asking if they were blind to be calling them small. By then, the dragon girl was boiling, partly from jealousy, partly from pure disgust. The kid had been staring at the other girls way too long for her liking, so she decided to, how should I put it, even the playing field. She told the kid that he was probably tired of watching those big bouncy things all the time, so she was going to show him something different today. Oh boy, the kid's brain short-circuited. He started drooling, imagining all kinds of very not PG things. And yup, the girl lifted her dress, but the reaction she got from the kid wasn't what she was expecting, since the kid straight up screamed how it was even bigger than his. And yup, everyone in the room misunderstood real fast. But the poor guy was just talking about the progress bar over the girl's head, and the strange thing was, only a small portion of her bar was unlocked, the rest of it was still to be unlocked. This got the kid wondering if it meant the girl had the potential of growing even stronger, and the pup told him it was exactly that. She explained that the girl still needed to awaken her bloodline. Curious, the kid asked what this bloodline was and how to unlock it, but the girl had no clue. She also pointed out that the Saintess probably knew about that, so they could ask her once they reached her domain. That got the kid thinking. If the Saintess really hated the dragon girl for being an evil entity, she would have sent an army after her by now to get rid of her. But since she hasn't made a move on her yet, this means she could be someone he could trust. Just then, the girl started screaming at the kid, telling him if he wanted her forgiveness, he better bring her something delicious to eat. That annoyed him, but still, he knew if the Saintess could help him unlock her bloodline, then this trip would be worth it after all. As for the girl, seeing him staring at her like that, she actually calmed down a little, and the kid, totally hyped up about everything, took her in his arms and declared they were going to head out and see the Saintess. Yeah, neither of the girls were happy he made that decision without even asking them, especially Cowgirl, since she was still angry at the fact he called one thing about her that she was proud of small. As for the pup, yeah, she was already smirking that her little bait worked beautifully. Cut to some other place, a bunch of orcs were seen running for their lives from something. Somehow they managed to stumble back into their lair, panting, wheezing. They warned the person to stay back if he valued his life, but the person wasn't intimidated one bit. Instead, he showed them the bodies of their fallen brothers and asked if these were the ones they were talking about. And guess what? This is our hero, who somehow became OP again and was now mopping the floor with these creatures. As for the monsters, they went into a frenzy, seeing their whole tribe turn into roadkill by one kid. But our hero, he wasn't afraid. He simply raised his blade and like a flash appeared behind the three monsters, taking them out with one clean sweep. Just then, another monster appeared out of nowhere to ambush the kid. And just as its stick was inches away from his head, Olive appeared, slashing the thing clean in half. Okay, pause. When did these guys get so cool? All I saw them do until now was scream and run for their lives. Well, at least the two of them were being cool. Cowgirl still looked like she was about to faint from sheer terror. Dragon Girl wasn't even taking it seriously and was munching on some coins. And as for Pup, well, she was just being Pup. After taking care of all the small fry, the kid thanked Pup, since if it wasn't for her blessing, he wouldn't have gained so much experience. Turns out, even though he was facing an opponent with a green text hovering over their head, as long as their number was lower than his, he could still inflict damage to them. After a long journey of farming experience from those orcs, the party finally managed to arrive at their destination, which meant only one thing: more waifus to be unlocked. Just as they were about to head out, Pup stopped the kid, telling him that many bandits and refugees usually camp outside the city walls, so they should stay on guard since there was a high chance they might get ambushed. But as they arrived outside the gate, there was no one there, not even the city guards. This got Pup wondering what was going on, since this place was always packed with people. On top of that, the ground beneath their feet looked completely different. It used to be barren. Just as she said that, the whole thing underneath their feet suddenly shattered. But thankfully, the kid, thinking fast, managed to save all of the waifus in time, and using this chance, he moved them safely a few meters away. But guess what? Tentacles. I don't like where this is going. As all of them were trying to process what was going on, more vines started appearing from underneath the ground with the bodies of all the guards and adventurers, and somehow, all of them were still alive, just sucked dry by something. Just then, they suddenly heard a person's voice coming from the side and got on their guard. Turning toward it, they saw a gigantic flower blooming out of the earth, followed by not so thick but still silky-looking thighs. And finally, they saw a female NPC sitting inside the massive flower, who straight up told them she was going to suck them dry just like the ones before them. Next chapter, and the psycho woman was already attacking the kid, trying to break through his barrier, and guess what? She actually managed to shatter it. And with the barrier broken, the things went straight toward the women, completely ignoring him because, tentacles. But then, in the middle of all that chaos, the kid suddenly saw something strange. Every tentacle in the place had a bar hovering over it. Seeing how weak their number was, he started attacking the things, telling the girls to do the same. But there were too many, and Olive suggested they try and run. The kid told them these things were weak, and with their current strength, they could easily deal with them. Hearing that, Olive decided to do as the kid was saying. And what did the artist do here when it was finally time for some intense, over-the-top women in peril fan service action time? A crime, really, a federal-level offense against the audience. Anyways, just as the kid said, the things were nothing in front of them, and they easily managed to take out several of them with ease. As for the kid himself, he was still looking for the main body of the thing that was controlling all these vines. That's when he spotted the tentacle lady watching the whole thing from above, and behind her was her giant flower. The girl was actually communicating with the thing, calling it Barbara. As for the kid, he noticed the creature's massive bar and wondered if that could be the thing he was looking for. Oh boy, that's when he heard the woman casually telling the creature to wrap this up quickly so they could head back because she wanted to act spoiled again. Man, even the kid was starting to suspect something sus was going on between them. Just then, he suddenly heard another voice from the back telling him he was wasting his time. Turning around, he saw a blonde NPC, aka a proud punching bag soon to be put in his place. The kid noticed that the number on that guy's head was at 1400, which meant he was stronger compared to a normal NPC. Just as he was thinking that, he heard the guy telling him to get his dragon lady to summon lightning to take care of all these vines, after which he'd take care of the rest. But the kid had no clue what he was talking about. On top of that, he asked the guy who he thought he was, trying to order him around. That struck a nerve. But the guy, trying to hold his anger, called the kid a foolish person, asking if he even knew the basics about taming a dragon. He told the kid that when a dragon is extremely furious out of jealousy, they can unleash their full power. Then, this guy didn't stop there. He went full suicidal with his next line. He straight up told the kid to hand over that woman to him, since clearly he doesn't have what it takes to even satisfy an ordinary female, let alone a dragon girl. Next panel, whack, a thunderous slap right on the bastard's face. Yeah, that was enough to put the guy in his place. But still, he had the audacity to ask if the kid even knew who he just raised his hand against. The kid, clearly not giving a flying F, told him he doesn't care, but he made one thing clear, that girl was his woman and his alone. Next time he said something like that, he'd end up with more than just a swollen face. But of course he didn't stop there. He pointed to the rest of the ladies, telling the guy he actually had 4 of them, and so far had no problem taking care of their needs. Hearing him use them to brag like that, Olive snapped, reminding the kid they had more important things to do than waste time on chatter. But guess what? That bragging actually worked, since the guy, boiling with jealousy, sprang up, trying to headbutt the kid for showing off like that, and that was all the reaction the kid was waiting for. He told the guy he may be level 1400, but he, on the other hand, was maxed out, so he didn't need his help in taking care of that tentacle lady. On the other hand, the lady herself wasn't even paying any attention toward them. She was too busy with her monster friend. And oh dear God, that is one massive tongue the creature has. As for the girl, she told the thing to finish off that dragon girl first. Hearing her command, the creature let out a loud screech and threw its tentacles straight towards the dragon girl, and before the girl knew it, she was in the creature's grasp, hanging upside down as it dragged her away. In the middle of all that chaos, the girl accidentally dropped her gold coin, and guess what? The thing landed right in the kid's hand, who was planning on testing what the blonde guy had said earlier about making the girl jealous to unleash her full strength. With that, he started carving his way through all the vines in his path to save the girl from the tentacles. Seeing how he was risking his own life to save her, the girl was practically sparkling, but to her absolute shock, the kid, just as he was about to catch her, completely ignored her and bolted straight past. Turns out the kid's real target wasn't the dragon girl at all, it was someone else entirely. Yup, the tentacle lady, a flat-chested botanical nightmare who had no clue what even happened. Seeing what the kid just did, the dragon girl froze. Next thing everyone saw was the whole sky getting dark with thick storm clouds rolling in and lightning crackling everywhere. Looking down, they saw the dragon girl who was about to go berserk, and sure enough, the girl's whole body was radiating with murderous aura as she demanded that the kid return her coin to her. As for the fool himself, he knew he might have gone a little too overboard. Meanwhile, the girl's power meter was going absolutely nuts, and just as the kid had feared, bam, a powerful lightning attack landed right on him. As for the other girls, they had their own share of troubles since those tentacles were starting to get really bold with Olive. As for Cowgirl, she was more worried about the kid being roasted alive by the psycho he just crossed. Meanwhile, she herself was now going after the flat chest to rescue her coin before something bad happened to it. Seeing this, the girl realized she might actually be in trouble, so she ordered her tentacle friend to curl up into a tree and stop that woman's rampage. As soon as she said that, all the tentacles that were groping the girls suddenly started contracting, going back towards the massive flower thing, and within seconds, the thing turned into a massive tree that absorbed all the lightning from the clouds. But that was just the beginning. The flat chest, now fully ready to take care of the dragon girl with her own hands, sprung into action and told the thing to manifest her poison sword for her. But turns out it wasn't just a poison sword, it was also loaded with all that lightning the monster had just absorbed. I guess I was wrong, it didn't absorb all the lightning since the kid was still being fried. But somehow, instead of his health dropping, he was actually absorbing the electricity, getting stronger from it. On the other hand, the flat chest was getting ready to end the dragon girl. Seeing this, the rest of the ladies realized they all might be in serious trouble, because the energy pouring off that sword was unlike anything they'd seen before. Just as they were wondering what kind of sword it was, a voice from the back informed them that the thing was called the Sword of Tui, said to be able to cut through all evil of living things. Turning around, they saw it was the same blonde from earlier. On the other hand, the flat chest was now inches away from skewering the dragon girl. But at the final second, a hand appeared, grabbing her by her hair. Yup, it was our hero, who was warning the girl that if she even laid a scratch on her, he was going to rip her head off. Before the girl could even process what was happening to her, the guy started absorbing all the electricity from her sword, and from the looks of it, he wasn't planning on stopping there. He had his eyes on a much bigger prize. Even the girl was starting to feel funky with him standing so close to her, and because of that, she lost all control over her body. Using this to his advantage, the kid started twisting the sword towards her instead, and bam, he drove the thing right into her stomach. But instead of pain, from what I can tell, she was feeling something else entirely. Just as he did that, her plant friends started going berserk, seeing a man laying hands on her woman, and started hurling massive trees towards the dragon girl. Next panel, and the girl was now somehow on the ground, not even trying to move out of the way. And just as she was about to get pancaked, the kid appeared and blasted all those trees into ashes, and even took down the massive flower thing in one go. And the thing went plummeting to the ground. After he was done taking care of the thing, he took the dragon girl in his arms, and for some reason he was holding her by her mouth, asking if she was okay. As he was busy with that, he failed to realize that the creature, using what little strength it had left, had picked up flat chest and was about to devour her whole. And bam, the thing bit down on her without any hesitation. And not gonna lie, this part is a little sus. Anyway, the dragon girl was still angry at the kid, who was promising to get her something delicious to eat when this was finally over. He told the girl he even had her favorite gold coins with him, which he never gave to anyone, and tossed 2 of them in her mouth to eat. As soon as those things hit her stomach, the girl instantly calmed down and even thanked him by cleaning his fingers in a climate-friendly way. Man, this guy is living the dream. As for the girl, she asked why he lied to her about giving her gold coins to that lady, and the kid apologized, saying this was the last time and promised he won't ever do something like that to her again. And bam, the girl started smacking him around, promising that this will be her last as well, that she won't beat him again like this. But we all know that's never gonna happen. Anyway, somehow those smacks from the dragon girl were actually filling up the kid's energy bar. As for the girl, after she was done letting out all that pent-up frustration, she finally rewarded the kid with a hug, thanking him for the gold coins. And the kid, seeing her acting all soft and sweet like that, actually felt his heart skip a beat. Meanwhile, off to the side, Olive was getting all giddy watching the two act so lovey-dovey like that. Felt like she was watching her favorite romance drama unfold live, while Pup was lost in her own thoughts, mostly wondering who was actually taming who here. On top of that, the fact that the kid was able to absorb the girl's attacks to increase his own strength was something she never expected or even heard of. As all that was going on, Olive suddenly shouted for both of them to watch out. Hearing her voice, the kid instantly got on guard, took the dragon girl, and moved out of the way as something shot past them at jaw-dropping speed. As the dust slowly started to clear up, he saw a figure standing in the middle. Turns out it was the flat chest, who was now looking even more powerful than before. The girl showed him her new shield, which was apparently her trump card, even more powerful than the sword. The kid, however, was more focused on her exposed, slim, and smooth stomach. Turns out when that creature devoured her earlier, it actually turned itself into those clothes she was wearing, and through that, it was transferring its power into her body, giving her this crazy strength boost. Seeing how strong she got after merging with the thing, the kid actually grew concerned. Just as he was wondering how to deal with her, the girl started charging up for another attack, and like a flash, she leaped straight towards the kid. But I guess she wasn't that fast after all, since the dragon girl even had the time to taunt her, saying she was just jealous he didn't give her the real gold coin. Yeah, that definitely pissed her off even more. But just as she was about to slam them both to the ground, the kid used her own shield to propel both of them into the air. But the problem was, he didn't really think about what to do after that. And before he got a chance to think, he saw vines coming straight towards them. With no other choice, he shielded the dragon girl so at least she would be saved, since he knew he wasn't getting out of this alive. Just as all hope seemed lost, the blonde finally sprang into action and started summoning his familiars, some cheap Pikachu knockoffs he called electric mice. And the things, without wasting any time, started charging towards the flat chest, who was caught completely off guard. Before she even had the time to react, she was on her knees with the creatures nibbling their way through her monster friend that was covering her body, using their sharp teeth. But the girl, still not giving up, tried fighting back to free herself, but the things had already drained a lot of her strength. As she was distracted with the tiny creatures, the kid used the chance to sneak up on her and summoned his blade. Seeing him coming, the girl raised her shield to block his attack. But guess what? The kid easily managed to shatter through the thing with just one strike. And with that, the flat chest, who from this angle was looking like average chest, went flying through the air. But the kid wasn't done. That was just the first part of his plan. His eyes were now set on something else. To be specific, her tentacle friend, since he wanted to make that thing his own. And sure enough, he did. And since that part was taken care of, it was time for payback for what she did to all of them earlier. And the kid wasn't planning on going easy on her either. Next chapter, and the girl was thrown on her back like a rag doll, one leg tied to her arms and in a very compromising position. Just then, the bastard walked up to her, and guess what? He called the girl by her name, Kulita, but I'm still gonna call her Flat Chest. Anyone has a problem with that? Well, too bad. Anyway, the guy mentions someone by the name of Miss Shirley Hong and shows surprise she chose her of all people. And the girl, knowing full well she can't fight back anymore, just calls him a despicable bastard, saying even if he beat her, the holy maiden would never let someone like him obtain a divine pet. Since guess what? According to her, the guy was the lowest of the low scumbags who treated his pets like tools. Even pups sighed in frustration since, from the looks of those rodents, the girl wasn't lying. But she also pointed out that the person was actually a very powerful tamer, and the only reason he got captured by that flower was because he exhausted most of his lightning power in the first battle. Of course, the bastard wasn't going to let a chance to show off slide, and called Pup a smart girl, explaining it was all thanks to the dragon girl's lightning that he was able to recharge his rat's power. Then he started bragging, saying if he had faced off against this woman with his rats at full charge, he would have easily turned her into ashes. He grabbed her by the mouth mid-brag to remind her she lost, so she had no right to judge how he treated his pets. With that, he picked up the girl, calling to the kid, telling him he didn't have time to waste since he needed to enter the city as soon as possible, so he would be taking this woman with him. God, someone please teach this guy a lesson already. As for the kid, seeing him acting so smug, he was planning to put him in his place alright. So he told the bastard he was also going into the city, and snapping his fingers, he freed the girl and suggested they tag along with him. This surprised the girl, but the kid wasn't done. He told the bastard since he was the one who beat this woman, it was his responsibility to hand her over to the proper authorities. And by the way, that green paint on her body? It's just the artist. Right now, the girl is in her default skin. And since our Chad is a gentleman, he covered her up using his jacket. And turning towards the blonde, he told him he won't take no for an answer. After all, not like he had the strength to stop him anyway. Oh boy, that hit a nerve. The guy's whole body started twitching, veins bulging like he was about to Hulk out right then and there. But deep down, he knew he didn't have a choice, so he reluctantly agreed. With that, they arrived in front of the massive gate where some kind of light scanned them for a bit. And guess what? Turns out the girl was actually a student at the academy inside this place. After the thing was done scanning, it opened the massive gate, welcoming everyone to the city of Sanctuary. And the sight that greeted them, let's just say it froze the entire gang on the spot. I'll be blunt here, the place was crawling with all kinds of freaks, beastmen getting freaky with humans, humans getting freaky with beastmen, a whole circus of chaos. And right in the middle of it all stood our hero, drooling, eyes glued to the rear of a passing wolf girl. Death was already looming behind him, but the guy, completely ignoring all of them, went straight toward a poster in the distance. The poster had, well, offers, a bunny girl for 1,000, a Black Panther girl for 3,000, and even a mermaid for 5,000. While the kid was busy being distracted by all that nonsense, the blonde had already snatched up Flat Chest, quite literally, and was planning something nasty to get back at her for making him look like a fool earlier. The next thing anyone knew, the guy tossed her into the middle of the street. No clothes, no nothing. His plan? To turn her into a laughingstock in front of the entire academy. He even mocked her, saying naked pet trainers had become a crowd favorite lately, so she was going to have to work really hard today for everyone. Just then, the kid heard some commotion in the distance and wondered what was going on. By then, the girl was already surrounded from all sides by the freaks, every single one of them eyeing her as their next prey. One of the bastards even prepared to go all out. Seeing this, the girl realized there was no saving her anymore. But just then, the man's hand suddenly stopped on its own. Turning around, she heard a familiar voice calling for her, saying he doesn't exactly like her bad temper and vicious personality, but that doesn't mean he'll watch a beautiful woman being ruined by some ugly guys in front of him. Yup, it was our hero. As for the bastards, they didn't appreciate being interrupted like that, nor did they like the fact he called them ugly. Yeah, right, the kid was just seeing them as walking experience points. But just as he was about to teach them a lesson, Pup stopped him for some reason. She told the kid that they were in the middle of the town right now, and if they made a big scene, they'd get overrun quickly. And with a deviant grin on her face, she suggested they use the summoning talismans to summon the wolf army instead. Yeah, the kid instantly vanished from the place and approached the girls, telling them to quickly bring out their talismans since he threw his away the moment they left the house. Guess what? So did the rest of them, since they were thinking the girl was pulling their leg or something. Cowgirl even admitted to using it as toilet paper. Just as they were discussing that, a violent flash of energy shot past them, but they managed to get out of the way at the final second. It was the same bastard from earlier who did not appreciate that after all his big talk and provocation, they were just straight up ignoring him now. On top of that, he was now craving something else. Guess who? Dragon Girl. Since this was his first time seeing a female beast like her. Yeah, the kid just stared at the guy while he tried acting like a big man, saying he was going to nibble on her tail all night long. Next panel, bam! A powerful kick landed right on the bastard's face and he went flying away into the distance, crashing right next to Flat Chest. But guess what? He still had the strength to stand back up and was shocked to see how strong the kid was. Just then, the kid grabbed him by the collar and lifted him into the air, warning him not to stare at his woman with his disgusting eyes. With that, another smack landed on his face for good measure. As for the Dragon Girl, she was enjoying every second of it, seeing how he was fighting for her. But one thing they forgot, the guy wasn't alone. There were more creeps in the place, and seeing their buddy get tossed around like a rag doll, they didn't appreciate that one bit. But guess what? Instead of attacking the kid directly, one of them whipped out a whip and started slashing some of the rat girls in the area instead. Oh boy, not sure what kind of twisted power-up system this world has, but those slashes supercharged the girls, and once they were all juiced up, the guy told them to handle the kid. Yeah, the kid just froze at the sight, unsure of what to even think anymore. And bam, his brain short-circuited again, seeing those women slowly crawling towards him. Next chapter, and little Pup was shouting for our hero to keep his guard up against those beast girls, warning him that those beast girls weren't just eye candy, they were seasoned fighters, and dropping his guard around them was basically an invitation to get folded on the spot. But after getting a good look at their voluptuous figures, our boy dialed in completely. Something in him flipped, his whole body kicked into overdrive, adrenaline flooding in like he just unlocked a hidden power. His strength shot up and his speed sharpened, and apparently all thanks to their boobies. And to everyone's amazement, he easily managed to overpower the rat girl. And seeing the girl struggling, he glanced at little Pup and said, "It's never fun unless a beast girl is ferocious." But despite everything, he had one question. If the looks of a beast girl is affected by their rarity, because compared to his dragon waifu, these girls weren't that cute. Look at the sweet talker. He made the girl blush mid-battle. But then, while trying to restrain the enemy, he noticed their health bar going up for some reason. So he asked Pup what was going on, and the girl told the kid it was because of a curse that was put on these beast girls by their owners. She explained that it was a forbidden mark which sometimes despicable people use on their beast pets to make them stronger. Basically, it turns them into masochists, meaning the more you hit them, the stronger they become. So in other words, these women are forced to keep fighting to their last breath and could never stop. Our hero was disgusted hearing how someone could be so heartless to do something so cruel to their own beast girls. So he decided to take matters into his own hands to calm these girls down and activated a binding spell to restrain them first, before the curse pushed them any further. Although he managed to stop their movement, the scumbag behind them who called themselves their owners were still up, and they were not planning on backing down so easily and prepared to juice up these girls once more so they would continue fighting. And that made our Chad even more irritated that these fools were hiding behind innocent girls to save their own skins. And just like that, the scumbags started lashing the poor beast girls all over again to force them into battle. Thinking fast, our hero took all three of them, trapping them inside a magical barrier or something, and moved them to a safer location before those idiots could do any more damage to them. Just as he was doing that, he heard the dragon girl shouting for him to watch out. Turning around, he saw the three scumbags running towards him with their weapons in hand. Apparently, they didn't appreciate his comment about them hiding behind the beast girls, so they used them as bait to create an opening for themselves so they could properly teach him a lesson with their own hands. With that, the men struck, and our hero was forced to throw up whatever defense he could, and he braced for impact, since he didn't have time to dodge their attacks anymore. But lucky for him, at the final second, Dragon Girl appeared, shielding him with her wings and blocking all their attacks. Not just that, but she even managed to land powerful hits on all their bodies, which stunned the men since they never expected her to be this powerful. Turns out, for some reason, just as the attacks were about to hit our hero, her jealousy meter shot up on its own. Because of that, she tapped back into her true power, and that got the kid thinking what could have caused that to happen, and the answer came sooner than he expected. The girl was jealous that even after he called her cuter than those three girls, he still ignored her and risked his own life to save them, and she wasn't having it that he was giving some random girls so much attention instead of her. Watching the two of them bicker like a couple, Olive drifted straight into her fantasy world, while Pup could only stare in amazement, since it was just as she thought. This man trained the legendary dragon perfectly, that she even risked her own life and came running to save him, meaning this person was the perfect candidate for becoming the dragon tamer for their saintess. As for our hero, he was busy trying to calm the dragon girl down, telling her she was completely misunderstanding the situation. He wasn't choosing anyone over her. He was just trying to help those girls, that was all. But to his shock, instead of answering him, the girl suddenly stepped back from him instead. But it wasn't because she was still angry at him, rather because the place where he touched her had somehow started burning up for some reason. Just then, the girl's whole body flared up in agonizing pain, and that scared the kid since he didn't know what was going on with her, nor did he have any way of fixing it. And to make things worse, he could feel her temperature rising fast as the poor girl clung to him, begging him to do something. With no other way, he tried asking Pup if she knew what was happening to her, but instead heard the voice of one of the goons from the back. Turns out, when the girl attacked him earlier, some of his blood got splattered on her body, and that gave him the opportunity he was looking for. Since she was also a beast girl, he used the chance to bind the girl to him instead, and right now the girl was being forcibly imprinted with him. Oh boy, the kid was not, I repeat, not happy hearing what the man just said about his woman, that he forcibly put her under a spell to steal her away from him. As for the fool, he still had no clue what kind of monster he had just provoked. Only if he knew what happened to that old perverted ghost who tried to take the girl from him not too long ago. But first things first, he needed to help the girl before the imprinting was completed, so he told her to hang in there for a bit while he talked with that man to sort things out. And by talk, he meant anything but talking. Next panel, bam, nobody even knew what happened. All they saw was blood spraying from the fool's face. It was so fast that by the time his brain registered the pain, it was already too late to react. And who else? Our hero, who had completely snapped that a scum like him dared to put his filthy hands anywhere near his woman. Before the man could even blink, smack, the kid straight up slammed his face into the ground, hitting him so hard it left a crater under his skull. But despite the man lying there motionless, the kid wasn't satisfied. He wanted to crack open his skull for even thinking about stealing his woman from him. And bam, another smack. He started smashing the man's face on the ground continuously in frustration while asking Pup if she knew how to break the spell. The girl told the kid there were two ways. One was to give the girl the antidote before the imprint finished, which would cancel the spell, and second was to kill the man in front of him and force stop the imprinting. But the girl urged him not to do that since he had already broken the law of this kingdom by attacking its citizens, and if he goes through with it, he will surely be executed by law. But the kid didn't care. He would rather have his head chopped off by a guillotine than let a scumbag like this steal his woman. And the terrified fool, realizing the kid was really planning on killing him, broke instantly and started begging for his life, promising he would hand him the antidote instead. From a distance, the whole scene was being observed by Logis, who was impressed by everything she had seen so far and told someone this person was indeed the best qualified to be the beast's tamer for the dragon, and asked if they should bring him in to meet the saintess. But from the back she heard Simon's voice, the same guy with those massive bozankas, telling her not to do that. I'm so confused. Simon is supposed to be a dude's name, but what is up with that body? I'll just refer to her as she for now unless proven otherwise in the future. The guy told Logis that she was wrong about this man since he really wasn't qualified to be paired with that dragon girl, and told her to take a closer look at him. Meanwhile on the ground, the man handed our hero the antidote and started backing away, begging him to spare his life. Meanwhile, Simon on the other hand was telling Logis to see how that man was treating the legendary dragon like a delicate flower. Because of that, she had even forgotten her own instincts and had grown weak. And in battle, a beast like that was nothing more than a liability. On top of that, the creature probably doesn't even recognize him as her master, but thinks of them as equals. Logis tried defending the kid, pointing out that both of them haven't even known each other for that long, which was probably the reason the beast didn't acknowledge the kid as its master, and was certain that, given time, he would be able to tame the creature properly. But Simon disagreed, reminding the girl taming a beast was a serious responsibility, especially when it comes to a legendary creature like that dragon, who can't even defend herself anymore because she had grown so weak around a failed tamer, which was why she was deeming that kid unworthy of such a powerful beast and told Logis she will take the monster away from him now and find another suitable master for it. Before Logis could even try to stop her, Simon had already leaped off the massive tower. Just then, Dragon Girl noticed a powerful presence approaching them, and looking up, she saw Simon plummeting towards them from the sky, but there was no time to warn our hero anymore, and the woman smashed the ground like a meteor, resulting in a massive explosion which sent both of them flying through the air. Although injured, our hero was still alive and managed to push himself back onto his feet, and he asked for the person's identity and why were they attacking them. But Simon didn't bother answering his question. Instead, she told him he needed to be more aware of his surroundings, and told him to look down. Surprised, the kid turned towards his hands and saw that Dragon Girl had somehow vanished. Turning back towards the women, he saw in horror she had the girl in her hand and was squeezing her neck, trying to choke her out, telling him he was not worthy of such a beast girl, which was why she came here to take her away, and since she was a legendary creature, the crazy woman even considered devouring this woman herself for her power. That last part shocked both girls, since that woman was clearly talking about eating the dragon girl. On top of that, the woman was crazy strong somehow, since she managed to restrain the dragon girl like it was nothing. That's when they heard Flatchest's voice from the side, who clearly had a thing for big muscular mommies, as she introduced her as the strongest divine beast in the holy domain, and the leader of the wolf army, who had been undefeated for hundreds of years. As for the muscle lady, she was wagging her tail, seeing such a cute fangirl ogling her like that, and clearly she had some questionable intentions towards her. So she told the girls those flattering words won't save her and instructed her to meet with her in her chambers for her punishment after this mess was over. That is when Pup came running to meet with the woman, apologizing for not bringing these people straight to her when she entered the city, but the woman didn't seem to mind, since it gave her a chance to observe the kid in person. On top of that, even if she had brought them straight to them, it wouldn't have changed things, since she was planning on getting rid of this man from the start anyway. That shocked Pup, since she clearly agreed to give the man a chance to prove himself. But turns out that was all an act to trick her into luring this dragon and the boy straight to her, and she told Pup there was no point in hiding it from her, since she knows what she was planning from the start. She was trying to use this man and the dragon to strengthen her own family, hoping that forming good relations with them would help restore their former glory. And that was something she wouldn't let happen no matter what, and made it clear this dragon belonged to her master and no one else. Just as she was busy talking, she sensed an attack coming towards her and quickly got out of the way. It was our hero who finally had enough of everyone trying to steal his women from him ever since he came to this place, and warned the girl to let go of her immediately. But the crazy girl had no such intentions and even mocked the kid, that she was disappointed at his strength, since she was hoping for him to be faster than that. Yeah, he already knew he wasn't strong enough to take her head on. Still, there was one thing working in his favor. The label floating above her head was bright red, which meant he was cleared to use every ability he had on her. Thinking that he summoned multiple swords to attack the woman and hurled all of them straight towards the muscle lady, but she managed to move out of the way with ease. But turns out those swords were just a distraction, and she saw two more of the swords coming towards her from the side, which left her with no way of dodging or blocking them, since she was still in mid-air. But the sly one had other ways of defending herself, and she yanked the dragon girl in front of her and used her as a shield. Even the rest of the girls were disgusted seeing how far the woman was willing to go just to save her own skin. As for our hero, he was forced to defend the girl in order to save his waifu, and so he quickly canceled out that skill and shattered the two swords before they could stab into the dragon girl. But in doing so, he left himself wide open, and the cunning fox wasn't letting go of this opportunity. She launched herself straight at the kid and landed a powerful blow to his body, resulting in the kid losing the strength to fight back and plummeted to the ground. And the last thing he saw while falling was the poor dragon girl trying to reach out to him, while the woman beside her called him a soft-hearted fool for falling for such an obvious trap. Seeing that the kid was in no shape to fight anymore, Olive lost it and started running to try and catch him before he slammed to the ground. But before they could even take several steps, giant tails appeared out of nowhere, restraining both her and the cowgirl. As for the kid, he got slammed back to the ground violently, but it wasn't over. The crazy woman threw another one of her tails towards the kid and managed to grab him by his neck. Seeing his condition, Dragon Girl told the kid to forget about her and run with the others, but the woman told her she wasn't going to let that happen, since none of the people she cared about were walking out of this place alive, because they were responsible for her current weak state. So while they are still alive, she could never become the powerful dragon they want her to be, and with that, she started squeezing the two girls using the tails to crush both of them to death. As for the kid, she was planning to save him for the very last. Seeing their condition, the Dragon Girl begged her to stop, promising to do whatever she wants as long as she lets go of her friends, while Olive shouted for her to forget about them and take on that woman instead. But the girl knew she wasn't strong enough to protect any of them, and because of that, she started crying, telling our hero to get up and save himself, since she doesn't want to see them die. Meanwhile, Pup, who had been watching everything in silence, was left shocked after what she just saw, since according to the legend, a dragon only sheds tears for the person closest to them, which meant she was right about this kid. Both of them had already formed a deep bond with each other, but none of that mattered to the crazy woman. She slammed the kid into the ground again with so much force that blood started gushing out of his mouth. Seeing this, the girl lost it and lunged at the crazy woman to rip her to shreds, but it was no use. The woman was just too strong. She caught the Dragon Girl with almost no effort and restrained her again, locking her in place like a toy. But Dragon Girl, still not giving up, called her despicable for using such underhanded tactics to fight her opponents, despite claiming to be the strongest divine beast in the holy domain, and that did not sit well with Simon. And the woman grabbed her by her mouth, telling her that everything that was happening to that man was her fault, because she got so weak, wasting time with that weakling, and forgot her true nature. And now, because of that, she was going to lose everything. Oh boy. The kid, seeing his waifu begging the crazy woman for his sake, lost it. He drew on every ounce of strength he had left and unleashed a powerful technique, managing to break free from the tail restraining him. But no matter what he did, it was no use. The woman was just too strong, and she crushed him under her tail instead. Seeing how he refused to give up on the girl, the woman decided to explain to him how things work between a master and his beast, and why the Dragon Girl became so weak after spending time with him. And apparently that answer lay on her bosom in the form of a tattoo, which was given to her by her master, which marked her as the person's possession, and this was also the reason for her immense strength. She explained that to earn it, she had endured countless trials and survived more battles than she could remember. And now that she has this mark, she can receive strength from her master even when they are not around. Turns out she was conquered by none other than Ulysses, who's probably off somewhere right now, coming up with another excuse to slip into bed with Cassiopeia. As for our hero, even though he was on the brink of getting all his bones crushed, he decided to mock the woman, calling her a pathetic nobody who relies on borrowing her master's strength and calls it her own. Strangely, that hit a nerve, and the woman started squeezing everyone even harder, especially poor cowgirl who looked like she could pop at any moment. As for Simon herself, turns out she is a masochist who was telling our hero that beastmen are born to be controlled and whipped by their master because whatever torture she went through by Elise's hands was how she received her power. But then the woman calmed herself down, calling our hero a failure, someone who had taken a powerful dragon with incredible potential and turned her into a useless bum who only knew how to eat, loaf around, and sleep, and told the kid outright he was a failure as a beastmaster. Yeah, no, the kid's mind just froze for a second after hearing the woman's words, especially because of the fact that the big-chested dragon in her hand never came with an instruction manual, so how was he supposed to know how to make her stronger? He didn't even know behind a mountain of scales was actually a beautiful woman, and started going on and on about how he accidentally fell and kissed her, the chaos that followed, and all the ridiculous trouble he had to go through because of her stupidity just to keep her safe. He wasn't done there. He started yelling at her next, calling her a masochistic freak who thinks everyone was like her, who enjoys getting hit, but in reality, she was nothing more than a pervert who liked being disciplined by her master and pretended it made her powerful. That one seemed to do the trick, and the woman started blushing, trying to come up with a proper answer to that, but our hero told her to just shut it since he didn't want her stupid explanations. Instead, since she was so insistent on knowing why he took the dragon out of her cave and brought her into the real world, he decided he might as well give her the answer and screamed at the top of his lungs, saying who in their right mind would leave such a beautiful dragon girl who stole their first kiss in a cave, where all she could do was sit there waiting for adventurers to show up and try to kill her, and told the woman to do whatever she wants with him, just leave the three girls out of it. Well, not sure about the first few things he said, but they were definitely on board with the last part about letting them go and keeping him as a prisoner instead. But the problem was that Simon had no intention of letting any of them leave that place alive. Seeing that there was no use begging for her life, the kid told the woman he doesn't care if she was just a squishy dragon. The only thing that mattered was that she was cute, so he didn't care if she ate, drank, slept, or made a mess every day. As long as he got to stay around a cute dragon girl, that was all he cared about. Seeing how passionately he was saying those stupid things, even Simon didn't know what to think anymore, and she screamed for the stupid kid to shut up. By then, the stupid kid had managed to break himself free and started charging towards the woman, while screaming that he was going to save his waifu from her with his own hands, even if it meant dying in the process to protect her. Those words hit the dragon girl hard, and the moment she heard how he truly felt about her, her power meter surged and exploded past its limit. Because of that, her whole body started getting engulfed in flames as a new power surged through her. As for Simon, the woman was startled by the sudden burst of energy, so she instantly let go of the dragon girl. The moment she did, a tornado of purple flames exploded outward from the dragon girl, blasting everyone across the area and launching them into the distance. Meanwhile, Pup in the back knew exactly what was going on. The girl was going through her new awakening, and this was a special ability of a dragon, which rarely appears only when they meet with their one true master, whom they choose to serve for the rest of their lives. We are told that dragons, unlike other beasts, are an extremely proud race who possess no empathy for anyone, and because of this, finding a perfect master to tame them is next to impossible, because these beings don't like to be controlled, and most of the time they end up turning on their own masters. So the only ones who could truly tame a dragon are the ones who are specifically chosen by these dragons, people who they truly love and care about. That is when this special ability activates in these dragons, which is a sign that these creatures have truly found a master, and using these purple flames, they coat the person's entire body with their scent, marking them as their own, which acts as a contract between master and beast, binding them together for all eternity. Well, in the real world, the three girls were bursting with happiness, seeing that both of them have finally gotten together, especially Olive, who was thrilled to see her best friend finding the man of her dreams. But unlike them, Simon wasn't exactly thrilled how things turned out for the two of them, and refused to believe what they were saying was really true, since according to her, dragons were a mighty prideful race. There was no way a creature like that would ever choose someone like him as their master, who doesn't even know how to properly train his beasts. But it didn't matter what she says, Dragon Girl had already marked the kid as her master, and because of that, the contract between them had officially been formed. But Simon wasn't planning on letting that last for long, and lunged towards our hero to end him once and for all, since according to her, a top-tier dragon like that only belonged to her master and no one else. But to her surprise, the kid easily managed to stop her hand at the last second. Not just that, Simon noticed that his whole aura had changed somehow, as the kid called her master a despicable trash for what she did to her, He told Simon that the woman had used twisted methods to train her, shaping her into someone who believed beast women were nothing more than lifetime tools meant to serve their masters, all of it just to make her stronger for him. Simon didn't appreciate the kid calling her master those things, but just then Dragon Girl appeared out of nowhere, latching onto our hero from the back, and he told the woman this is what true bond between a master and his beast woman looks like. But of course he had to ruin such a perfectly good moment with his stupidity, and told the girl they weren't planning on getting married or anything just yet, and gave her the opportunity to switch sides and join his harem instead, since he was missing a muscle mommy in the squad, promising he will treat her better. Next panel, bam! The woman swung her thick, muscular legs straight at the kid's face, aiming to smash it in, but luckily he managed to move out of the way with his waifu. But there was one problem. After everything that just happened, the woman had completely lost it and prepared to use her full power to shut him up for what he said about her master and drag the Dragon Girl back by force. Next chapter, and the girl was swinging her tail left and right, trying to crush both of them, but it was no use, especially the Dragon Girl, who surprised her, since her movement speed had increased several folds somehow. Olive was also surprised, since this was her first time seeing her move like that, so Pup decided to drop some wisdom on them. It was all thanks to that Dragon Breath, the Purple Flame's ability, because of which both her and the kid were basically like one now, so she was able to tap into his fighting instincts and use his experience as her own, letting her move exactly the way he did. Back in the fight, Simon was doing everything she could, but both of them were just too fast. But forget that, the artist was definitely onto something when he drew her tails in this panel, since I'm pretty sure they are supposed to start at the tailbone and not where his messed up head decided to attach them. Annoyed, the girl shouted for the kid to stop running and face her directly, and our hero, being the menace he was, decided to do the exact opposite and grabbed one of her tails mid-swing, telling her he likes the feeling of her fluffy tail. The poor girl, creeped out by his words, told him to let go of her, but no way he was going to do that, and assured the girl not to worry about a thing, since he had taken care of plenty of dogs in the past, so he definitely knew what he was doing, especially dogs who like to make trouble, and he knew exactly how to train them properly so they become obedient to their masters. According to him, the trick was making every single hair on their tail stand up with excitement. Damn, what has this guy been doing with dogs anyway? Because that sounded seriously messed up. As for the poor girl, well, let's just say she wasn't able to handle that kind of stimulation on her tail and ended up exploding with just one pull. But the fool himself wasn't done. He was prepared to make her suffer and repay her for everything she put him through. As for Dragon Girl, she was staring at the kid in amazement, how enthusiastic he was being, tormenting that woman, and that apparently made her feel jealous, since he was never this fired up when he played with her tail. But then her good side tried to reason with her, telling her not to feel jealous. He was only doing all of this to protect her by punishing the enemy. Yeah, right. Her other side appeared, slapping the ever-living sense out of it and shouted at the girl to wake up, since according to that side, she needed to teach this woman a lesson for trying to seduce her man with that fluffy tail of hers. Yup, the girl completely lost it and screamed at the kid that the woman's warm fluffy tail was nothing compared to hers. With that, she shot through the air straight towards Simon, ready to teach her a lesson for trying to steal her man from her. Turns out this was our hero's plan all along to make her jealous and activate her ability. Pup herself was hyped, since with this, her attack power just doubled. As for Olive, she couldn't handle it anymore. Watching her best friend charge into battle just because she was jealous and determined to protect her man was too much for her heart to process. Seeing her coming, our hero decided it was best to leave the rest to his waifu and moved out of the way before he got caught between the two powerhouses. Just as he let go of her tail, the woman regained her composure, and seeing the girl coming, prepared to face her with her full might, still confident in her master's strength, which she was receiving because of their bond. The girl lunged towards the Dragon Girl, and at the same time she activated her ultimate attack, confident that the squishy dragon in her human form wouldn't be able to withstand it. But our hero, on the other hand, had other plans, and he activated his own ability to transfer his power to the girl to boost her defense and give her more power. Just as he did that, shards of ice started manifesting all over her wings and using them as blades. The woman, fueled by rage and jealousy, turned into a fucking blender and went straight towards the massive hologram of Elise standing behind the girl. Seeing the power behind that attack, Simon knew she was in trouble, but it was too late to back out now, and the girl shattered her ultimate move like it was nothing, and came out of the attack without even a single scratch on her body. Seeing her destroy her master's gift like that, the woman lost it and leaped towards the Dragon Girl to rip her to shreds with her own claws. But before she could, the girl used her ice magic to stop the girl in her tracks, and somehow all her armor covering her body also disappeared, which clearly made zero sense, but the artist probably had other priorities. Anyway, after she was done with Wolf Lady, she rushed back to our hero in full chibi mode, asking if he saw how she beat that woman to a pulp just now. Well, he did see her do that, but now he had something else to take care of. Since they defeated Simon, it was time to officially mark the woman as his own. But Dragon Girl didn't know what he was doing, so she asked, and the stupid kid chose the worst explanation possible, saying since she had the wolf girl restrained on the ground, now he was going to take advantage of her body. Yeah, terrible choice of words. And Dragon Girl nearly turned him into ashes on the spot, but thankfully he told the girl that wasn't what he meant and asked her to just wait and watch. With that, he lifted the wolf girl into his arms and pulled her back onto her feet, after which he started doing something to the mark on her chest. After he was done with the preparations, he somehow started sucking out all the girl's power and transferred it straight into Dragon Girl's body. After he was done, the girl's whole body started going through some kind of transformation, as new scales started appearing all over her, with her tail becoming all fluffy with new fur growing on it. As for the once proud leader of the wolf army, she was utterly humiliated, not just being defeated, but also having all her power stolen from her. Because of that, she lost all her strength to even stand up, and finally accepting her defeat, fell straight to the ground. Seeing her miserable state, even Flat Chest fell to her butt, unable to believe her eyes that their undefeated strongest warrior got bested by these people. Meanwhile, in the distance, the whole battle was being witnessed by Elisa's herself, and just as Simon's body fell to the ground, something started happening, as a force started pulling her away from the place, and within seconds she was brought in front of Elisa's herself. Seeing the state the girl was in, Elise herself showed a little surprise as she started walking up to the girl and asked if this was really all the strength the wolf tribe's most talented cub had to offer. Simon tried to answer, insisting that she could still fight, but Elise signaled her to keep quiet, telling the girl she wasn't blaming her for anything. And Simon fell silent, ashamed that she let her mistress down. But to her surprise, the woman gently placed her hand on her head and started petting her lovingly, saying she performed very well out there. Before Simon could even process what was happening, Elise had already scooped her up into her arms, telling her she was going to take her to get treated, after which they were going straight to her chambers for her training. Simon, caught off guard, started blushing, telling the girl she can't be seen being carried like this in public. But Elise brushed off her embarrassment with a soft laugh, reminding her how clingy she used to be when they first met. Then she asked why she was suddenly getting embarrassed now, even though being carried like this never bothered her back then. Meanwhile, our hero watched the scene unfold and realized something horrifying. This woman in front of him was an even bigger womanizer than he was, and he had no idea how he was supposed to compete with someone like that. But it turns out he didn't have to say anything. Elise noticed him staring and asked if there was something he wanted to say. Well, he had a lot to say, but for starters, the moment he arrived outside the city walls, her flat-chested friend back there attacked them for no reason. Then, when he entered the city, everyone kept trying to steal his dragon from him. Then, that crazy wolf in her arms showed up out of nowhere and tried killing him, and asked who was going to take responsibility for all that. Even though he said all those things, he was still worried about this person, since unlike other NPCs, the bar on that person's head was going all crazy as it was about to explode at any moment. And the aura she was giving off, that was on a whole different level. Just as he was thinking that, the loudmouth dragon suddenly spoke up, telling the woman that the ugly mutt in her hands tried stealing her man from him, and deserves a proper beating for it. Hearing her blabbering, Elise called her an annoying foul mouth and decided to shut her up. Next panel. Bam! The girl was brought to her knees, all tied up by some kind of jelly-like substance. She tried screaming for our hero to save her, but another appendage appeared, wrapping around her mouth. Luckily for her, our boy didn't need anyone to tell him to act, and he sliced through the appendages using his sword like it was nothing, and launched an attack towards Elise's at the same time. But to his shock, all that woman did was flick her finger at the incoming ice attack, and the thing shattered into pieces in an instant, but she wasn't done. Next thing they knew, both their bodies were frozen stiff because of some kind of invisible force, and before they knew it, bam! She tied up both of them using the same jelly thing, and this time they weren't able to break themselves free. As for Elise herself, she decided to finish this quickly, and activated another one of her abilities. With that, portals started appearing behind all of them, sucking them into some other place. And the last thing they heard before getting pulled away was the woman's voice, as she told them they were still far too weak to demand anything from her, and that if they wanted to stand before her again, they'd better get stronger than they currently were. Seeing the whole gang being tossed someplace else, Prep grew worried, but she didn't have the courage to question the woman. That's when Elise approached her, calling her the High Priestess, telling her to follow since the Saintess had been waiting for her. As for Flat Chest behind her, she wasn't getting off easy either. She was due for a spanking after failing to guard the gate properly, so Elise, clearly looking forward to that, told the girl after she was done with Simon she was next. But the girl still had one question. She asked if it was really the right move to send all of them to that place, because she was certain they weren't ready for something like that. And Elise told her not to worry about those four, since she was sure that kid was far stronger than any of them ever gave him credit for. Cut to our hero, who was still inside that portal, being sucked away to some other location, and was wondering who that woman was capable of creating such powerful portals without any effort. On top of that, he still didn't know where they were being teleported to, and he felt himself losing consciousness for some reason. Cut to who knows how long, and he was seen slowly opening his eyes to the sound of a crowd screaming. Getting up, he noticed that the whole place was dark. His first thought was, What happened to his girls, especially his dragon? And in the middle of his panic, he noticed his hand landing on something soft and squishy. But before he could get a good look at what it was, the lights to the place suddenly flared on, and he heard someone introducing him as the only divine-level duo in hundreds of years, the seemingly dumb and cute dragon, along with her useless dragon tamer. Turns out they were standing inside some kind of arena, surrounded on all sides by countless people from every race imaginable, all of them staring straight at him. He had absolutely no clue what was going on, and what happened to the rest of the squad. That is when he suddenly looked down and saw that the dragon girl was lying right there on his lap, and that soft thing he had been squeezing all this time? Yeah, that was her chest. Before he could process any of that, the girl suddenly coiled her tail around his waist, and with the kid restrained, she got down to start fulfilling her so-called wifely duties. But even though our hero had been looking forward to something like this for ages, he wasn't a fool and knew this was no time for that kind of thing, and asked the girl to snap out of it. But then he heard a voice from the side telling him not to resist. Otherwise, things would get a lot worse for both of them. Before he could make sense of it, the crowd underneath started going wild, yelling for him to stop resisting the dragon and just let her do whatever she wanted. And then, out of nowhere, a literal hamster holding a microphone popped up. Apparently, he was the announcer, and he told everyone to settle down since the show was just getting started. With that, he revealed another contestant, and who will be participating in the show. Turns out, it was a wolf girl who, according to the hamster, was the strongest glacier wolf along with her master, who were right next to our boy's cell. But they weren't the only ones. Next up was a chibi-looking girl with her plant partner, a girl named Ching Si, better known as the Freaky Plant Lady, along with her plant friend Daisy. Then came this serious-looking glasses guy, Mr. Xicken, with whatever that thing was behind him. Well, turns out this freak is into tentacles, and this thing with him is the Golden Demon Guard. After which came another crazy who is into flowers by the name of Miss Eva, the fan favorite, mostly because she was the youngest contestant there, and the crowd was already screaming and calling her the Barbie doll of the arena. Well, then came all the other crazies, which the rodent didn't even bother introducing because they were so trash that no one in the crowd cared enough to hear their names. Yeah, the kid still had absolutely no clue what he was looking at, where he'd been teleported to, or why any of this was happening. But that wasn't even the most shocking part. One of the nearby cells held something that nearly broke his brain. Olive and the cowgirl. Except the cowgirl wasn't a cowgirl anymore. She had somehow transformed into a full-on gym bro, stacked with thick muscles, and had poor Olive pinned to the ground. And to make things worse, there was one name over there he didn't want to hear, the one he had been trying to escape all this time. The strongest warrior of the infamous Hagelin's family, Ira Lali, along with her boar friend. Wait a second, this girl is actually a bunny. I thought she was from the boar tribe or something. Even the kid was surprised, just like me, realizing the terrifying warrior he'd been running from was in fact a full-blown bunny girl. Turns out she did not like being called a bunny girl and told the kid to turn around and stop staring at her. Yeah, no, he was more curious about something else and asked the girl if she was still wearing that same bunny panties underneath that dress. Meanwhile, on the ground, the hamster noticed that one of the cell's lights were still turned off, so he asked the person inside if they were fine and heard them telling him to continue with the show, they were okay. Hearing that, the overly hyped rodent, after introducing all the contestants, officially announced the start of the Divine Realm Academy selection competition. Yeah, but in the back, the kid was freaking out. What academy? What competition? What was going on? He never signed up for any of this, but right in the middle of his breakdown, he noticed something strange. Flowers started raining down from the sky. Even the entire crowd suddenly calmed down the moment those petals touched the air. And is it just me, or is that Master Roshi sitting in the crowd? Even the announcer was surprised seeing the sudden appearance of this special guest, who to our hero's shock, turned out to be none other than the saintess they came all the way to this city to meet, along with Pup, who for some reason looked way too tired after whatever Elisa's did to her before taking her to meet with the saintess. Next chapter, and the saintess was seen walking up to our hero's cellar to see this so-called dragon tamer with her own eyes, and surprisingly, the moment she saw his face, she went from being all serious to smiling, because according to her, unlike the picture they received of him, he actually looked pretty handsome in real life. But our hero didn't care about that radiant smile of hers. He was more freaked out by that bar on that woman's head, because that thing was literally going crazy. It was vibrating so fast that he wasn't even able to make out the words. Just then, out of nowhere, the dragon waifu suddenly pounced at him and started smooching the absolute soul out of him. So he tried telling the girl to stop because they were in public, but the girl was too far gone and wasn't listening. So he turned towards the saintess, telling her to undo whatever she did to his dragon waifu before she ends up devouring him whole. The woman, however, seeing him acting in such a way, kept smiling, because she realized he still had no clue what situation he was in. After which she turned towards the freaky woman standing behind her, scolding her for not explaining things to the kid before bringing him to this place. Ulysses, on the other hand, seeing the two locked up inside that cage, kept smirking, commenting how a true warrior such as himself shouldn't need such trivial details before heading into a trial. As for the crowd, the moment they saw the girl appearing in the place, all of them went wild, treating her like some celebrity. But our hero, on the other hand, wasn't fooled by those smiles, because he could tell these two women were monsters behind those pretty faces, and he was sure the two of them could easily be considered at boss-level threats in this world. As for the Saintess, she was tired of waiting around, so she turned towards the hamster, telling him to start the trials. Next panel, and the rodent was announcing the start of the first stage, telling all the contestants to get ready. Just as he said that, our hero saw a portal appearing inside his cell, so he immediately leaped back before he got sucked into the thing. That is when his eyes landed on the bunny girl in the cell next to him, who was in the middle of some kind of ritual or something, and I'm not sure if this is the translation or she really said this, but this is funny as hell. So I'll just quote what she said. "The night breeze is cool, blowing against my buttocks, refined by my body, the endless sea of forms." Just as she completed that incantation, her body started to transform back to its human form, with all of her curves returning back to their original proportions, and before they knew it, the girl was back to being her gorgeous self. And in doing so, she managed to complete the trial before it even began, because it turned out the main objective of this trial was for the partner of the beast girl to somehow make her calm down and revert her back into her human form. And she pulled it off without the need of any partner, securing her spot in the second round without breaking a sweat. As for our hero, who was already scared of her and wanted her out of the place, he shouted that all of this was a scam, because all she did was use her powers to go back to her gorgeous self, and demanded that they eliminate her immediately. Yeah, the girl already had murderous intent on her head, and seeing him screaming at her made it even worse. And damn boy, that boar is thick AF. As for the Saintess, the girl was actually impressed by the girl's resolve and how easily she managed to get a hold of herself, so she turned towards Elises, asking if that was the girl she mentioned earlier, who managed to break into their sanctuary, because she never expected one of the members of the Hagelin's family to try and infiltrate their city. Elises, however, didn't share the same opinion as the blondie, because in her eyes, the girl was far from being calling herself one of the Hagelins, and on top of that, according to her, that thick boar she was traveling with wasn't actually a boar but another beastman who couldn't even transform into his human form, meaning both of them were nothing but failures. In the middle of their conversation, Blondie turned towards little pup in the back, who seemed to be lost in some thought and looked worried for some reason. Before she had a chance to ask her what was going on, she heard the girl screaming for our hero, telling him not to fail this trial, no matter what, because otherwise these people were going to take his dragon waifu away from him by force. Wait, what? Turns out little pup is no ordinary person either, and the reason she was allowed to tag along with these two powerhouses is because the girl is actually the high priestess of this sanctuary, or was this mentioned before in the story and I just forgot? Cut to our hero, who after listening to the girl's words fell into thought, because she was right. He needed to take this more seriously if he wanted to keep his harem together, because there was no way he would be able to face off against those two women with his current strength to break all of them out of this place, which only meant he needed to give it his all to save all of his girls, so he decided to go along with whatever these people had planned for them. As he was distracted by that, he failed to notice that the portal in the place was slowly getting bigger, and by the time he realized that, it was already too late, because he was standing right in the middle of the thing. Next panel, and the kid was seen panicking, trying to free himself from the thing, but it was no use, and both of them got sucked right into the massive black swirly thing. As for the rest of the contestants, they were also transferred to another place just like them, and the reason being that this place was too small for what they had planned for all the couples, so they were sent to another dimension for their first trial. But there was also a catch to this whole thing. There were only 7 slots available for the participants, and those who failed to complete the task and secure those spots would have their beast women taken away from them. And the mastermind behind all of this was none other than Elises herself, and also the one who designed the stages this time for all of them. So Blondie was curious to know what she was planning. Elises, however, seeing her so interested in her work, got a little too excited and told the women to just wait and watch for a bit, promising they would find out soon enough. Yeah, poor Pup on the other hand was getting really fed up seeing 2 greasy mature women getting all handsy with each other in broad daylight, not even caring they were surrounded by thousands but turning her attention back towards the main problem. She wished our hero good luck, hoping he would be able to overcome whatever that psycho lady had planned for them. Cut back to our hero, who was finally regaining consciousness after getting teleported to another world, but for some reason he noticed that he was having trouble breathing, as if his whole body was getting weighed down by something hard. Just then a blinding light appeared in the sky, lighting up the whole arena, which momentarily stunned our hero, because he wasn't expecting to be flashed out of nowhere. But then, as his eyes started to adjust to his surroundings, he noticed massive ice sculptures of dragons all around the place, and that wasn't even the creepiest thing there, because right in the middle of all that stood a whole-ass castle made out of ice, surrounded by sculptures of all kinds of beast folk, and the entire scene sent a chill down his spine, not to mention the unbearable cold he was enduring. So he decided to at least get up to see what was going on, but strangely, when he tried to stand, he noticed his legs won't respond for some reason, and that scared the man. That was until he looked up and saw a massive butt of a dragon pinning him to the ground, and for some reason he noticed that Long Long was shivering like she was scared of something, but that wasn't important right now. The important thing was for him to get her massive butt off of him before his organs got turned into paste, so he asked the girl to get a hold of herself and get off of him. Yeah, no, the very next second, her massive wing landed just inches away from his face, carving through the ground, and that terrified our hero. Turning back towards the girl, he noticed that for some reason she didn't seem like herself, as if something was controlling her mind. Before he could process what was wrong with her, the girl opened her massive jaw and spewed a giant wave of purple flames straight at the kid. Seeing the fireball coming, our hero immediately summoned his sword to try and save himself, and luckily he managed to use the thing as Thor's hammer to force himself free from under her butt and flew out of the place. After landing in the distance, he turned back towards Long Long and saw that the girl had already launched another fireball towards him, and since this time he didn't have time to move out of the way, he was forced to use his shield to block as much of those flames as possible. But the attack was far too powerful and he felt his barrier beginning to crack under the intense heat, so he quickly leaped away before turning into barbecue for the massive creature behind him. Looking back, he saw that most of the ice sculptures in the place had been reduced to jagged remains by Long Long's flames. And I don't know what he was thinking the girl was doing earlier, but after seeing those things, he realized that the girl wasn't messing around. She truly had lost her mind and was trying to end him. Cut back to the arena, where the whole crowd was going nuts seeing our dragon waifu in her true form, and all of them were betting against our hero because they were sure that the dragon was going to devour that scrawny little kid whole. Blondie herself was curious as to know what was going on, so she asked Elise to explain what was happening to that dragon, and the answer was a little creepy to say the least. Turns out this was a special trial she prepared specifically for our hero, because he was a special case, since he was the only person capable of taming a dragon in all these years. So to test how strong their bond truly was, she simply injected Long Long with a strong aphrodisiac to make her go crazy for our hero, after which she put her inside her worst nightmare. Turns out dragons in this world are afraid of ice and snow, and also tiny things like humans, and this phobia often pushed them into a berserk state. So she was using that to test their bond to see if she, under the effect of a powerful aphrodisiac while surrounded by her worst nightmare, would be able to control herself and avoid killing her own master. And let's just say Long Long was failing spectacularly because all of this was freaking her out, making her go even crazier to the point that she couldn't even recognize our hero. Our boy himself quickly realized this, so he started destroying all the ice sculptures in an effort of calming the girl down. As for the trial, he realized it was meant to test how he would react when his partner was pushed into a stressful situation, when she isn't able to control herself, and after spending so much time with Long Long, he was confident he could calm her down. Yeah, that was until the girl snapped him back to his senses by swatting him like a bug with her tail, reminding him this is Long Long we are talking about here, and bam, he got launched into an ice sculpture like a cannonball, shattering the massive structure in the process. Luckily, he was still alive and in one piece, but he couldn't help but complain how that girl is usually so useless in fights when he needs her the most, yet right now she was acting exactly like a ferocious beast who is out to take him down. Just then, in the middle of his thoughts, he noticed massive chunks of ice falling from the ceiling because of all the chaos the dragon was causing, and seeing that things could turn bad for them if this keeps up, he shouted for the girl to calm down and stop squirming. As for Long Long, she immediately turned her head to the sky and started spewing fire at all the incoming chunks of ice to melt them away. But in the middle of it all, she ran out of breath and her fire stopped. Next panel, bam, a massive chunk of ice landed square on her head, and apparently, instead of snapping her back to her senses, it only made things worse, and the girl started thrashing all around the place to destroy anything that comes in her path. Realizing he had no other choice, our hero prepared to stop the girl's rampage once and for all. Apparently, he had a perfect plan to make that happen, and that included him destroying all the sculptures that were acting as a power source and keeping this whole place cold. But before he could even move forward with that plan, he saw the already destroyed sculptures beginning to freeze over again, and right before his eyes, all of the things went back to 100%, and that got him wondering just what the hell was going on. Well, the answer was simple. Elise wanted a dragon waifu in her harem, so she was doing everything in her power to screw over our hero and separate him from the dragon girl so she could claim her for herself. As for Blondie sitting next to her, she already knew exactly what Elise's was doing, but instead of stopping her blatant cheating, she simply scolded her like a child, calling her a bad girl for bullying a lone kid. Cut back to the arena, and things were really starting to go bad for our couple, because Elise was done playing games and was starting to use more of her power to get this over with quickly. Our boy also realized that this whole thing was a setup from the start to screw him over, and he wasn't happy about being played like this, and since he already knew who was behind this, he called her out on it for trying to screw him over, asking if she thought he was an idiot who wouldn't see through what was going on. Yeah, hearing herself being called out as a cheating fraud in front of so many people, Elisa was far from thrilled. As for Blondie, she was genuinely surprised that our boy caught on so quickly and calmly asked Elisa what she planned to do now. Cut to our boy who was done with this whole charade, and since that woman was trying to screw him over, he decided to play a little game of his own to show that Snake, who she was messing with, Turns out whatever he was cooking in his head even had him second-guessing if he should go along with this. But he also knew if he didn't, then his dragon waifu would get taken away from him by that freaky lady, so he turned towards the massive sculptures, telling the woman not to blame him for what was about to come, because she's the one who started it. Now fully committed to the play, he threw a snowball towards Long Long to catch her attention. The already scared girl turned toward the idiot with those teary eyes to see what was going on and saw our hero standing before a massive statue looking all serious and cool. Yeah, I knew this was going to end up being another stupid plan, and apparently I was right, and it included getting Long Long jealous of the other statues, who according to him insisted he stay inside this place with them instead of going back with Long Long. Otherwise they threatened to freeze both of them inside this place. So he told the girl he has no other choice. So from now on he would be riding a different dragon. Yeah, the girl's rage meter shot off the roof hearing those words, and she prepared to turn him to ashes along with that statue behind him, using her full power. Seeing her charging up for an attack, our hero immediately initiated the second phase of his plan, and that was to use her ultimate attack, combine it with one of his own abilities, and destroy all of the statues in the room with one powerful hit. With that, the dragon girl unleashed her most powerful fire breath yet towards our boy, which got sucked into the massive mirror thing that was in between, resulting in her attack going around the whole room, shattering anything and everything that stood in its way. As for Elise, yeah, the girl was taken by surprise when her magic circle shattered right before her eyes, which should be impossible. Even Blondie was surprised seeing our hero pull off that move on Elise, because she never expected him to have such incredible magic control. As for the spectators, the whole place fell silent after seeing our hero pull off the impossible, because Elise was considered to be one of the strongest inside this sanctuary. As for the rodent, he immediately turned towards the two women, asking Elise if she was alright, but the woman was already pretty annoyed by what just happened, so she told the creature to just focus on his job and stop bothering her. The thing apologized, and seeing that the girl wasn't in the mood, he quickly changed the topic and decided to bring up the remaining contestants to see how they were doing. And the first one was the freaky plant lady by the name of Kingsley, who got captured by her plant friend Daisy, because the creature wasn't able to control itself and was going berserk because of the red light that was making it go crazy. And seeing that now all the lights were on them, Kingsley realized that fun time was over, so she summoned her energy blade to end this quickly, after which she started chopping off all the vines that had her restrained and easily managed to free herself. Yeah, she was definitely enjoying herself back then because she was telling the creature they weren't done, and once they got back home she was going to thoroughly punish him for what he did to her. The crowd, however, instead of getting freaked out by what they just heard, got excited. While at least the rodent wasn't as depraved as the rest of them, and also, he finally understood why that poor plant creature always looked scared whenever they mentioned that girl's name in front of it. But that wasn't important, since Kinsey managed to complete her trial. He told the audience they were moving on to their third contestant, who happened to be that ponytailed guy by the name of Weston, and he was darting his way all around his plant friend instead of trying to calm it down. But it turned out he wasn't doing all those flashy moves just for show. He had a plan in mind, and that plan was to turn his plant partner into a damned ornament by tying it up like a knot. Well, that's all it took. The thing was completely knocked out after that dance performance. But Weston wasn't happy with his plant's performance, so he told the creature it would need to go through even harsher training once they get back home. With them moving on to the second round, the rodent changed screens once more to their next contestant, and it was that crazy fan favorite flower lady, Miss Eva, who was getting ready to stop her plant friend. And unlike the rest of them, she didn't even hesitate and shattered the thing using her water mirror or whatever. And apparently that was enough to calm down the creature. So as a reward after that was taken care of, she approached the plant and sat into its center, and the freaky plant thing started to suck her whole body inside of it for reasons no one wanted to question. While the hamster pumped the whole crowd wild, no one questioning why she was allowing her plant friend to devour her whole. Meanwhile, the ladies seeing Eva with her plant friend were all blushing for some reason, commenting how cute the both of them were being. Yeah right, cute. These ladies have some serious screws loose. But the madness wasn't over yet. There were still a few more contestants left, one of which was the long-haired guy with his werewolf waifu by the name of Sally. And just like the rest of the beast folk, she was also going berserk and was trying to attack her master. And in her rage, she leaped straight at the man to rip him apart using her claws. But the man till the very end remained calm. And just as the girl got in range, he activated his fire ability and started showing off some weird dance moves in front of the whole crowd, after which he started climbing onto the massive pillars, leaving behind rings of fire, all while telling the girl not to be afraid of heights and to use this chance to overcome her fear. The girl, however, wasn't even listening, and she kept going through those rings trying to get to that man. And just as she reached the final pillar, the man summoned some kind of golden apple in front of the girl, and she ended up biting down on that thing. If you guys didn't get what happened to her after sinking her teeth into that thing, then you aren't the only ones. I myself am confused, because after biting on that thing, the girl completely calmed down for some reason and was feeling all weird on her whole body, and it was that good kind of weird. Seeing her panicking, Zhuzhe approached the girl and took her in his arms before she fell to the ground and praised the girl for doing a good job. Okay, so things got a little weird after that because Jujie said something about giving her a little taste of something sweet as a reward and started doing something on her stomach. And like I said earlier, I have no clue what's the deal between those two. But the crowd, however, was gasping in delight seeing him do whatever he was doing to his werewolf waifu. Turns out this became their favorite performance in the show so far because pretty much everyone jumped to their feet to cheer on both of them. Okay, if my math is right, 5 contestants just got advanced to the second round, meaning there are only 2 more slots left. And the rodent wasn't exactly thrilled about the remaining contestants, because in his eyes, all of them were failures. But for the sake of the show, he decided to bring up the next screen. And it was something completely unexpected, because the whole room was filled with Olive's screams as the cowgirl chased after her to ram her rear. And with that, the girl managed to catch up to Olive and landed a powerful headbutt on her tushy, sending the poor princess flying through the air. And that definitely hurt because the poor girl was holding her poor swollen behind trying to hold back her tears, because cowgirl didn't even show any mercy when she charged through. On top of that, she wasn't done and was already preparing to go for round 2. Seeing her getting ready, Olive knew she had to do something and fast. Otherwise, that crazy bull was going to smash her behind to oblivion using its horns, and the only way she could think of was by using that technique, which was too embarrassing to use in front of all these people. But on the other hand, she also knew she had no other choice. After all, her butt cheeks were her only pride and joy, and she won't under any circumstances let them get bullied any further. Oh boy, she actually did it! She transformed into her Hulk form, and that had the poor cowgirl so terrified that she immediately hit the brakes. But it wasn't like that was going to help her now, because the hunter had just turned into prey, and Olive was fully prepared to pay her back tenfold for what she did to her behind. Yep, the girl literally locked the bull into a chokehold to try and knock it out, and when that wasn't enough, she decided to hit it with a body slam, and bam, a loud boom rang through the entire place. Yep, that was it. The cowgirl immediately calmed down and reverted back to her human self. As for Olive, now she was the one losing control over her mind. And like what I said earlier, the hunter had become the hunted, because Olive wasn't holding back either. Meanwhile, the crowd watching Olive do whatever she was doing to the cowgirl were left speechless, and not to mention that transformation of hers into that hulking form that was also pretty disturbing to all of them. In the middle of all that, the hamsters suddenly noticed flames rising inside one of the arenas, and it was the same arena where our boy was with his dragon waifu. And turns out their match was still not over, because even though he managed to stop Elise, his dragon waifu still hadn't calmed down. Cut to our hero, who was standing in the middle of all those flames. As for the statues, yeah, all of them got burned to the ground, meaning Elise's lost all her power inside the room, allowing our hero to calm down his dragon waifu in peace. And despite the odds stacked against him, he wasn't afraid, so he summoned his holy sword, after which he dispelled all the flames surrounding him using his ability, but that was just the start. He wasn't done, so he immediately transitioned into his second ability and started spinning like a Beyblade, shattering his way through all the flames in the room, resulting in Long calming down a little because she finally remembered who he was. Even though she was back to her senses, our hero wasn't done, because he still needed to revert her back to her human self in order to complete this trial, and he knew exactly how he was going to do that because he had done this in the past. So he took some of her flames in his hand, and defying all logic of reality, he turned that flame into a hot pepper. Like, I mean, what the F even is this? And not just turned it into a hot pepper, our boy proceeded to eat that pepper-shaped flame like it's completely normal stuff. As soon as he swallowed the thing, his entire body got engulfed in massive flames, and he shot straight towards the dragon girl like a falling meteor. This even surprised Long, so she turned towards the sky to see what he was doing, and what else but another one of his stupidities. I don't know why I even get my hopes up thinking he's going to pull off something cool. Okay, I'll explain this in simple words. The guy was thinking of giving her a kiss to turn her back into a human, just as he did back in that cave when they first met. As for the scared girl, she was so terrified by those massive swollen lips of his that she literally tripped while trying to back away from the freak, and that gave the fool the opportunity he was looking for. So he immediately grabbed onto her massive fang and landed a smooch right on her massive nostril, causing the poor girl to go into full-on panic mode. But at least it worked, because her whole body started to transform once more, and within seconds, she was back to being her gorgeous, voluptuous self. Also, she wasn't done, and planning to finish what our hero started, she counterattacked with her own grapple and managed to trap him in a dangerous hold from which our hero wasn't able to free himself, after which she proceeded to inflict damage on him using her womanly charm, and once she was done landing some of those critical hits, she finally let him go, satisfied with the punishment she gave the fool. But here's the thing, she wasn't satisfied, so she immediately dug in there once again, pinning our poor fortunate fool as he struggled to breathe, so he tried to push the crazy girl off him, only for all of his attempts to fail. As for the crowd watching both of them, yeah, safe to say they weren't happy with the sight before them, because they came here hoping for a bloodbath, not whatever this is. So of course the whole place erupted with anger, with every single one of them calling out our hero a scumbag, cheap coward who used his own body to seduce and calm his dragon girl instead of taking her on like a real man and put her in her place. And let me remind you, this place is filled with all sorts of degenerates, because remember those rodent girls from earlier and how they were being treated? Yeah, pretty much everyone in this sanctuary shares the same way of thinking as those people. Meanwhile, Cassiopeia, on the other hand, was really starting to get interested in our hero, because she never knew a person could calm a dragon in such a way, because only she knew what he actually did. He used that chili pepper, which apparently turned out to be Dragon's favorite food, to force the girl out of that crazed state, which also explains why she wouldn't stop digging into his mouth, because the taste of that chili was intoxicating to her. As for our hero, he suddenly found himself standing inside a massive bubble, which obviously surprised him, but Long Long's eyes were glued to something else entirely, so she told our hero to take a look at the ceiling. Seeing her moving around so much, he tried to calm her down, since they still had no idea what was going on. As for what she was pointing at, it was some purple energy wave or fire which engulfed their whole bubble and started swirling all around it, which according to the hamster meant they were being teleported to the second stage, leaving only one final spot remaining for the second round. And surprisingly, it didn't even take that long for that contestant to secure the win, because immediately after he said those words, the final screen flashed up, announcing the final victor. And boy, it was not a pretty sight, because whoever this psycho is, they messed up their beast to the point that the poor thing wasn't even able to stand anymore. As for the rodent, even that guy was scared seeing the condition that poor thing was in, but he knew he needed to keep the show going, so he quickly changed topics to the person, announcing them to be the last qualifier who advances to the second round. Back to the two beauties, and turns out Blondie somehow knew who this psycho person in that shady robe was, and unsurprisingly, she was one of Elise's, well, how do I even put it into words? So basically, one of her many partners, and this one was known to be pretty violent if you catch my drift. Just then, as they were still talking, something started to appear in the middle of the arena, which turns out was something new, because even the audience were surprised seeing something like this for the first time in this competition, and upon looking closer, they saw that the thing was a miniature replica of their whole sanctuary. Blondie, however, realized that it wasn't just a replica, that thing was a micro-battle realm, which was surprising because they usually don't use that thing in such places because it was just too dangerous. As for the 7 qualifiers, all of them appeared hovering over the city, and somehow all of them had shrunken in size to fit inside of that place. With that, all those bubbles turned into beams of light, transporting all of them to the different parts of the city. Meanwhile, Pup was still trying to piece together what Elise was thinking, bringing something like that, because for some reason it seemed awfully similar to what their wolf clan uses for combat training, but the thing was, it wasn't just training, because when stepping into that place, everyone is forced to fight with everything they had, meaning casualties are inevitable. So she immediately turned towards the woman, calling her out for putting the lives of all the participants on the line just for her amusement. Elise's, however, didn't even budge and instead reminded Pup of their situation. According to her, what was coming in the near future would be far worse than this trial, not just for their holy land but for the entire world, which was why she was forced to take this step. Listening to her words, Pup fell silent, because she herself knew exactly what that woman was talking about. As for Elise, she told both of them that they had already run out of time, meaning they can't rely on their old strategy of slowly cultivating these so-called warriors for what was about to come, and the only chance for all of them in finding that true hero from the prophecy is by putting all of these people in the most dangerous environments to awaken their true potential. Yeah, I agree with the woman here. This is indeed a very dangerous environment, and for the sake of saving the world, I would gladly take that massive burden off his chest. Next chapter, and our hero was slowly opening his eyes to a strange, warm sensation all over his body. Looking up, he noticed that he was inside some luxurious room, which made no sense to him because last he remembered he was trapped inside some icy room, forced to fight Long Long. Remembering about Long Long, he immediately turned to see where he was and where his waifu went, and in his panic, he sprang up, launching the poor girl off of him, and started screaming her name. But then he looked back and found the girl lying right next to him, so he took a sigh of relief because he was afraid that Elise's kidnapped the girl for herself. As for Long Long, she herself got all excited seeing our hero's face, and the first thing she did after reuniting with him once again was to pounce on him, after which she pinned him to the bed. And you guys can see it for yourself what happened after that. Why this lucky dog? Anyway, once she was done with whatever she was doing, she finally let go of the fool and asked why his mouth didn't taste like hot chili pepper anymore. And guess what this shameless bastard answered? He told her to go a little deeper if she wants to taste that. Just then, both of them got startled because of a loud sound coming from outside the room. Long Long tried asking who it was, but our hero signaled her to keep her voice down. Turning towards the door, he wondered what was going on here, because moments ago he was inside that stadium, but somehow he got transferred to this place, and he had a hunch that the tournament wasn't over yet, but since he didn't want his waifu to worry about that, he told her they should head out and find something to eat. Approaching the door, he quietly started to peek outside to look for any potential ambushes. Just then, both of them noticed a person running past their room. So both of them immediately sprang into action and started chasing after the person to stop them. Turns out it was that freaky plant idol girl whose name I completely forgot. And seeing the projectiles coming, she prepared to block all of them. Next panel, and a massive explosion shook the entire building, but as the dust slowly started to clear, the girl appeared from within that blast completely unharmed, and using the chance, she herself counterattacked using an ability called Crushing Impact, and her plant friend turned into a drill machine, and she managed to land a direct hit on both of them. But here is the thing, what she attacked was nothing more than an after image, because our couple was already standing behind the idol girl, and hearing our hero's voice terrified the poor thing, but quickly getting a hold of herself, she summoned a weapon to attack them once more. Yeah, but the thing was, our hero had dealt with women who were 100 times scarier than her, so she was nothing in front of him, but he wasn't planning on having all the fun himself, so he twisted her arm and presented her butt towards our dragon waifu. And why, you may ask, he did that? Well, simple. So she could launch her into the air using those thick, muscular thighs of hers, and the girl didn't disappoint, because she landed such a powerful kick on her butt that the girl turned into a torpedo. Seeing her flying towards him, her plant friends started panicking and prepared to catch the girl before she smashed that pretty face of hers on the wall, and luckily he managed to catch her and cushion the fall using his own body. Well, I mean, most of the cushioning was being done by her massive chest, but hey, at least he tried. Getting back up, the girl was furious because never before in her life anyone had treated her in such a way, but not like our Chad cared how she felt, because in his eyes she was just an obstacle he needed to clear for the sake of his harem, and more importantly, she may be a fan favorite around here. But compared to his girls, she was mid. Yeah, the girl didn't appreciate his tone, but she also knew she wasn't strong enough to take him on. So with teary eyes, she asked why he was bullying her inside the Saintess's castle, and if he wasn't afraid of being punished. This surprised our hero, because he had no clue they were inside the Saintess's castle. Next panel, and both of them were seen hovering in air, trying to find someone inside this place, but even after looking everywhere, they weren't able to come across even a single person, and that got our hero wondering what could be the reason. After all, this was the home to the most important person in the city, so the place should be littered with servants and guards, but strangely it seems like the whole castle had been abandoned. So he decided to take a peek outside and started walking up to a window, and upon opening it he noticed something strange, because the sky for some reason seemed a little off. Well, he wasn't able to see that shield that was covering the entire place, but he could tell that what he was looking at wasn't the real sky. As for Blondie, she was surprised to see how quickly this kid managed to catch up to what was going on, so she turned towards Elise's, pointing out how even her magic wasn't able to fool this kid. Yeah, Elise's was aware of that, and she wasn't happy about it. Just then, the hamster called out to Elise, asking her to explain the rules of this round to everyone. The girl waved her hand into the air, and a massive screen appeared in front of everyone with the details of all the contestants, followed by some colors that were being displayed under their chibified faces. So basically, these are all the traits that a tamer needed to possess in order to complete this trial, after which they would be considered as an A-ranked tamer. And for the colors, the green one represents loyalty, red one represents courage, then the blue one, which is wisdom, and finally yellow is the talent of the tamer and its beastfolk. And the way they would be ranked is as follows. If they get one of the 4 traits, they would be considered a D-ranked tamer, and it would increase with how many lights those contestants managed to trigger. Just then another voice came from the crowd, and I presume a future addition to our hero's harem. I mean, just look at the size of those things, how can she not be part of such a pristine collection? Sorry, I got a little sidetracked like that man beside her. So basically she was asking what kind of trials these contestants needed to complete in order to prove their skills. That apparently was a secret, so Elise's told the woman she would need to wait to find that out herself. Back in the mini-world, a massive explosion shattered one of the walls of the castle, and our boy came out with both beauties in hand, and he seemed like he was in a hurry. As for the idol girl in his arms, she for some reason was squirming a little too much, telling our hero to let her go. But our hero refused, because it turns out he was worried about the girl, since she was planning on heading out there on her own. So he told her to stay close to him because they still didn't know what was going on. Realizing he was right, she calmed down, but still she was worried about her friends who were still out there somewhere and asked our hero if they can go look for them as well. Cut to the outside of the castle, and not even 10 minutes into the trial, and this freaky girl got wrecked by someone, and those thorns on her plant friend look a little familiar. As for the girl, lucky for her, she was still alive and conscious, so she tried getting back up to her feet to face the enemy once more. But her whole body was hurting, so in the end she decided to just stay down. As for the one responsible, yeah, from that cannon I can already tell who it is. Yep, our Princess Olive, now rocking a new outfit, who was looking satisfied after releasing all that pent-up frustration on someone else, but she wasn't alone. Remember how I said those thorns look a little familiar? Yeah, because they were. Turns out our bunny girl was also there, and both of these powerhouses had somehow managed to come to a mutual understanding and teamed up for this trial. And since they were already done with that weakling, they prepared to interrogate her to find out what was going on. But still, where is Cowgirl? Wasn't she supposed to be paired up with Olive as her partner? Well, what do you know? Our boy was watching both of the women from a distance, and he was sweating like crazy, and rightfully so, because both of them hated his guts, and seeing them both working together, yeah, he knew he was screwed. Next chapter, and the freaky girl finally got back up while praising Bunny Girl for her strength, because she expected nothing less from one of the Hagelin's family warriors. Yeah, Bunny Girl, however, wasn't in the mood of making friends, so instead she used her leg to push the girl back to the ground, telling her to spill everything and how they got here. Turns out Freaky Girl herself had no clue, and according to her, she was just doing her job protecting the Sanus' castle when she came across the two of them. In the middle of her interrogation, she heard a voice from the side telling her to stop. Turning around, she saw that ponytail guy, who wasn't happy seeing one of the saint's flowers getting humiliated in such a way in broad daylight, so he told the girl to stop immediately. Bunny Girl, however, just smiled back, asking the man how can he call something like this humiliation, and if you are wondering why she asked him that question, well, because the freaky one under her foot was enjoying the treatment she was getting from her, and her freaky ass didn't even try denying it, and openly admitted she was into it. Oh yeah, that was enough for Elise to decide her rank, and she placed her at rank D after seeing her performance. This shocked the rodent because Freaky was one of their sanctuary's strongest tamers, so he turned towards Elise asking on what basis did she assign her rank. Well, the answer was simple. That girl was only loyal to her desires and had no self-control over herself, so it didn't matter how strong she was if she can't control herself in such situations, making her completely worthless. Blondie agreed to her reasoning because she herself noticed this about her multiple times. On top of that, that girl never showed any ambition when it comes to getting stronger. All she does is mess around the whole time, and just to rub salt on the wound, she even called her out for being a little dumb. Hamster, however, was still worried about what was going on inside that arena, so he asked the girls if they should stop this contest before someone gets hurt. Elise's answered that they were not to do such a thing and explained that this was their main test. All of these contestants needed to prove their worth inside that place, showing how they handled each situation alongside their beasts. Cut back to the arena, and Ponytail was calling out Bunny Girl for spewing nonsense, because in his head he was still convinced that Freaky was a woman of pride and would never stoop down to such a level. And since he was done speaking, he ordered his tentacle friend to take her out and save Kingsley and her plant friend. The thing did as told, but for some reason Bunny Girl didn't even bother moving out of the way, because in her eyes an attack such as this was pathetic. So, deciding to finish this quickly, she started chanting that same incantation about cool breeze blowing on her butt, which she used to transform back to her human self, and after she was done, she screamed something called Holy Meow, and bam, a cat girl. Wait, what? Wasn't she supposed to be a bunny? How did she turn into a cat girl? Well anyway, now with these new claws, she carved through those massive appendages like butter, but she wasn't planning on stopping there. She immediately went after the ponytail guy, and well, this happened. So according to what I'm seeing, that attack only works on clothes, because there wasn't even a single scratch on that man's body. And bam, rank C, Elise's, after seeing his pathetic performance, put him in his place as well. As for the drama queen, turns out ripping his clothes off of him was enough to force him to submit, so he admitted his defeat immediately, saying he was no match for that cat girl's paws because, and I quote, her claws are too spicy. Seeing both of her companions getting absolutely wrecked in seconds, Idol Girl just fell to the ground, already admitting she was no match for either of those women, because she was sure even if she tried to confront them, the result would be the same. Yeah, D rank, right at the back of the line. Even our hero was disappointed, because everyone was making her seem like she was some powerhouse celebrity or something, but she turned out to be just another coward. Oh wait, I was wrong. That wasn't Bunny Girl. She summoned that cat girl. I guess that pervy old lumberjack wasn't her only summon. She can summon more spirits as well. And since she was done with the weaklings, she ordered her cat to sniff out someone. As for her rank, she was placed in rank B for her performance. Meanwhile, the cat girl got all excited hearing her mistress's order and immediately got to work and started smelling the ground. Surprised, Olive asked what was she looking for. Bunny Girl answered, explaining that her cat fed on demonic energy, and from the moment she summoned her, she had noticed it acting a little too excited. Because of that, she was simply checking whether someone else nearby possessed that kind of energy, which was causing it to behave that way. Yup, she was right, there was definitely someone else here. And apparently that person possessed incredibly thick demonic energy, because her cat immediately went into a crazed state, after which she started running towards the source of that smell, so both girls also followed to see who it was. Well, turns out it was our hero, and I'm not sure about the demonic energy stuff because he uses holy magic, but for the cat girl he was smelling like a snack, so she leaped straight at him to have a taste. Yeah, right, like Dragon Girl was going to let some nasty cat lay her paws on her man, so she immediately punched the girl's lights out, sending her flying back to the ground. By then, Bunny Girl had also arrived at the location and noticed her cat acting a little weird around that Dragon Girl. As for our hero, he was trying to calm his waifu down, telling her to get a hold of herself. Otherwise, she was going to fall down, but the girl wasn't listening and kept calling the cat girl names for trying to make her man carry her like a child, and just to show her he only belongs to her, She jumped into our boy's arms, thinking she was making her jealous. Just then they heard Olive's voice from the side, and thankfully she wasn't trying to castrate our boy and instead was happy seeing both of them. Both of them greeted her back, asking her to come up here so they could figure out what was going on together. Fast forward, and our hero was listening to her side of the story, and apparently it wasn't good. Turns out the reason Cowgirl wasn't with her was because she got kidnapped by someone the moment they arrived inside this place, and she had been running around ever since trying to track down the culprit. That was troubling indeed, and our hero knew they needed to go look for her immediately. And on the other hand, he was also somewhat relieved to know she got kidnapped, and it wasn't because he was trying to get rid of her, rather because he was afraid Olive and Cowgirl broke up or something. So basically, he is shipping them both. Turning towards Bunny Girl, he asked what she was doing running around with Olive, and if she changed her mind about ending him. Turns out that wasn't the case. She still hated him for the humiliation she had to suffer because of him, especially about him exposing her little panties secret to everyone. The reason she was tagging along with her was because she happened to come across that man when he was taking Cowgirl, and just as he passed by her, he said something which she wasn't expecting, because that man called her a disgrace to the Hagelins family for keeping a disgusting boar as her pet, and that was something she wasn't planning on letting slide so easily, so she agreed to help Olive find that person, because she also had a score to settle with him. And guess what? She wasn't angry about the fact that the person called her a disgrace to her family. The reason she was angry was that bunny girls are the cutest beast girls out there, and no one has the right to be mean to them no matter what. Yeah, not what our boy was expecting. But getting back to the topic, she told our hero that she can't track that person anymore, because her cat was completely useless now, and it was all because of him. Turns out she had been using her to track this person, but with the appearance of our hero and his thick mana, her cat had gone completely haywire, because his mana was acting as a barrier preventing her from sensing anyone else's demonic aura. Yeah, Dragon Girl was more than happy to smack her out of that trance and bring her back to her senses. Seeing that she was getting ready to fight again, our hero immediately wrapped his arms around her, telling the girl to calm down because he knew of another way of finding this person. Surprised, she asked what he was talking about, and the answer was simple. Her. She was the one who was going to sniff out that guy for them. But she, on the other hand, thought otherwise, because she didn't possess such an ability. So our hero told the girl to calm down and do as he was saying, and asked if she was feeling hungry. Surprised, Long asked what did her hunger had to do with any of this. Turns out, everything. Her stomach is the one who was going to guide them to that tasty cow who was waiting somewhere out there for her, so she could sink her teeth into her. Yeah, that definitely worked. Look at that drooling face she is making, and thanks to that, she immediately sprinted towards the location of that heavenly aroma. Seeing her running, our hero told the two girls to follow her immediately. Fast forward, and they eventually arrived outside a massive building. And just as they were about to enter the place, a loud explosion shattered the gate leading into the building. And out came our cow waifu. Hell yeah, this is what I have been waiting for all this time. Cowgirl in her true form. And damn, she came out even more stunning looking than I was expecting. But still, she was under some kind of mind control from whoever had hypnotized her. So instead of a greeting, she immediately charged towards the gang. Seeing her coming, our boy took his waifu in his arms and prepared to face Cowgirl head on. And with that, both sides collided with such intensity that shockwaves were created from their clash. As for the remaining girls, they were having a hard time even standing in the same place as them because of the shockwaves that were slowly pushing them back. That is when they heard a voice from the side mocking our hero for not even realizing what kind of a treasure he was walking around with all this time. Turning around, the girls saw that same man who kidnapped our cow waifu, who was doing his best to look cool with that pose but was failing miserably. Anyway, he asked our hero if he was happy seeing his former comrade growing so strong thanks to him, and told him to just give up because there was no way he was losing this trial because of him. Yeah, like our hero cared about winning or losing this stupid test, and since he was so obsessed about winning this thing, he had an idea who sent him here. And who else but Elise, who was not happy hearing the kind of thoughts our hero had about her, because none of them were pleasant. As for Blondie, she wasn't able to hold back her laughter after hearing what our hero thought about Elise's and how bluntly he was spewing everything. But keeping her cool, Elise's reminded everyone that this failure hadn't even been able to light up a single color so far, so he had no right to act so arrogant. Cut to our boy, who after piecing everything together, was now confident in his victory. This surprised the man, so he asked what was he talking about because clearly he was the one with the advantage here. Well, turns out he forgot our boy wasn't the only one who came to save our cowgirl, because there was another who wasn't happy about him putting his nasty hands on their girl, and sure enough it was Olive, who was fully ready to send this man to Jesus after what he did to her girl. Okay, it's official now, Olive and Cowgirl, because her loyalty meter shot through the roof, and she was also the first contestant to actually light up the loyalty meter, which also surprised Blondie. As for the man, he still wasn't done. And wait, isn't this the same bastard who tried to humiliate Flat Chest in front of all those people? You know, the one with those rats? Yup, it's definitely him. Because only a despicable bastard such as him would use a beast girl as his meat shield. because he summoned Cowgirl in front of him to block off all those cannons, after which she immediately turned back towards Olive to take her out. Seeing her coming, Olive froze, and it wasn't because she was scared or caught off guard, but because she couldn't get herself to attack Cowgirl, because she genuinely cared about her. Long Long, on the other hand, tried helping her best friend, but for some reason our hero stopped her, telling her not to interfere in their fight. Yeah, it was just as he had thought, because inches away from her face, Cowgirl forced herself to stop. Meanwhile, our hero, seeing the girl struggling while trying to regain control over her body, was thinking how only Olive is the one who can snap her back to her senses, since he already knew how much Cowgirl cared for her, and he was right. The girl forced herself to turn towards the blonde bastard behind herself instead, but the fool was just too powerful, and he immediately took over her mind once more and shouted for her to finish off that woman. Just then he sensed an absurd amount of energy appear behind him out of nowhere, so he quickly turned around to see what it was and spotted a massive ball of light flying straight at him. He tried to block the attack, only to realize it wasn't an attack, it was our hero himself, who after seeing him treat one of his girls like a thing, had enough and decided to show him what real men stand for. As for the fool, he just stood there in disbelief, because he never expected to meet someone who possessed an electric attack even stronger than his own, and not to mention the kid in front of him for some reason felt even more stronger than before, which made zero sense to him. Only if he knew how our boy grows stronger by beating bastards like him to a pulp, and thanks to that fact, he was passively gaining more strength, and he was hungry for more. With that, the fool's screams echoed through the whole place, resulting in him losing his control over Cowgirl's mind, and she snapped back to her senses. But for some reason, she immediately lost consciousness after she was broken free from that spell and started falling to the ground. Turns out it wasn't because she was just tired, but because this bastard did something to that girl to make sure she never lives her life as a free person. So to put it in simple words, the only way to save her was to let this bastard take over her mind. Otherwise, her mind was going to break completely. So either way, they were going to lose their Cowgirl. As for our hero, he was getting really pissed with that bastard acting so cocky after what he did to one of his girls, because the bastard was actually offering to give him the control over her mind, saying that beast girls were nothing more than things meant to be controlled that way by their masters. Yeah, this isn't even close to what this bastard deserves. He should have smashed his head in for what he just said, but even this was enough to knock out his weak ass. And with him taken care of, our hero turned back towards Cowgirl, with Bunny Girl telling him how her body has already started to get stiff, which meant they don't have much time left. Even Olive, who was usually so tough and mean and always acted like she is unshakable, turned toward our hero with tears in her eyes, asking what they were going to do now. Surprisingly, our hero told all of them not to worry, because he knows exactly how to save her, and whipped out a nail clipper from his pocket, telling the girls he just needs to trim her hoofs a little. Furious, Olive shouted at the kid, reminding him they don't have time for this nonsense, and asked him to take this matter a little seriously. Our hero, though, completely ignored her screaming at his ear and started doing his thing. Turns out he was using his knowledge from his past life to release the pressure points in her foot to try and jumpstart her brain. And I'm starting to think he wasn't just targeting her foot. I mean, just look at the expressions on his face. And not to mention, the girl was starting to react pretty weirdly, and her body was responding to whatever he was doing. And the feeling was so relaxing that she felt like she was in a beautiful place, surrounded by trees and flowers, everything quiet and gentle, with a calm she hadn't felt in a long time settling over her, whereas in reality she was rolling around on the floor like a fool, shouting for our hero to stop because it felt too good, and right next to her was our dragon girl, who was staring at her a little too intently because of how she was reacting to what our hero did to her. And of course she was feeling jealous, because he always treated that girl in such a rough way, whereas he won't ever do those kinds of things to her. And because of that, her mind went into fantasy mode, and she started fantasizing all that stuff happening to her, as she wondered what it would feel like if she were the one in that position. Well, turns out just the thought of that was enough to send shivers down her whole body, causing the girl to start screaming in whatever she was feeling. And that immediately caught our hero's attention, so he turned towards her with those same lustful eyes, and since it was clear the girl herself wanted the same treatment, he was more than happy to indulge her. Next panel, and he started using those magic fingers of his, causing the dragon girl to react far more strongly than she expected. As for the spectators, all their views about our hero changed after seeing how he treated his beast girls, because before this day, all they knew was that they were supposed to dominate their partners like objects and not respect them as people. As for the blonde, he was still knocked out, but despite that, he somehow got ranked B on the test, which is completely bull, because Elysius is clearly playing favorites here. Our hero, on the other hand, was slowly starting to get back to his feet while calling out to the one who arranged this stupid test for all of them, and he was clearly talking about Elise's, and he wasn't even holding back on those slurs this time either, and kept unloading a string of curses her way. Elise's didn't appreciate his tone, nor was she happy about those things he just said about her, so she got ready to teach him a lesson. And seeing her expression, Blondie already knew whatever she was cooking wasn't going to end well for either of the participants. It was just as she had feared, because many more people started getting teleported into the place, and in full Dragon Ball Z style, all of them took flight in search of all the participants, and as a result, they started destroying everything in their path. And what do you know, they weren't the only ones who got dropped into the place. Some of the beast folk and humans also got sent to this place, and now all of them had to be saved from these rampaging monsters. This shocked everyone, especially the side characters, because they recognized those people as tamers who hadn't completely bonded with their beast folk yet. As for the attackers, these right here are the Steppenwolf squad, who were ordered by Elysis to destroy everything in their path. Just then another voice rang out from the distance, calling for Sally to stop them. It was that same werewolf couple, and the moment she heard her master's command, the girl leaped straight at those hulking males on high-calorie diets without even a second thought. Surprisingly, she was extremely fast, and before the brutes even had the chance to react, she had already landed several attacks all over their bodies. Turning around, Ponytail Guy saw Gigi standing atop a nearby building, so he asked where had he been all this time. But the man was more focused on the enemy, because he never expected them to be this strong, because it turns out Sally's attacks were nothing but mere scratches for them, and because of that, the werewolves quickly surrounded her from all sides, leaving her no way to escape. With that, the brutes started attacking the girl, and like always, instead of doing any actual damage to the person, their attacks only tore off all the fabric that was covering the girl's body. Next chapter, and the woman was seen inside a bubble of energy as she was gently carried away to safety. And no, it wasn't the guy who just sent her in battle without any planning, but our hero who stepped in after seeing that the beauty was in danger, and after confirming the woman was safe, he turned towards the man and with that mocking tone reminded him if he didn't treat his women with respect, someone else might steal her away from him, and asked if his royal ass would be able to handle that. The guy wasn't happy being looked down upon by a mere commoner, so he called out to his women, and the woman realized she might get punished for something she never did if she got too close to this guy, so she whispered to the kid to mind his own business from here on, and don't try to get in her way. Walking up to the fool, she heard the man asking, since when did his divine pet start seeking help from outsiders? He reminded the woman of her training and how she was meant to endure whatever came her way, and told her this was her last chance, because next time she would not be getting a second one. Yeah, I had the same expression as those two. I mean, what kind of training was that fool putting her through to make her react like that just from hearing the words, endure whatever came her way? Well, at least he earned some points in the bunny girl's eyes, because even though he was a complete lecher, at least he was not as depraved and messed up as that guy who treats his women like a weapon, and for some reason that compliment felt more like an insult than praise. Just then, in the middle of their bickering, they heard a new voice cutting through the air, so they turned around and spotted a new character walking in through the army of wolfmen. And for some reason, this tiny-looking girl was ordering all these hulking beasts like she was their boss. Well, turns out she was, and this shorty was put in charge of this whole test. And yes, it included crippling some of the participants to weed out the useful ones, so she ordered her men not to hold back. Well, someone was not happy seeing this sight, and it was our little pup who recognized that woman as her older sister. Same went for the crowd, because that woman right there is no ordinary figure. She is the current head of the Dire Wolf clan, and the last person they expected to see in this place, and that got all of them wondering if the Dire Wolf clan had fallen so low that they were now being used as pawns for entertainment. Hearing their words, Pup shouted at Elise, demanding an explanation, and why was she using a clan of warriors of the highest merit in the rookie trials? Because doing something like this was a blow to the pride of their clan. The woman just shrugged it off, telling the girl to shut up. She told Pup not to embarrass herself any further, reminding her that her clan is not what it used to be 100 years ago. As for why she was doing this, it was simply her way of giving her family a chance to show everyone they were not completely useless. And she also made one thing clear, this was not just her idea. The leaders of their great city also agreed with her decision. Cut back to the battlefield where the girl was getting ready to end this little game, and activated her ability called Mirage. And somehow the warriors working under her began multiplying, and before they knew it, they were standing before a literally small army of powerful beastmen. Weston, thinking this was just an illusion, prepared to put those appendages to good use and take out all the fake ones so the others could focus on the real threat. But Zetsa shouted for him to stay down and not run in there without thinking. Turns out those were no mere illusions. That woman had the power to create clones using the energy of those warriors. To put it simply, she divided their power into fragments to create those doubles, meaning all those warriors were now formidable foes, carrying the strength and experience of the originals, something they can't win against if they acted recklessly. So he suggested they work together and coordinate their attacks to slowly chip away at their numbers. And that little moment of leadership paid off, earning him 4 lights and securing him a rank A in the test. Well, anyway, he instructed the 3 to work together and take out the incoming enemies, while he focuses on the woman responsible for creating those clones. As for the rest, yeah, he didn't even get a chance to finish that line as something flew past him at jaw-dropping speeds. Well, turns out it was our hero who was flying straight at that small army of werewolves, and the reason was simple. It was an all-you-can-eat buffet of experience here, all thanks to that tiny girl. And since this was the perfect chance for him to level up, he started summoning water, and with one swing of his hand, a surge of experience points came flooding in his way. That sudden surge of power shocked even Elise's, because that was the last thing she expected to see from that kid, and that had her terrified. Not just because he was able to take down so many of their warriors with a single attack, but because the way he was fighting reminded her of someone. Blondie also noticed it, and it made no sense to her as to how this could be possible. Cut back to our boy who was all fired up and ready to solo all incoming enemies. And then boom, like a flash, he carved his way through the whole army, taking down anyone who stood in his path and made his way to the one controlling them. And at that moment, watching him use that move, the Saintess saw the image of her own master in that kid, and that sight brought tears to her eyes as all those memories came rushing back. As for the wolfmen, all of them were seen plummeting back to the ground with all their clones destroyed, and that sight terrified the pup because their clan was already on the decline and struggling to maintain its reputation as a warrior clan. And with so many of their members taken out, she was sure this would only push them closer to ruin. But her sister, on the other hand, wasn't planning on giving up so easily, so she immediately used her ice magic to create a barrier around her to block the kid's strike, and unlike her sister, she wasn't a fool, which was why she asked our hero to stop, because she wanted to know why didn't he take out all those men for experience even when he had the chance to do so. Well, it turns out it was because they were from a clan connected to one of his friends, and he did not want to see her sad face the next time they met. And what he said next made the poor pup's emotions spiral out of control as she heard the kid pointing out how she may be a foul-mouthed brat, but she is still pretty cute. So even though he wants to win this thing, he won't do anything that would make her sad. Those words surprised the woman since she never expected her sister would find someone who cares for her this much. And then boom, she hit our hero with a powerful energy blast to push him back a little. And with him out of her face, she slipped into her older sister mode and began questioning the kid, and her first question was, what does he like about her? Before the kid could get a chance to answer, she began pointing out all the flaws about Pup, how she had an average face, and more importantly, she was flat as a board, lacking curves in all the right places. Something anyone would hardly call beautiful. But then in the middle of speaking, she noticed something about the kid, so she began leaning in closer, and sure enough, she saw that her sister even shared her skill with this man, meaning what he was saying about her earlier wasn't a lie. Both of them are indeed close. As for our hero, he was busy analyzing the girl with that skill, and sure enough, the skills she possessed were on a whole different level compared to Pup, which meant he needed to get closer to her and win her favor somehow in hopes of gaining more power, and definitely not because he did not have enough girls in his squad and needed one more. Yeah, no. Just as he was about to lock in those lips, a hand appeared pushing him back, and it wasn't the girl herself. She was fully locked in and was ready to attack back with her lips at that moment as well. The one who stopped them was our dragon waifu, and after seeing what the guy was planning to do, she wasn't having any of it. Our hero tried defending himself, pointing out he was just using his skills to analyze her strength and all that other nonsense, which the girl wasn't buying. But Greyhead, on the other hand, bought every word of that nonsense. And this one is just as freaky as the other girls, because she immediately started spouting nonsense, claiming he used his sister's name as an excuse to get close to her, and then used his so-called masculine scent to mess with her head, to the point she did not even know what she was doing. Yeah, no, our hero quickly shut that down, telling the woman to stop making things up, because he did none of that, but the girl was completely convinced, even going as far as to say he must have used the same tricks to win over his sister and bewitch the dragon girl using his manly scent. Seeing her man being slandered, the dragon girl stepped up and made it clear she was not bewitched or anything. Surprised, the gray head asked then what she was even doing, sticking around that pathetic-looking man because clearly with her looks she could do much better. Well, the dragon girl agreed with the girl that he was pathetic and lecherous, the kind of guy who would jump at any girl without thinking twice, but he was not all that bad. On top of that, he had promised to feed her delicious meals every day, which, even though he hadn't delivered yet, she was still holding him to it. But that wasn't the only reason she never left this filthy pig for someone else. There was another reason. Noticing her looking at him with those soft eyes, our boy's brain started racing, and he wondered just when his stupid little dragon waifu had become so charming and mature. Yeah, no? Then she opened her mouth and everyone heard her screaming. The reason she never left this man was because she wanted all of his kisses for herself. Our hero's brain froze when he heard her say those words because he was expecting something like she fell for his manly charms or his looks. But that stupid woman ruined such a rare moment with her nonsense. But hey, at least she didn't say she was saving him as an emergency snack or anything. As for the girl, she was telling the women that his kisses are the best in the world, so she wasn't planning on sharing them with anyone. But she did wonder if that would make her selfish if she didn't share him with anyone else. Seeing how stupidly cute this girl was, our hero took her in his arms because she was perfect the way she was and didn't want her to change. Meanwhile, in the back, the whole place was going crazy after seeing both of them finally confessing their true feelings to each other, especially our princess, whose mind was about to blow out of her skull from the sheer emotional overload. As for Pig Girl, after seeing how much he cared for that dragon, She herself decided to drop the idea of hunting him down and forgave him for all the humiliation she had to suffer at his hands. Not just them, their little moment even had an unexpected effect on the green-haired wolf lady, and she found herself staring at her master with those same eyes, wondering if the two of them could ever be like that. In the middle of her thoughts, she noticed the guy turning his eyes toward her, so she quickly looked away. Back with our hero, and turns out that little speech about whatever the two were spouting about didn't affect Greyhead. Instead, she was now fully convinced the guy used some kind of a trick to seduce her little sister, and for that she whipped out a 9mm and began blasting some kind of goo towards the two. Just as our hero thought he had managed to dodge the projectile, the girl did something, and that sludge broke into tiny droplets and began raining down on both of them. Luckily, our hero managed to react on time and pulled up his barrier to save them both. As for that slime, turns out it wasn't just any slime, that thing was acid, which was slowly burning through his shield. Thinking that the woman was distracted, Jaja shouted for his girl to take her down. The girl obeyed and leaped towards the woman. Watching her coming, our hero shouted for her to stop and not get close to them. But instead of listening, the woman activated her three tails form and sped up to take the girl down. And it was just as our hero had feared. The woman turned her attention toward Greenhead, and just as she got in range, boom, she pulled off a trick shot, firing 3 of those slimes at the woman to take her down in one clean move. Seeing the projectiles coming, the woman did stop, and one of those things managed to land on the tip of her tail, and then that pain shot through her body and she began screaming. Seeing her condition, the stupid man shouted for her to retreat immediately. The woman tried, but for some reason, after being hit by that thing, her body refused to move anymore, and by the time she realized she was being paralyzed, more of those acidic blobs were already heading her way. But then, as they were about to hit the girl, multiple swords appeared, stopping all those slime balls before they could get to her. And this surprised Greyhead since she was sure that woman was done for. So she turned to the one responsible and found our hero standing there with 2 beauties in his arms. And don't be thinking he was staring at her butt here, he was just checking her tail that got hit by one of those slimes. His eyes just happened to be pointing at the direction of that round and bouncy part of her body. Meanwhile, Greenhead wasn't able to process the feeling she was experiencing right now, because after seeing him save her once again, her heart wouldn't stop racing and she didn't know why. On top of that, he complimented her tail and called it beautiful, which was something no one had ever said to her before. Turning to the fool, our hero asked how long he was planning on just standing there and staring while his woman risks her own life for him, and told him to stop calling himself some high and mighty tamer if he doesn't even have the guts to fight alongside his divine pet. That seemed to hit a nerve, so the guy instantly vanished, after which he appeared next to his face and demanded he take his slimy fingers off his woman's waist. Our boy obeyed and released his grip on the girl, but not before showing the guy how to treat your women, by asking the girl if she would be okay to fight with that injury on her tail. The girl, all blushing, thanked the kid for his concern and assured him she was fine. To that, our hero covered her up inside his magic bubble and sent her back toward the man. With that out of the way, both couples turned their attention towards their main target, but despite being outnumbered, the woman didn't show any fear. Instead, she was more excited than ever, and the reason was her special eyes, which she could use to detect her opponent's strength, and according to her analysis, none of them had what it takes to stop her with their current strength. Our boy agreed that they weren't enough to stop someone on her level, which was why he had something saved up for just this kind of situation. Surprised, the woman asked what he was talking about, and almost immediately her expression shifted and she began gasping for air as an overwhelming surge of strange sensation rushed through her whole body, and what she was feeling right now was the result of some kind of electricity that was reacting with her curse mark. And that made no sense since she didn't even realize when this guy put her under a binding contract, so she asked the man how he was able to control her body. Well, it turns out the answer was on his fingers, those rings that had the ability to control any beast folk under a contract. Yeah, no, the woman instantly recognized those rings because those things were the same illegal items which that blonde freak used to torment his pets into fighting to the death, and now seeing those items in the hands of this absolute maniac, she knew she was done for. As for the 2 girls, yeah, they themselves were scared seeing an item like that in that kid's hands, since knowing him it was clear as soon as he gets the chance, he might actually use that thing on them as well. But Cowgirl wasn't too against the idea of being controlled by that thing, after seeing how that girl's body was reacting to all that electricity. As for Blondie, she was actually impressed that the kid had thought this far ahead and came prepared. Pup also chimed in, pointing out that compared to that blonde fool, this man is completely maxed out, meaning that the item's effect was also amplified in proportion to his power, which also means even a powerhouse like her sister won't be able to resist him. As all of them were busy discussing about that item, our hero was scanning that woman's body to look for the magic crest, which was the source of her power. But no matter where he looked, he didn't find any sign of it anywhere, and it made no sense because her being affected by this item clearly meant she was connected to someone through that crest. Noticing him ogling the girl's backside, Jurjur asked what he was planning on doing, and our hero, who was fully locked in, straight up shouted for the man to shut up and stay out of his way. Yeah, his little outburst made it clear right then and there that their Lord Zeza had completely hit rock bottom. Back with our hero, who after running his eyes over every inch of her body, he finally realized where that mark could be hidden. So he took the girl in his hands, pulled her in closer to confirm his suspicion, and it was just as he had thought. That thing was branded on her chest, and she was hiding it using her clothes. Oh boy, the moment he did that, the woman reacted instantly because him running his hands there was the last thing she needed right now, with her body all heating up because of her crest. So she did her best to try and fight herself out of his grasp, but her body refused to respond to her commands. Out of nowhere, he reached for her eye for some reason, and that terrified the woman. And just as she was about to break herself free, our boy activated one of his abilities to connect to her directly and find out who was connected to her through this mark. Next chapter, and he was staring at the sky, looking straight at the one behind controlling this woman. And unsurprisingly, it was our Blondie and Elise's. And according to the fool, looking at the two girls from this angle, he could see their double chins, a comment that terrified poor Blondie, while Elise made it clear to the kid that women look better with a little meat on their bodies, and I completely agree with that. Nothing wrong with having a bit of fat on you as long as it's not on your face or stomach. But since Olive wasn't able to see them, she asked the kid why was he yelling into empty space. Our boy told the girl to just wait and watch, and since he had had enough of being used as a toy for their entertainment, he got ready to teach both women a proper lesson for thinking he was someone they could push around. Turning to our dragon girl, he asked her to hand him her horn for a second. The girl obeyed, snapped one of them off, and handed it to our boy. Turns out tormenting that gray head wasn't the only thing he did earlier using those rings. He was also sucking out her power to replenish his own mana, and now he was planning on putting all of that power to good use since he had a very noble goal in mind. Don't know what he did, but whatever that man was doing in there, it was making the whole miniverse glow like a sun. Elise realized that the kid was fusing his own power with that dragon horn to break himself out of that place, something she refused to let happen on her watch, so she began strengthening her hold on the tiny city to keep him contained. Seeing the woman getting closer, our boy decided to show her just what he was made of and began juicing that thing up with even more of his power, and that left the woman stunned, because what that man was doing with that horn wasn't just absorbing its power, he was changing its shape to turn the thing into a sword instead, something that was unheard of before this day. Our hero, on the other hand, wasn't planning on holding back anymore, so in his rage he flew straight at that massive hand while spewing absolute nonsense, which had my jaw hanging the whole time I was reading this part, but I'll try to keep it family friendly. Well, first the woman, seeing that massive thing in his hand, was left stunned because according to her, she had never seen one this big in her entire life. Then came our hero's voice, telling the woman he knows she had never felt the wrath of a man her entire life, and today he was going to show her what happens when you push a man over the edge and give her a taste of his manliness, which was something Elise's never imagined a man would have the nerve to say to her face, and she didn't know why her heart was reacting this way to his words. Back with our hero, who was still shouting nonsense about how she needed to feel this pain once in her life to become a real woman. And then bam, he used that massive sword of his to rip through her giant hand. As soon as that happened, a massive surge of energy began bursting out of the sphere, followed by Elise's screams of pure disbelief, unable to comprehend that a man was able to overpower her with such overwhelming force. Even Blondie was stunned seeing the woman's condition as she plummeted to the ground. Back with Elise, who wasn't able to understand what this new sensation was building inside her body, and strangely it was something she never even felt when she was with Blondie, and that made zero sense. But in the middle of losing herself completely to the feeling, she tried composing herself, telling herself to get a grip on her head since she was the most noble count of this sanctuary and can't allow herself to lose control like this. Yeah, no, she completely lost it, and that alone was enough to scare poor Cassiopeia, but while she was distracted with her, something shot out from behind her, and she felt something smacking against her butt, and not quite sure what just happened, but the woman suddenly lost all strength in her legs and dropped to her knees. Looking to the side, she saw our hero standing there, striking that cool pose for the audience. That was when he turned towards his hand, because just now, when he was breaking himself out of that place, he felt something soft and bouncy brush against his palm, and he wondered what that could be. Even the audience were staring at the whole thing in confusion, since everything happened so fast that their eyes weren't even able to catch anything, and more importantly, they were trying to figure out what happened to the two women for them to be acting like that as soon as that guy appeared in the room. As for Blondie, she knew exactly what had happened and why she had suddenly lost all strength in her legs just now, so she called out to the culprit for daring to humiliate someone like her in public. But our hero had no clue what she was talking about, and that only annoyed the woman even more, so she demanded that he stop playing dumb. Sure enough, as the woman turned to show him his crime, he finally realized what that bouncy thing was that his hand unknowingly smacked, and that gave him an idea. So instead of apologizing to the woman, he straight up denied doing that and suggested that they verify if that really was his handprint before jumping to his punishment. Before the woman could ask how he was planning to do that, his hand was already airborne, and then whack, that absolute idiot did it again, sending the female to straight pleasure hell. As for the audience, yeah, that was the last thing they expected to see from that man. Man, I know this whole story was bananas, but this chapter takes the cake in my opinion, no pun intended. Whatever the artist was on while writing this part must have been something else. Okay, next chapter. And the fool was admitting to the woman that was indeed his handprint and apologized to the girl for leaving his mark there. Just then, he heard a voice from the back, so he turned around, only to see his beautiful dragon girl being thrown out of that mini world, and then bam, she wrapped herself around our hero. And the reason she was acting in such a way was because she wanted to be praised and asked if she was useful to him this time. And our smooth-talking Chad shot back, asking when did he ever call her useless. Following her, the rest of the contestants also began walking out of the place. And the first thing Juju saw after stepping out was Elisa lying on the ground and panting for some reason. So he quickly ran to the woman to check up on her, and the moment she felt a man's disgusting hands around her waist, the woman lost it and shoved the weakling off her body, after which she turned towards the one responsible and admitted she underestimated him, but still she refused to allow a nobody like him to join their divine pet academy. Yeah, no, not like our hero cared about that, so he told the woman to shove that nonsense up her pie hole, because he had no interest in joining anything in this place anyway. But then another voice came from the back, shocking Elise's, as she heard the woman saying they have no other choice because they need that man and must enroll him as a student. And the main reason being that they were bound by restrictions and had to follow rules. Plus, she pointed to the main screen and told the woman to take a look. The moment she said that, the entire arena erupted in screams of disbelief, but our hero still had no clue why all of them were losing their minds over a bunch of lights. Well, turns out he is the first Super S-rank tamer in over 100 years who appeared in their sanctuary. And with that settled, Blondie summoned her magical girl staff, and after doing some magical girl mumbo-jumbo and filling the room with sparkling lights, she declared all of them officially selected and welcomed them into their pristine academy. Olive wasn't exactly against it, after all, not like she had anywhere else to go, but she was curious about her new best friend, and if she was planning on joining as well. The girl answered she doesn't care about the academy, but yes, she will be joining. And the reason was that woman whom she lost to, because she still had a score to settle with her. Just then, Elise heard strange noises coming from the dragon girl, so she looked up to see what was going on, only to find her making a fuss about our hero putting that horn on her head. The reason was simple, she was shy, because she had not let anyone do this to her before, and since our hero kept insisting, she allowed it, but asked him to be gentle since this was her first time. Yeah, not sure if the woman was being jealous or just annoyed at this point. But whatever it was, she lashed out at the two, saying that if they don't want to stay here, then get out of their city, because they were disrespecting their sanctuary with that behavior. Yeah, she is the one to talk about their sanctuaries like it was the purest place in the world. Compared to everything going on inside these walls, what the two of them were doing was nothing. Just then, as they were about to walk out, they saw the same announcer running in to inform Blondie about some feast which they prepared to welcome a Super S-rank tamer. And that feast part instantly caught our dragon waifu's attention. And that wasn't even the best part, because according to the Rat Man, they had specially roasted 99 ostriches for the occasion. Yeah, that was enough to make our girl's mouth water like crazy. But composing herself, she turned to the kid, and surprisingly, she told our hero she was going to follow him even if he decided to leave this place. Even if it meant she would not get to eat that ostrich meat, even if she had to live on bugs for the rest of her life, sleeping on mud and starving until she shriveled up, she won't mind. And of course, she added that it won't matter even if she turned into an ugly, skinny wreck of herself who was starved to death because he was too useless to find a job and support her. Yeah, not sure why, but all those things felt like swords through his pride, and knowing what the girl was actually trying to say, he pinched her cheeks for using such a roundabout way to say he was useless. And since she was being a bad girl, saying all those things about her man, he told the woman he would need to properly punish her later. Yeah, the girl knew she messed up, so she apologized for saying all those harsh things just now. The story cuts to another part of the city, and in one of the rooms was a hungry dragon tearing through one chicken leg after another, and at the rate she was going, she showed no signs of stopping anytime soon. And Cowgirl, feeling threatened that she might take her spot as the healthiest one in the gang, demanded our hero stop that woman immediately. On top of that, she reminded him he said he was going to punish her, and asked what kind of punishment involved letting her clear the entire table. Our hero just casually replied, telling the woman to let her do what she wanted for now, since a person needs energy to be punished. Plus, he doesn't care about spoiling her a little, and the reason was because he doesn't mind having a slightly chubby dragon, since that was actually kind of cute. Just as he said that, he saw a chicken leg being thrown straight at his face, and when he looked at the one responsible, he found the little cat girl offering to feed him with her own hands. Seeing that juicy piece of meat in front of him, the kid didn't know what he was supposed to do, and just as he was about to open his mouth, he saw Long Long chomping down on the poor girl's whole hand, along with the meat she was holding. Yeah, that terrified the kid, but luckily she didn't bite her whole hand off and was complaining about the taste of her hand since that thing smelled like milk and tasted like buttered popcorn. After she was done ruining everything for the poor cat girl, she turned to the kid with that smug look on her face, waiting to be praised, but instead got scolded for bullying that poor cat girl for no reason. Plus, she ate everything, and now he wasn't left with any meat to enjoy. The girl apologized, but she did tell the kid she saved some for him as well, and to the kid's surprise, he saw her hands reaching for his head. Well, turns out, according to the girl, he would need to fish out that portion himself. As for the rest, safe to say they didn't appreciate the view because that was the last thing they needed while they were trying to eat in peace. Apparently, they weren't the only ones in that room, and Elyses wasn't exactly thrilled seeing what she was seeing. And no, it wasn't because of how the two of them were acting, but because those beast girls were allowed to sit in those chairs like humans, unlike the others in the room. Believe it or not, this is so messed up that I actually paused here for a whole minute to try and digest what I was seeing. Okay, the ones with full animal bodies, sure, they cannot exactly sit like humans, that makes sense. But why on earth is that girl on all fours and being treated like an animal as well? And the poor thing was so embarrassed that she wasn't even able to eat. Plus, watching as girls being treated like humans was making her feel inferior, and she wondered what she did wrong to end up being treated this way. As she was pondering her situation, wondering what to do, she suddenly heard her bastard of a man's voice calling out to her, and her heart started racing. Yeah, F this man. Instead of inviting her to sit next to him, he told the woman to start eating because he doesn't want her to collapse during practice due to lack of energy. With no other choice, the girl got ready to follow his orders and knelt down to start eating. That was when she noticed our hero staring at her from the side, and she realized they were looking at her with a mix of pity and concern. That realization hit her hard, and she staggered back to her feet in embarrassment and accidentally spilled all her food. The entire room froze at the sight. As for the man himself, he was not happy either, so he walked up to the two women and apologized for the mess his pet had caused today, and assured them he was going to deal with her properly later. After that, he walked up to the girl to discipline her, and her first punishment was no food for 2 days. By now, the girl was used to that kind of treatment, but for some reason, being treated as less than human in front of that man made her feel embarrassed, and she did not even understand why. Having had enough of their nonsense, our hero finally spoke up, and turning to the woman in charge, he asked if it was true that whoever ranked the highest on the leaderboard was considered the leader of the entire team. Blondie answered yes, and since he is the only Super S-ranked tamer in this room, that would make him the leader. To that, our hero called out to the girl and offered her a chair right next to him, and with her properly seated, he began teaching her how to use human utensils to eat. The girl followed his instructions and took a bite, and the moment she did, she paused, not because of the taste, but because this was the first time in her life she was being treated as more than just a tool by someone, and that made her chest tighten. After a while, they were seen staring at Dragon and Catgirl, busy trying to scratch each other's face with their claws. Even the two girls were enjoying themselves off to the side, watching their shenanigans, and for some reason, Blondie had a feeling that the man before them might change the way all of them thought about their pets. But Pup had something else going through her head, because for some reason, even though that green-haired wolf didn't belong to that man, she could still see the meter over her head slowly rising just by sitting across that guy. Not sure what that meant, but she seemed like she had a bad feeling about what she just witnessed. Cut a couple of minutes, and our hero was saying farewell to the two beauties so they could enjoy some peace and quiet in each other's company. Bunny Girl herself was feeling tired, so she called her cat friend so they could get some rest as well. And since it was clear the girl wanted to spend the night in the same room as the two of them, our hero assured the girl he was going to see her tomorrow and wished her good night. With everyone gone, it was now just them and the pup left in the place, and realizing she was in trouble, the girl tried to slip away from the place, and just as she had feared, our hero called out to her from the back, because if you guys remember it or not, but this girl had promised to provide them with protection from the bunny girl inside this sanctuary, but from everything that happened earlier, it was clear that was never her true intention. She wanted to bring them here because of his dragon waifu and recruit them into this academy. Yeah, the girl knew she was busted, so she apologized to the kid for lying to him back then. But to her surprise, our hero wasn't angry, because after seeing how much she was sacrificing to revive her fallen family, he could tell the girl was desperate. On top of that, he told the girl if she had just asked for his help from the start, he wouldn't have said no. After all, as a hero, he is more than willing to lend his strength to a cute girl such as herself. Yeah, who else bought that crap, because he was just saying all those things to look cool in front of the girl. But one thing he forgot, Pup had a way with words, and she instantly shattered that righteous image he was trying to put on. By opening her mouth as she told the kid he might be unreliable and lecherous, but he was truly a real man. Yeah, to that, our hero could only say she could have left that first part out. Just then, to his shock, the girl suddenly jumped at him and pulled him into a hug, and that surprised the kid. The girl told the kid she heard what he said during that test, how he told her sister they were friends and spared her people even though he could have taken them out, and she was truly grateful for his kindness. That made our hero happy as well, and just as he was about to say something, Dragon Girl jumped in the middle and both of them froze, fearing that the girl was about to rip both of them into shreds, especially Pup, and the girl began apologizing to the girl for hugging her man like that, and assured her it wasn't what it seemed. Yeah, turns out she didn't really need to worry about that. She even gave her permission to hug him as much as she wanted, and this offer was just for her, and want to know why? because her flat chest doesn't make this man's heart go boom boom like how it does when she wraps her arms around him. And just to prove it to her, she gave the kid a hug and his body immediately reacted to the sensation. Yeah, no, that was a blow to Pup's pride as a woman, and she was having none of that. But she also knew she can't do anything against that woman, so she ended up releasing her anger on the door to their room instead. And just as she pushed that thing in, they heard a scream of a person coming from the inside, followed by the sound of something falling. Yeah, the three immediately poked their heads in to see who it was, only to find Flat Chest dropped on the ground and was complaining how they hit her right on her chest and the thing felt swollen now. Yeah, right, swollen. If it wasn't for her pointing it out, our hero would not have even noticed there was anything there. But still, he was curious to know what she was doing in his room and made it clear to the woman he was a knight from a respectable family and won't fall for her small temptations. Yeah, no, the girl screamed at the fool that if he used the word small again, she was going to rip his tongue out. After that little episode, she composed herself and told the kid this was just her punishment, since she failed to defend the city. Ulysses punished her by making her prepare the new students' rooms, so she was just doing her job. Our hero, though, wasn't fooled, and he could tell the woman was clearly enjoying herself being punished in this way. Turns out he was right. Even though she didn't want to at first, the moment she saw this cute maid outfit, she wasn't able to resist putting it on. Our hero agreed she did indeed look really cute in that outfit and helped her back to her feet, but while doing so, he noticed that the girl seemed like she was having a hard time staying on her feet for some reason. That's when he spotted those scars on her hands and he froze. Flat Chest immediately pulled her hand back to try and hide those marks from the kid, but no way our hero was letting go. Turns out her whole body was covered in those bruises, which were caused by those damned rodents during their fight when they were tearing that armor off her body. But the girl refused to explain anything and kept trying to push him away. And while struggling, she suddenly tripped, and both of them went flying back toward a conveniently placed bed right beside them, and then boom, he crashed right onto her. And he didn't just crash, his fat head landed right on her bosom, and she let out a sharp cry from the pain because that thing was already bruised and now it was even more swollen. Our hero quickly pulled himself off her while apologizing, and not sure what he was thinking, but to try and help, he gently blew on the spot to ease the pain. Oh yeah, the pain did indeed fade, and it was replaced by something far more dangerous because the woman completely lost control over herself. But then, in the middle of all that, the kid remembered something, and terrified for his life, he turned towards the dragon standing right behind him and tried explaining himself. Surprisingly, instead of being angry, the girl had her head down as she asked the kid if this was his way of punishing her, since she didn't let him touch her tail earlier. Our hero tried explaining himself, promising the girl it wasn't anything like that, but then that Flat Chest had to open her mouth and she called him shameless for pouncing on a defenseless girl like her right in front of his own woman. Yeah, that was it. Dragon Girl snapped, and as payback, she pushed the kid back on the bed. And after completely immobilizing the guy, she demanded he do the same thing to her that he did to that Flat Chest moments ago. And not just that, this time she was fully ready to go all out with him. Oh boy, this is a really dangerous chapter because the kid indeed went all out with her. And not just her, but both of them. Okay, don't get the wrong idea here. I know it seems like something sus is going on right now, but it's not. I am positive, kinda, maybe. Hell, even I don't know. Because even though he was claiming he was just using his healing magic on the girl's body to get rid of all those scars, the way those two girls were reacting did not really make it seem like it was only healing that was going on. As for why Dragon Girl was in the same bed as them, he was borrowing her magic, since he was mostly out of his own energy to heal the girl's body. And it was working. Slowly but surely it was indeed working. Well, I guess they forgot, but Pup was also in the same room, and the poor thing wasn't sure if she should just turn around and leave or stand here to make sure this man doesn't do anything funny to the two girls while using that healing magic. And before they knew it, both beauties were done and were so exhausted that both of them fell asleep almost immediately. And this was a bummer for the kid since he was also tired. But that Flat Chest took his spot on the bed and now he was forced to sleep on the floor. But he didn't think too much about it. Plus, he needed to take a shower because he was all sweaty after that healing session, so he turned towards Pup asking if she wanted to take one as well. Yeah, no. Knowing him, Pup knew exactly how things would go if she agreed to that offer, and that thought was so overwhelming that the girl didn't even know how to answer the fool, so she just turned around and bolted from the place, leaving the kid confused, since he wasn't inviting her to the same bath. Women have their own section. Well anyway, he ignored that and walked into the place and was left speechless at the sight. Because in front of him was Blue Head acting all weird in the shower, and before him was the Proud Prince, or whatever, and both of them were getting ready for an epic battle to show off their skills. And then this happened. Both lunatics began jumping around like children in the shower. Yeah, no, our hero didn't want to get stuck in the middle of whatever they were doing because he didn't swing that way, so he decided to leave. Thinking he would find some peace and quiet in the other room, he walked in only to hear a familiar voice asking what was he doing here. Turning around, he found Elise's and Simon's standing there, and the woman was sure he came in here knowingly to try and do something funny with them. And since that was the case, Simon shielded her mistress while hissing to the kid not to run his disgusting gaze on her. Yeah, no, this was somehow even worse than the last room he was in, and that face he was making was pissing off both women. Furious, he barged into the beastfolk-only bathroom, and surprisingly, this place was much quieter than the other two baths. Plus, there was some kind of sweet fragrance lingering all around the room. Oh boy. While running his hands inside the water, he accidentally grabbed onto something unexpected. And then he saw a beautiful woman jumping out of the water who was calling him a lecherous man. And that voice, the kid knew exactly who it was. Yup, Greyhead, who wasn't happy that after seducing that dragon and her sister, he slipped into this place knowing she would be alone in here, to try and seduce her as well. Like hell he was. He just tossed the woman back into the water like trash. Furious, she asked what was he doing, and why did he throw her off like that, and the answer was a stupid one. As the kid told the girl, he just saw two massive things that didn't seem like they belonged on her body, so he got startled and lost his grip. Yeah, right, like she was believing that nonsense. But calming herself, she stepped out of the water and putting all her assets on display, she asked the kid if he thought she was going to be as flat-chested as Pup just because they were sisters. That question got our hero curious about something, so he asked what was her problem with Pup. After all, they were supposed to be sisters, but she treated her like an enemy. The girl agreed they were sisters, at least biologically. But to her, Pup was nothing more than a lapdog of the sanctuary. But that wasn't the only reason she despised her. Turns out since their mother used to get around with different men, Pup was her half-sister with a different father, and the only reason she was given the position of high priest in the sanctuary was because of her special abilities. If not for that, she wouldn't even be allowed to step foot inside of this sanctuary. Our hero asked the girl if that was really a reason to hate her own sister just because the two of them had different fathers. Plus, it's not even Pup's fault, it was their mother's actions, so why take it out on her? Well, it turns out she was a pure-blooded child of their family, which makes her superior to someone like Pup. Plus, her powers were far stronger compared to that girl. That answer only made our hero even more furious, because even though Pup was not as strong as her, the abilities she had were still remarkable, but the girl still looked down on her. Just then, she wrapped her tail around our boy's waist, and the reason she was doing this was because she wanted the kid to forget about Pup and the other people of the sanctuary. She wanted him to take his dragon and join her clan instead. That was the last thing he expected to hear coming from her mouth. So he asked what was she trying to say, and the girl just answered, telling our hero that this sanctuary's days were numbered. Cut to some other place where a magical mirror was seen emitting dark energy, as if something was trying to break out from the other side of that surface. Sure enough, there was a whole other realm on the other side of that magical item, with countless souls trapped within that dimension, trying to force their way to the real world. And as that all was happening, a small crack was seen forming on the surface of that item. Just as that happened, the door to the room suddenly swung open with a panicking female running in to stop whatever that was going on. Turns out it was our saintess, who was not happy seeing the sight before her, so in her panic, she bit down on her own finger to draw some blood and use it to cast a spell to seal that thing. But by then, whatever it was on the other side was halfway through breaking itself out. Realizing she was out of time, the girl made a desperate move, and using all her power, she tried sealing off the gate, resulting in a massive explosion going off in the room, launching the woman several meters away. Luckily, Elise's arrived in the room just in time and caught the girl before she could hit her head on the ground. Turns out she somehow managed to seal that thing just enough to keep the blood demon trapped inside the mirror from escaping. But she wasn't sure for how much longer she would be able to keep this up, because she was rapidly losing her power with each passing moment, while the one trapped in that place was only getting stronger. Turns out this was the main reason they needed our hero and his dragon, because the only one capable of defeating that monster was a dragon. In the past, that being had almost destroyed the whole world, and it was a white dragon that used its power to defeat it and seal it away in that other world. And because of that, she begged Elise to set aside her pride and work with that boy for the sake of the sanctuary, because she was the only one who had what it took to train that kid into a warrior strong enough to save all of them. The girl promised she will try, but as she was helping the woman back to her room, both girls failed to notice that a fraction of that entity's consciousness managed to slip out of that crack, and following the scent of power, it made its way straight towards our hero's room, where Long Long was sleeping. And just as it got in range, the thing seeped right into her mind to take control over her body. Well, that's all for today, folks. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up, and if you want to know what happens next, hit the subscribe button. Until next time, take care.